You have just become the leader of the world's top assassin organization, only to be informed by the system that you have crossed over to a world of female abuse novels. Your childhood sweetheart girlfriend abandoned you at her birthday banquet just to console the male lead who had failed at work. What's even more infuriating is that the system requires you to swallow your pride, or else you will definitely be slapped in the face by the male lead. With a smirk, you directly neutered the system. Does the destined main antagonist need to take orders from a female-oriented system? Betrayed by your girlfriend? The next day, her family met with ruin. The fake young master, the moonlight stand-in, all must perish. At this moment, inside the largest bar in the capital, the DJ shouted into the microphone, "Tonight, all expenses are on Prince Chin. Let's wish Prince Chin a happy birthday." Cheers echoed through the venue. Upstairs in a private room, you sat on the sofa, holding a glass of whiskey, squinting as you gazed out the window. Beside you, your friend Bay smoked a cigarette, glanced at the watch on his wrist, and furrowed his brow. What's going on? Wasn't today's event organized by the Lin sisters for your birthday? It's already this late. Where are they? In the novel White Knight, the two sisters from the Lin family, named Lin Yuqing and Lin Yue, grew up with you as childhood friends. They even competed jealously over who would marry you. Today's birthday party was planned by the two sisters months ago, but to your surprise, they disappeared when the time came. You were not pleased with being stood up. The White Knight extinguished the cigarette at his fingertips, then habitually started flipping through his circle of friends. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed, and he was almost scared out of his wits by what he saw on his phone. What's wrong? You leaned on the sofa, gazing at the knight, making him a little flustered. He forced a somewhat awkward smile and said, see for yourself. With a light sigh, he handed you the phone. At the top is a post by Lin Yue on her moments, with a background of a beach and location tagged as a small island abroad. On the beach at night, 3 people are holding hands around a bonfire: Lin Yue, Lin Yuqing, and Fu Yuxuan. Their smiles are bright, with the caption, "Poor little brother, just graduated and can't find a job. Brought him here to relax, hoping Yuxuan will always be happy." There's also a smiling emoji added at the end. Just now you also checked your friend's circle, but this message was not there. Obviously these two have blocked you. By the side, Bai Yi took the phone, angrily dialed Lin Yue's number. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. Bai Yi didn't give up. She made 2 more calls in a row, until the prompt was about to hang up. The call was answered. It was very windy on the other end of the phone, even mixed with the sound of the waves. "Lin Yue, what's going on with you two?" Bai Yi questioned as soon as she spoke. On the other end of the phone, Lin Yue couldn't help but furrow her brows, her voice carrying a hint of displeasure. "Bai Yi, are you questioning me?" Bai Yi suppressed his anger. "Don't you know what day it is today?" Hearing Bai Yi's words, the voice on the other end of the phone stiffened. You, with interest, gestured towards Bai Yi, who understood and handed you the phone. You calmly spoke a few words, and the next moment, the voice on the other end sounded somewhat flustered. "Young Master Chin, my sister and I have an urgent matter, so we couldn't attend your birthday party today. Is your so-called urgent matter accompanying a sponsored student for a date abroad?" You interrupted Lin Yue's voice. Lin Yue, upon hearing the word date, couldn't help but furrow her brows. "How could you think like that?" On the other end of the microphone, another female voice came through. "Yes, Yuxuan has been an orphan since he was young, with very few acquaintances. He just graduated recently and has been having a hard time finding a job. He's quite pitiful being alone, so my sister and I brought him out to relax." "Moj, can you please stop being so petty?" It was the voice of Lin Yue's younger sister, Lin Yuqing. Then, a seemingly fragile voice followed. "Sister Yue, Sister Yuqing, is it because of me that your brother is upset? Why don't you both go back first? I'll be fine on my own." Lin Yue hurriedly reassured. "How could we leave you alone here?" She then turned to you on the other end of the phone with a hint of coldness in her tone. "Can you stop making a fuss? It's just a birthday. We can come back and celebrate with you later." You chuckled, feeling amused, realizing you might have been too accommodating to them. "Lin Yue, it seems like you've grown quite bold, daring to speak to me like this." Sensing your displeasure, Lin Yue seemed about to explain something, but the call was already disconnected. You had no interest in hearing any nonsense. Some things, once done, cannot be undone. The Lin family would also pay the price for the actions of these two sisters. You belong to the Qin family, the wealthiest in the capital, with influence not only in business but also with political ties, dominating both legal and illegal realms. Especially after you took over the family business as an adult, your power reached new heights. On the other hand, the Lin family where Lin Yue and Lin Yuqing belonged was just an ordinary wealthy family, not even considered a top-tier one. In the eyes of true family heirs, They were merely nouveau riche riding the wave of success. The connection between the two families dated back to your childhood when you lived with your grandmother in a villa on the outskirts. Next to the Lin family, due to the good relationship between the younger generation, the two families had some acquaintance. At that time, Grandma also quite liked those two girls and even mentioned that in the future, you should marry one of them. Over the years, because of you, the noble families in the capital have given them some face. Now it seems that they are a bit confused about reality. To be honest, it's just a birthday banquet. It doesn't mean anything. Qin Mo doesn't have any feelings for these two people, so he loves to come. But, you guys obviously advocated for a birthday party, and then you ended up traveling abroad with a green tea man on that day? Who in the circle didn't know that the two Lin sisters were Qin Mo's people? This time, it wasn't just the matter of releasing Qin Mo's pigeon. It was the fact that the Lin family sisters had trampled the Qin family's face on the ground. Do you really think I don't have a temper? Since you don't know what's good for you, it's the end of the line for your Lin family. Chapter 2 Late System Then Dog Building. Throwing the cell phone to White Knight, don't pay any attention to it. Since they want to seek death, I'm naturally going to fulfill them. Qin Mo's expression was flat and he spoke indifferently. Only, there was nothing simple about the meaning of that statement. White Knight is clear that in the future the imperial capital, not even more than just the imperial capital, half of China would no longer have a foothold for the Lin family. It's a stretch, but that's the beauty of power. A Lin family that relied on the Qin family to be able to flaunt its power couldn't distinguish between priorities and dared to refute Qin Mo's face. Then all retribution is to blame. Just as in ancient times, when the emperor was angry, he was killed by millions of corpses. A small caprice of power was enough to send a thuggish family like the Lin family up in smoke. That's right, it's the Lin family sisters' loss if they don't keep their eyes open. Luckily I'm prepared today as well. White Knight also laughed. A clap followed. At once, the door of the closed room was pushed open. There were more than a dozen actresses and models who were quite famous in the outside world lined up to enter the private room. White Knight leaned on the sofa, then gestured in Qin Mo's direction. Today, it's Mr. Qin's birthday. If you accompany him well, you'll be greatly rewarded. The girl's eyes lit up at this statement. The eyes that looked at Qin Mo also softened and even became flirtatious all of a sudden. Mr. Qin, want to drink? I'll personally feed you mouth to mouth. Mr. Qin, let me rub your shoulders. I'll pound my leg. The girls flocked to Qin Mo, and he didn't refuse. He wasn't Willow. With one hand on the other, he enjoyed the girls' feeding. For a while, the booth was so busy. However, right at this moment, a beep suddenly resounded in Qin Mo's mind. Ding, detected that the host is experiencing an abusive plot. Happiness system binding successful. Qin Mo's expression lurched. Instantly, the heart of the female model who was tenderly pinching Qin Mo's shoulders and pounding his legs trembled. Mr. Qin, did it hurt you? It's not in the way. Continue. Qin Mo didn't care and instead indulged his thoughts in his mind. System? It's been 20 years since I traveled through this world. It was the first time he had heard the term system. Qin Mo in his previous life was also a young man who was deeply poisoned by internet writing, so he naturally knew about such things as systems. It's standard issue for travelers. Just after Qin Mo traveled through this world, it was as if he had awakened the buff of enlightenment against all odds. The qi is even stronger to the point of being heavenly. As long as Qin Mo wanted to learn something, he would definitely be able to learn it and stand at the top with ease. He is a master of the piano, chess, calligraphy and painting, as well as the art of writing and martial arts. As long as Qin Mo wanted to do something, he would definitely be able to succeed. As if the heavens were making way for Qin Mo. When he was a child, Qin Mo had guessed that he might have gotten the same cool text template as in the men's text. At least, since childhood Qin Mo's life has been smooth sailing. And now, it was so hard to encounter some setbacks. And it was even said that the matter of the Lin family sisters was not even a setback for Qin Mo. At best, I was just disgusted. He didn't care about the Lin sisters. There were too many women surrounding him since he was a child. It was only that the Lin sisters were very pleasing to Grandma, and that Grandma had once said she would take one of the sisters as her wife. For Qin Mo, it didn't matter who he took. He didn't have a love brain. Since Grandma had said it, Qin Mo didn't object. Therefore, it was just a matter of giving more tolerance to the Lin sisters. But I didn't expect that it would become a stain on Qin Mo. System? What's your use? Qin Mo inquired in his mind. Soon, the system's mechanized reply resounded in Qin Mo's mind. Ding, this system is the happiness system, which, as its name suggests, is designed to reverse the misfortunes of the world today. The world is a synthesized female sadomasochistic world. In a world where too many protagonists are experiencing injustice, suffering and tragedy, this system will automatically detect abusive protagonists and issue missions. As long as the host helps the protagonist to reverse the tragedy and embark on a happy life, he or she will be rewarded with money from the system. In a short time, it can help the host's assets exceed $100 million and go to the peak of life. Chean MO? Assets over $100 million? What a vicious system. Ding, it is detected that the host is currently experiencing an abusive plot, and the green plums cannot resist the heavenly fall, and the task is hereby issued. Option 1, the host immediately leaves the country and goes to the vacation island to propose to the Lin sisters in a high profile, with a true heart, touching the Lin sisters, so that they understand that the host is the one who loves them the most, and ultimately reap the benefits of happiness. Remarks, there is a chance that it will backfire and be distasteful. $10 million in cash reward for completing the mission. Option 2, the host completely cuts off contact with the Lin sisters from today onwards, and in the next month, quietly leaves the country in a bid to escape, thus forcing the Lin sisters to recognize their hearts, and ultimately staging a husband-chasing crematorium, with the host finally agreeing to go on to a happy life. Remarks, this option is bound to work. The Lin sisters are both deeply in love with the host and only need an opportunity to recognize their own hearts. Upon completion of the mission with this option, a reward of $50 million in cash and a set of 3-bedroom apartments in the outskirts of the imperial capital. Please make a choice and move towards a happy life. After reading this series of options, Chean MO only felt his eyes go black. A flash of doubt filled himself. Is it yourself that's wrong? Or is it this dog system that's wrong? What kind of weird options are these? One lick the dog and the other would be a lusty lick the dog? Mean that you are not happy after leaving the Lin sisters? And what's with the Lin sisters? Match? Chean MO was shocked. He never expected that there would actually be such a disgusting option. What's wrong with the system? Even more outrageous, $10 million? And $50 million and a 3-bedroom suburban apartment? Ha! After a moment of silence, Chean MO couldn't help but ask a question that confused him. Say, did you kidnap the wrong person? That little reward of yours. Honestly, my Chean family's dog would have to shake his head at the sight of it, and say, who are you insulting? Host, please don't doubt the professionalism of this system. It's impossible for a bound person to make a mistake. It's just that you shouldn't. Abruptly, the system's voice stopped and was subsequently silent. Chean MO keenly sensed a hint of something wrong. Shouldn't what? Chean MO calmly inquired within his mind. However, this time, the system did not answer Chean Mo's words. Half a dozen times, the mechanical voice sounded. Please make your choice as soon as possible. At the moment, the system has a big head. A really big head. Something's not right. Or, the host it is bound to is not right. The information it had gotten, or the original situation. Chean Mo's family should have gone bankrupt at this time, and then encountered the abusive drama of the Lin sisters. Immediately after that, the system shines through. Helping Chean MO to embark on a happy life and to rise again in the East is the right thing to do. But why? Chean MO was not bankrupt at this time? Even this Chean MO, being strong was a bit too much, right? Growing up, he was first in everything and stood at the pinnacle of countless fields. Nowadays it is even more powerful. 10,000 people. Even the Chi was huge and scary. That's not right. That's not what the script says. Is it? Chapter 3 Go ask your good daughter. Meanwhile, on top of the vacation island, watching Lin Yue hang up the phone, her expression was even a bit atmospheric. Lin Yuqing couldn't help but inquire. Sister, what did brother Mo Side say? Lin Yue's face was a bit ugly. Mo seems to be angry. His tone just now wasn't very good. Bad tone? We're not just accompanying Yuza out for a walk. What's wrong with that? Lin Yuqing said with dissatisfaction. That's right. We are not his Chean Mo's appendages. Is it hard to believe that we can only revolve around him? Lin Yue shook her head and took a deep breath. Sister, I see. Really we used to be just two spoiled Chean Mo, and now a little thing is going to mess with us, and even just yelled at me. Speaking of this, Lin Yue's tone even carried a hint of aggravation. They've all left the country, and it's fine if Chean Mo doesn't care about their safety. Even on some trivial matters of chicken hair, are they so unworthy of Chean Mo's trust? Fu Yuza, who was on the side, stepped forward and revealed a self-condemning expression. I'm sorry, Sister Yue, Sister Yuqing, it's all because of me. Saying that, he couldn't help but lower his head, his eyes red. It's all because I'm useless. I can't find a job, and I want to go abroad for a break, and I don't even have the money, or else I wouldn't have to trouble you two sisters to bring me here. Saying that, he raised his head. Moreover, I was also thinking that the two sisters are so busy working all day long, so it's good to come out and have some fun, but I didn't expect that it would make brother Chean Mo angry. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Fu Yuza is a beneficiary of the Chean family's philanthropy. Luxury families value their reputation, so they do charity events every year. For example, donations to poor areas and financial assistance to students in need. At that time, since the relationship between the Lin family and the Qin family was still relatively good, Qin Mo had many things to do throughout the day. Therefore, the matter of the charitable foundation was handed over to the Lin Yue, Lin Yuqing sisters. It was also at this time that the Lin sisters met Fu Yuze. Fu Yuze also relied on a handful of tea ceremony skills, coaxing the Lin sisters to be very happy. Until today, looking at Fu Yuze's self-condemnation, both sisters were getting a little intolerant. Lin Yue spoke even more gently. This matter has nothing to do with you. It's Mo who was too careful. That's right, Yuze, you don't have to blame yourself. Lin Yuqing also chimed in. But I am indeed very useless. Really sorry for the cultivation of my sisters. I can't even find a job. Fu Yuze sighed deeply. In response, the two sisters looked at each other and seemed to have made some kind of decision. Why don't Yuze come to Qin's group after he goes back in a few days? How about coming to be my secretary? Lin Yue said. Although it was the Qin family's property, due to the good relationship between the two families, after graduation, both sisters entered the Qin group to work in charge of the charity section. Qin's group. Fu Yuze's eyes lit up. As the leading company in the imperial capital, the Qin group scale was definitely an unimaginable existence. Only, Qin's group recruitment is extremely strict. Even the door watchers are graduates of famous universities. It was definitely a pie in the sky for him. An ordinary second degree. To be able to enter the Qin group. Is it really okay for me? Lin Yue undulated Fu Yuze's head, her eyes gentle. Of course. Well, at least I'm a manager in Qin group. Recruiting a secretary is just a matter of recruiting a secretary. Mo won't say anything. But, just, Azumi that's just talking out of breath. Just coax it when we get back. Lin Yue's tone carried certainty, as if she had completely taken hold of Qin Mo in general. The full moon was high in the sky. By the beach, by the campfire, the Lin sisters and Fu Yuze here looked harmonious and calm. But, the Lin family is not having a good night at all. Within the brightly lit villa, the father of Lin Yue and Lin Yuqing, Lin Xiao, was pulled up by a phone call directly from his young daughter-in-law. What? The investors pulled out? Lin Xiao's eyes rounded with incredulity. On the other end of the line was Lin Xiao's secretary, now with a sobbing voice. Yes, boss. And it's not just one. All the investors we have a relationship with just called and said they are pulling out. How is that possible? Lin Xiao didn't believe it. The progress of the project in his hand is already more than half. And if all the investors withdraw their capital, then there will be huge difficulties in terms of funding. And with the flow of money he has in hand today, it's simply not enough to plug such a big hole. One bad one and it could end in bankruptcy. Moreover, hadn't these people chosen to cooperate with themselves in the first place because of the Qin family? Now that the project is halfway over, aren't they afraid that the Qin family will come after them? Although Lin Xiao didn't know much, he was at least someone who had seen a lot. He didn't believe that anyone would dare to touch the Qin family's brow in the territory of the imperial capital. The name of the imperial capital's first family was not blown out of proportion. It can't be. Did you hear wrong? How could they suddenly pull out? Boss, there really isn't any. I heard everything. 6 investors, each with similar words, saying that our project has safety hazards and that we must terminate our cooperation. Copy. Lin Xiao slapped his hand on the desk. Anger vein after anger vein popped out on his entire face. This thing is not right. Someone must be trying to mess with me. Lin Xiao. What does the Qin family side say? Qin Mo is my future son-in-law. It's impossible to watch me being targeted. Lin Xiao yelled at the other end of the phone. The secretary's voice was hesitant. No, didn't reach. Okay, I know. Lin Xiao hung up the phone, anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He flipped through his address book and found Qin Mo's phone number. If he can't get in touch with the secretary's side, then he'll do it himself. Although he couldn't figure out what was going on, only Qin Mo could help him at the moment. Toot toot. The phone beeps kept ringing, but there was no sign of a connection there. Lin Xiao's hands shook as he dialed Qin Mo's number over and over again. Impatiently. Didn't pick up. Is it asleep? Get it. On the other side, in the midst of the wanton revelry, White Knight noticed Qin Mo's cell phone on the desktop blinking. Bro, you phone. White Knight looked toward Qin Mo, who was drinking. Qin Mo looked at it and the corner of his mouth lifted up in a disdainful smile. Lin Xiao's. Lin Xiao? That guy still dares to call. Ha! White Knight also hooked up the corners of his mouth. The Imperial City Circle is that big, and many things are in everyone's eyes. Like father, like daughter. The Lin sisters are so dazzling, and there's no shortage of genes. Relying on the Lin family and the Qin family have some relations. Lin Xiao is also arrogant and domineering outside, raking in a lot of benefits. The wind is not very good. He had even repeatedly declared to the public that he would marry the Qin family in the future as a way to gain a position in high society. If they really became a family, Qin Mo would naturally cover the Lin family, or at least let the Lin family be clothed, fed, and rich for the rest of their lives. But since he didn't know what to do, then don't blame Qin Mo for being ruthless. A dog can tell who's in charge, can't it? Qin Mo picked up his cell phone and chose to connect. On the other side of the phone, Lin Xiao were almost crying out. Xiao Mo, you finally answered the phone. You do not know. Just now I received the news. The gang of investors. Uncle Lin, I know about this matter. Ha, you know? That. Qin Mo didn't bother to talk nonsense and directly opened the door. The investors ran away. That was their own decision. To be honest, I was quite surprised at their sense of smell. My side only just put the word out and they made their choice. Lin Xiao was confused. His tone with apprehension inquired. Xiao Mo, what do you mean you just put words in your mouth? Go ask your two wonderful daughters. Chapter 4, Are you going to destroy the Lin family? On the other side, Lin Xiao stared blankly at the hung-up call, as if the sky had collapsed. Or perhaps his sky did fall. Obviously, everything that had happened to the Lin family nowadays was due to Qin Mo's release. What kind of international joke is this? If the Qin family made a move against the Lin family, would he, a thug, still have a chance to live? Thinking about this, Lin Xiao panicked a little. What the hell happened today? Is it hard to believe that Qin Mo had a conflict with his two daughters? Solely, today's events were not blocked, so it was still easy to investigate. Sitting in the villa annoyed and smoking, Lin Xiao soon learned the whole story. At that moment, Lin Xiao froze. He even suspected something was wrong with his ears. Turning to his assistant, he inquired, So, you mean to say that Yu Wei and Yu Qing both released Xiao Mo's pigeon today? Even accompanied that Fu Yuza on a trip abroad? Yes, boss. After this incident happened, in less than half an hour, all the investors that we have cooperation with have announced their withdrawal. The assistant responded. Bang! Lin Xiao, who hadn't been able to hold back, fiercely slapped his palm on the desktop. Nonsense! What the hell are these two dead girls doing? Lin Xiao burst into a rage. Fu Yuza is a person he also knows. A while ago, the two of them, Lin Yuwei Lin Yuqing, had even brought him back for dinner once. That time, Lin Xiao felt something was wrong, but it didn't bother him too much. After all, for him, it's not even a big deal for a rich guy to bag a gigolo or something. He himself has kept many mistresses outside. Therefore, he also just thought that the two women were just trying to be fresh. But who would have thought that things would actually come to this? These two idiots. They actually offended Qin Mo because of a white boy? Are you out of your mind? Lin Xiao's entire body was shaking with anger, and he pulled out his own cell phone to call his daughter personally. Times were changing, and at one time the Lin family was able to make a fortune, more than anything else, because they ate the dividends of the times. It's just some savings, but as times change, Lin Xiao's old money-making routine is long gone. In addition to the fact that the offspring were also not competitive, the Lin family fell into disrepute. Nowadays, it also relies on the relationship with the Qin family to get a few projects that can make money. For this reason Lin Xiao even pressed his full value. Now that something like this has happened, isn't it killing him? Wouldn't it be nice to climb up the Qin family's ladder and have the whole family in the same position? Had to go to death. It even stomped on the Qin family's face. What a asshole. Lin Xiao clenched his fists in death, waiting for the moment when the communication was picked up. Fortunately, this time the call was quickly answered. The one who answered the phone was Lin Yuqing. Damn girl, I don't care what you're doing. Now, get your ass back in the country right now. Lin Xiao's voice was nonchalant, even mixed with a roar. In response, Lin Yuqing was unimpressed. Dad, don't worry too much. We're just accompanying Yuza out for a walk. What's the fuss? Fussing? Are you going to destroy our Lin family? Lin Xiao's eyes widened in anger. All right, we know about this matter. Brother Mo is just talking in anger. Since I was little, Brother Mo has always spoiled me, so you shouldn't take it to heart. After my sister and I go back in a few days, we'll be making up a birthday for Brother Mo, and coaxing. Lin Yuqing, Lin Yuwei grew up with Qin Mo, thinking that he knew Qin Mo well enough. After all, Qin Mo would seldom get angry and treat many things with special tolerance. There was absolutely no rich kid stance, especially when it came to treating them, the Lin sisters. Qin Mo's attitude was very different, and they were the only ones who were able to lean on Qin Mo very closely since they were young. As a result, the two sisters were certain that Qin Mo would not fall out with them over this small matter. Wasn't it just a little heartache for Yuzawa's brother? What's there? In saying that, Qin Mo has so many people helping to celebrate his birthday every year, so many people wishing him well. And you take? Orphan since childhood. He could only hide alone in a corner in the dark when he was injured. When comparing the two, naturally Yuza is the one who lacks more care. Lin Yuqing thought that Qin Mo would definitely be able to understand these things as long as she explained them clearly to him. Lin Xiao stared wide-eyed, really not daring to imagine what kind of brain circuit his own daughter is. But the next moment, a male voice came from the other end of the line. It's so soft, it's disgusting to hear. Sister Yuqing, I grilled a barbecue for you. Try it, come on, I'll feed you. Well, Yuza is such a good boy, and his handiwork is good too. Lin Xiao took a deep breath. Lin Yuqing, do you have to piss me off before you'll give up? Now, Lin Yuqing was also a bit impatient. Obviously his own dad, not caring about himself and his sister, even if it's not enough. As soon as he came to point at them, the mud man also has 3 points of fire at. Dad, I just can't figure out why you're accusing me and my sister as soon as you get here. Well then, since you both think we did wrong anyway, there's no need to talk about it. We'll go back and explain this matter to Brother Mo after a few days, so there's no need for you to worry about it. As the words fell, Lin Yuqing hung up the phone without hesitation. No matter how much Lin Xiao dialed, no one answered anymore. It wasn't just Lin Yuqing who was like this. Lin Yuwei was the same. Lin Xiao was really about to go crazy. He couldn't imagine that his 2 daughters could be such idiots. Originally had a heavenly fortune to have a relationship with the Qin family, and even drink the Qin family to climb in-laws in the future. Even Qin Mo's grandmother looked favorably on the marriage. It's already a 10 out of 10 by all accounts. Which knows, at the critical moment, suddenly appeared a Fu Yuza such a thing. If you like white boys, at least come in private. Can't you be quiet and not let anyone find out? How dare you send a friend circle? Do you really think the Qin family is a little cutie? What? No matter what. No matter what. 2 daughters, one married Qin Mo, grasped the money and power. The other in the marriage Fu Yuza also okay by then, he can play as he likes. And anyway, he will have completed the project successfully and made money. So all is happy, isn't it? Lin Xiao's cheeks reddened with anger, and he slammed his cell phone on the sofa. Breathing heavily, he commanded in a hushed voice, Stop Yuqing's card. In addition, send someone to me, go to the vacation island and bring the ladies back to me, and that Fu Yuza piece to me. At least he was someone who had once fought his way out with his bare hands, so naturally he had some tricks up his sleeve. Lin Yuwei and Lin Yuqing must return home as soon as possible and then go apologize to Qin Mo. How much money will be lost if the construction site is shut down for a day? Lin Xiao simply didn't dare to think about it. As for Fu Yuza, it was a pity. If Fu Yuza also had a strong background and also had money and power, it wasn't like he couldn't abandon Qin Mo's side and consider Fu Yuza. But there's no way around it. Who made him just an ordinary person? Also, prepare some fine gifts for me. I'm going to personally pay a visit to the Qin family early tomorrow morning. Chapter 5, You're teaching me how to do things? After a night of partying, Qin Mo returned to his villa accompanied by his driver. He didn't like the life within the courtyard, so he chose to live within the Imperial Dragon Manor. Young master, do you want me to take care of the Lin family sisters matter? Just getting out of the car, the driver following behind him, Long Zhantian, couldn't help but inquire out loud. Long Zhantian, Qin Mo's driver and personal bodyguard. This man's experience is outrageous. If placed in a multitude of urban texts, he should all have a ringer. Dragon King. He was adopted by the Qin family as a dead soldier at a young age, and went through hellish levels of special training, as well as joining the mercenaries, called the Grim Reaper who roams the battlefield. What's more, with the help of the Qin family, he established a security company that spanned several countries and was called the Dragon King, an existence that caused countless enemies to lose their nerve. Although the Qin family had been so kind to him, when Long Zhantian was first asked to return to China to be Qin Mo's personal bodyguard, Long Zhantian still had some complaints. He could go to his death for the Qin family, but was unwilling to have his skills wasted and be reduced to a security officer. Qin Mo deeply knew that there was only one way to convince this type of heaven's pride, that is to crush them with absolute strength. At that time, at the age of 16, Qin Mo traveled abroad alone. A good fight with Long Zhantian. From military literacy, formation, to firearm sniping, close combat, in any aspect, Qin Mo all seemed to be a perfect and flawless existence. With an absolute advantage, he crushed the lifelong proud Long Zhantian. From that day on, there was one less ghostly, terrifying presence on foreign battlefields. As for Qin Mo's side, there was an additional shadow that was inseparable. Long Zhantian's ability to do things was very strong. If such a pervert like Qin Mo didn't exist in this world, he will undoubtedly be the protagonist of this world. Therefore, Long Zhantian was highly trusted by Qin Mo. As for Long Zhantian, Qin Mo was more like an untouchable god. He admired the man from the bottom of his heart. In addition, the Qin family had treated him with great kindness, and from the day he was born, his life had been the Qin family's. Therefore, He will not allow anyone to violate the majesty of the Qin family, even if they are sisters of the Lin family. Therefore, today's matter can't be saved to forget so easily. In his opinion, if he dared to betray the young master, then there was only one end: dead. They are still abroad. I can make them disappear completely without God's knowledge, Long Zhantian whispered. Qin Mo hadn't replied. The system in his head just sat there a bit. A mechanical voice hurriedly resounded in Qin Mo's mind. Host, you can't do this. The Lin family sisters essentially still love you. Besides, it's just a misunderstanding, and only after it's resolved will you be able to go on to a happy life. Pust. Qin Mo didn't hold back a laugh in his head. You're teaching me things? System. The people in the whole world who like me and want to sit in the position of the Qin family's wife. There are 800 if not 1,000, right? Is it hard for me to take care of all of them? But the Lin sisters are the host's heavenly destiny. The system's mechanical voice sounded again. Heaven's mandate? Qin Mo shook his head disdainfully. So what? If I don't follow your options, I'll be punished by heaven? System, this. Qin Mo got tired of hearing it and waved his hand, and in an instant, the system's voice completely disappeared. At this moment, the system was confused. What happened? I've never heard of the system shielding the host only, but how come it's the other way around today? Are you kidding me? Qin Mo lazily ignored this stupid system and began to think about the matter of whether or not to make the Lin sisters disappear silently. After a moment of silence, he waved his hand. There's no rush. Long Zhantian didn't quite understand what Qin Mo meant. It's too cheap to be relieved of just a moment's pain. He looked at Long Zhantian. Death isn't the only way to punish people. Too easy a death. Wouldn't that be too boring? But you can collect some interest first. Qin Mo said calmly. I actually want to see, in a matter of life and death, those two sisters heartbroken. Fu Yuza will choose how. Long Zhantian raised his eyes as if he understood something, and the corner of his mouth raised a bloodthirsty smile. I understand. Young master, go. Qin Mo waved his hand. I'm going to rest. As you wish. Long Zhantian disappeared. He was like a shadowy viper hiding in the shadows, usually following Qin Mo around, human and animal harmless. However, when it came to the critical moment, it was able to silently erase all those who were unfavorable to Qin Mo in this world. After instructing Long Zhantian, Qin Mo returned within the villa. Just as he sat down, his cell phone rang through. The caller, none other than his own grandmother. Growing up, Qin Mo's parents were very busy at work, so she was brought up by her grandmother. Therefore, for his grandmother, Qin Mo was still very affectionate. Hey, Grandma, brat, it's been so long since you've talked to Grandma on the phone. It's like your mom and dad used to be. Qin Mo smiled bitterly. I'm busy. Don't worry, Grandma. I'll go back to see you as soon as I'm free. After reaching adulthood, Qin Mo took over the family's industry and grew rapidly with a terrifying talent, taking control of the absolute power of the Qin family, and he led the Qin family to a higher level, with their power reaching an unprecedented peak. With this result, it is natural that there is less time to take care of the family. In response, Qin Mo also felt a bit guilty. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. You young people are just the age to put it together. You've done a great job. Grandma is proud of you. Grandma's words were tinged with laughter. Originally, I'm an old woman who shouldn't be bothering you at this time, but there's something I want to confirm with you. Grandma wants to talk about it. About the Lin family sisters? Qin Mo guessed Grandma's intention. Xiao Mo, don't get me wrong. I for one, though old, am not an old codger, and know the free love thing that you young people all revere. So if you don't like it, you don't have to take my face into account. I've already heard from the housekeeper about the Lin sisters, and it's something they did wrong. Qin Mo let out a sigh of relief at his words. Originally, this matter Qin Mo was still pondering what to say to the old lady. After all, the old lady could be said to be the person Qin Mo cared about the most in this world, even more so than their own parents. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given the Lin sisters so much favorable treatment in the first place for the old lady's sake. Don't worry, Grandma, I know how to handle this matter. Qin Mo responded. Well, that's good. Little Mo, remember, no matter what decision you make, Grandma will definitely stand by your side. Grandma's kind voice made Qin Mo's expression stretch and raised a smile. All right, Grandma, it's this time of the day. You'd better get some rest. After hanging up the phone, Qin Mo relaxed. Now that the last obstacle is gone, the Lin family, it must be overthrown. However, before that, Qin Mo has to have a good time with this so-called system. Chapter 6. Do you know the gold content of a son of Qi? Lights himself a cigarette and swallows between puffs. Qin Mo released his shielding of the system, to say why this is possible. Qin Mo didn't know. Without a teacher, I guess, during the period of communication with the system, He had already keenly perceived the telepathic connection between the system and himself. With his perceptive nature against all odds, he quickly realized the ways and means of contact, thus easily shielding the system unilaterally. Like a computer, the network may not be under Qin Mo's control, but he also has the option of just shutting it down and breaking it apart hardware-wise. It was not until now, when Qin Mo intended to, that the system was unblocked. Paging. At this moment, Qin Mo clearly heard the system's voice that let out a long breath. The sound effects are still emotionless mechanical sounds though, but Qin Mo was certain that this system was not as simple as a mere program. Host, how did you do it? This can't be right. The system couldn't figure it out, and even said it felt a twinge of fear. This man was nothing like the information it had been given. Even unconsciously, the identity of the system and the host seemed to have swapped over. The relationship between the system and the host. It looks like the system is the host's golden finger, but that's not actually the case. The system releases a task, the host goes to complete it, and then promises a generous reward after completion. Seems like no problem, but looking at it from another angle, isn't this just a proper boss organizing work for his subordinates? The host's status seems to be that of a protagonist, but in reality, it's nothing more than a wage earner working for the system. Some systems will also force the option to be given to the host to choose for themselves, but whatever that option is, it will end up being an option that is favorable to the system. The ones that give rewards and don't penalize are still somewhat conscientious. What's more, if the host fails to complete the task, what awaits the host will be the system's obliteration. But today, the situation is reversed. What this man had done was as outrageous as an employee casually putting his boss in the darkroom. During the time it was blocked, the system was like an open eye. You can't see anything. You can't feel anything in general. Even the system can be scared by this. After all, it's not really an emotionless program. You don't need to pay attention to how I did it. I'm more curious about where you came from. Qin Mo flicked the cigarette ash with his fingertips and calmly inquired. Host, the system is a gift from heaven to give those whose fate is unjust the chance to change their destiny. This is a gift from heaven. Facing Qin Mo's inquiry, the system said righteously. Not going to say? Qin Mo smiled, shaking his head. Then you'll be off for a while. After saying that, Qin Mo didn't give the system a chance to say a second sentence, and once again unilaterally shielded the system. After being free of the system's annoying voice, Qin Mo washed up early and went to bed to rest. It had been a long day of revelry and he was tired. There was no talk all night. It was only after Qin Mo awoke early the next morning that he released the system once again. Are you willing to talk today? Qin Mo continued to inquire. Seemingly thinking of something, Qin Mo said with interest. If you're not going to talk about it, then we'll talk about it next week. Oh yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the reason you bound me and gave the option of having to make peace with the Lin sisters is because it's in your favor, right? After a week, the grass on their graves might be a meter high, and you won't get anything out of it then. Qin Mo's words had just fallen, and the system's mechanical voice sounded once again. Host, please don't push the system too far. This system is the destiny of heaven. Aren't you afraid of heavenly punishment? Fine. Just let the heavens punish me. Qin Mo was not the least bit flustered. Don't you understand the meaning of the Sons of Fortune? From a very young age, Qin Mo realized that he seemed to be out of place in this world. Truly, many things in this world were enough to blow up Qin Mo's three views. And most people in this world can pull off the lovey-dovey bull asterisk no matter what. Totally not a normal person's world. Until the arrival of the system, Qin Mo then realized the reason why life is abnormal everywhere. It's because, in and of itself, this is the world of female abuse. People here have problems with cerebellar development, and Qin Mo didn't think he belonged in the category of female abuse. In accordance with the previous life of many net article experience, himself on the standard male frequency cool article template apparently, the fact that one could appear in this world itself was an accident, and the fact that he himself was able to grow smoothly to this day is proof enough. This world cannot judge Qin Mo. In that case, what was Qin Mo afraid of? If you have the guts, will this dog system really call for a thunderbolt to strike you down? If we could really do it, we wouldn't be here anymore with our mouths agape. And yet it is true, the system is also desperate. It had protested more than once whether it had really tied up the wrong person. The aura on this person was exaggerated beyond words, and the existence of the purple-violet destiny was as exaggerated as that of an ancient human emperor. Man, can't really move him. However, how could the high and mighty system be willing to be at the mercy of a host? Host, it's not a good thing for people to be too wild, even if heaven can't punish you. But big deal, this system can still walk away. I'm quitting, is that okay? Qin Mo smiled at his words. Should I say no? You're really naive. I'm not so sure if you can run or not. but you always have to finish the job, right? You're going to possess the chosen one, right? There may be many sons of destiny in this world, but they are indeed few compared to the total number. And if I wanted to, do you think I couldn't find you? How can you find it? Don't be ridiculous. The system was obviously a little flustered, but Chi Nemo was very confident. It's not hard to find. The system is the existence of helping others to change their destiny against the heavens. I just need to pay attention to who suddenly struck it rich, who suddenly got rich. With the energy of my Qin family, it's very easy to find out. Also, aren't you guys favorite protagonists with surnames like He, Xiao, Han, Su, Fu, Lin? I'll focus on that. Chi Nemo smiled. Do you think I'll let you and your host go when the time comes? The system was silent, but Chi Nemo didn't want to spoil him. No comment, so I'll see you in a week, when I can show you how high the grass is on the Lin sisters' graves. Wait. This time, a hint of anxiety was clearly brought to the mechanical voice. The system didn't know why things had turned out the way they had. The Qin family, which should have gone down the drain in the obvious script, has instead prospered even more. Chi Nemo, who clearly should have been easily taken by it, had in turn threatened it. But no matter what, since he had bound Chi Nemo, there really wasn't any way back. Saying you're going to run is really just posturing. Once the system is bound, it cannot be unbound unless the host lives or dies. This is the underlying rule that cannot be changed. What could the system do with such a terrible host? Heavenly punishment can't be punished. Threats don't work. And inducements. Is it possible to rely on that a mere $50 million and a 3-bedroom apartment in the suburbs to impress the powerful young master of the Qin family? I'll say. Anything you want to know I can say. Chapter 7, He's a monster. Seeing the system go soft, the corner of Qin Mo's mouth hooked into a smile. So tell us where you came from, what you're up to, and what you're really capable of. It's impossible for the system to issue a mission without having something in mind. Compared to the small profits of the rewards, what the system receives after the host completes the mission is the real big headline. Just what exactly was it? Chi Nemo wanted to know. Soon, the electronic tone of the system sounded again. Origin. I'm not sure. The moment I was born I was already selected for the host. My purpose is also very simple. To find people similar to the host such as the protagonist destiny, or supporting role destiny, by changing the fixed track of your life, so as to obtain the chi feedback, so as to grow just. In fact, this kind of thing is beneficial to you and me. You gain happiness and I get the chance to grow, the best of both worlds. Why not? The electronic tone of the system fell, but Chi Nemo shook his head uncharacteristically. Looks like you want to keep compelling me after all. What are you going to do when you grow up? According to your conception, I am nothing but a tool for your growth. And one day when you have grown to your full potential, will there still be room for me? Please don't measure the heart of a gentleman with the heart of a small man. The system seriously corrected. Our system also knows how to be grateful, and since we are attached to the host, we will naturally assist to the end. Oh, come on. These words favor yourselves and you'll get it. Chi Nemo disdained. If I really let these systems grow, I'm afraid I won't end up much better. When the conversation came to this point, Chi Nemo couldn't help but think of the word seizing the body. The world doesn't drop pies from the sky. Why do many people who can't do anything have the ability to leap through the door when they get the system? The system goes to great lengths to help the host without expecting anything in return. And all kinds of skills are brainlessly instilled down. Money is given as much as it takes. How is that possible without what you're trying to do? However, in the face of this question, it was naturally impossible for the system to tell the truth. Chi Nemo didn't care. Anyway, he hadn't intended to give the system a chance to develop. However, after completing the mission, you've gained more than just chi luck, right? What does the host mean? You said you could grant me many rewards, money, real estate, and various abilities, etc. If you're really that strong, why don't you just instill it in me right from the start? After all, only when I'm strong will I be able to fulfill my mission better. Isn't that right? The system froze, then retorted. But aren't you omnipotent in everything? You don't need me to provide any rewards for your abilities. I don't need money yet. Look at you, taking a $15 million to humiliate me. Chi Nemo sighed lightly. System. Maru Spice. What if this host is too vigilant? Can't play with it. I don't think the other system predecessors had any experience with this before. Didn't they say that the hosts are all a bunch of stupid white sweeties who have no one to turn to but to trust the system? Amount. This system does not know how to answer. Let me answer that for you. If I complete the mission, you'll definitely be able to get more than just chi. There are other abilities as well, and these will be used as rewards for you to release new missions afterward. Step by step, the host is lured to take on more tasks to accelerate your growth. Speaking here, Chi Nemo shook his head. System You say you're still playing mind games with me even at this time. It looks like you don't want to have a chance to get ahead in this life. The system had panicked a bit. If you could sweat, you'd be sweating by now. Host, I don't think it's necessary for us to be so clearly separated. After all, from the day I was born, I recognized you as the master. We are one, aren't we? That's a good point. As a matter of fact, you're already a part of me now. Qin Mo rarely retorted. The system finally saw the light of day. Yeah, if you look at it from that aspect, I'm you and you're me, and if we work together, it's a win-win situation. So, wait a minute, what are you doing? In an instant, the mechanical voice of the system became somewhat alarmed. At the same time, ear-piercing sirens began to ring in Qin Mo's ears. Warning, warning, system access compromised. System access compromised. Underlying instructions are being rewritten. Underlying instructions are being rewritten. Host, what are you doing? Stop it. I can help you. I can really help you. You can't do this to me. The system couldn't imagine how exactly Qin Mo had counter-invaded the system's interior. It's just so damn far out of the world. You said that we are one. You are me and I am you. If that's the case, why can't I possess everything about you? Although Qin Mo's voice was smiling, it carried a hint of coldness, cold enough to send chills down your spine. To be honest, I wasn't sure what you really were to know how to get started, but your words reminded me. You and I are one, so in principle we have the same authority. Coupled with my previous experience of shielding you, I roughly mapped out the rules of your operation, thus finding the key point to invade with my will. Like a virus invasion, the system was appalled. It even says, have begun to feel fear. God, what kind of monster is the person it's bound to? The laws and principles of the system can be found simply by virtue of a period of familiarity. This sounds extremely unbelievable, but, as the system said, he is Qin Mo. Qin Mo is also him, and the two are essentially possessors of the same authority. It was also because of this that when the system had truly grown, it was able to take over the host. It's just that the system has always been in a state of omniscience. It only needed a little trickery to coax the host into becoming a toolman for the system to accomplish its tasks. But it didn't expect to meet a monster on this day. A monster whose enlightenment is heavenly and whose chi is also sufficiently heavenly. In a trance, the system even began to doubt whether Qin Mo was in this world or not. Warning, warning, underlying instruction rewritten. Underlying instruction rewritten. Change of system ownership. Change of system ownership. Core name changed. Name of authority beneficiary, happiness system, Qin Mo. Changing. Name of authorized beneficiary, Qin Mo. System change complete. In this instant, the system felt as if it had lost everything. The original plan to seize Qin Mo was completely overturned, and as the executor it turned around and was taken over by Qin Mo, it knew. It was finished. An unimaginable monster has appeared in this world. A monster that should not be in this world. It wants to inform to give attention to other systems. But, permission was completely stripped away, and not even the message could be delivered. Chapter 8 Lin Zhao's Visit. Desperate Lin family. Unspeakable feeling. At this moment, Qin Mo only felt an incomparable relief within himself. The thing about the system is that it's almost like an advanced AI in general. Utilizing the same authority as the system, Qin Mo easily tampered with it all. In other words, nowadays, the system had completely belonged to Qin Mo to use. However, unfortunately, the system's consciousness was essentially one with the system, so Qin Mo was unable to erase the system's consciousness. Otherwise, the system dissipates with it. It's not cost-effective, but the good thing is that the system consciousness is really all that's left of it nowadays. Without access it can't even do anything to mobilize the system. It can only be an instruction manual in general. Host, aren't you really afraid of heaven's wrath if you do this? The system didn't know what words to use to condemn Qin Mo's anymore. Everything has belonged to Qin Mo. What else can it say? What can it do? It's just a condemnation of Qin Mo's behavior, which will be punished by heavenly retribution or something like that. But still, Qin Mo could not be afraid of the heavens of this world at all. I say, it seems like you still can't figure things out. Qin Mo shook his head. If you're so uncooperative, then I'll just have to lock you in a cell for the rest of your life. Qin Mo's words caused the system to undoubtedly shiver. Host, if I were you, I would definitely set my posture right. Qin Mo said calmly. The system stalled, and his tone softened completely. Yeah, it's become someone's prisoner, a single displeasure on the part of others, and it will be buried in darkness for all eternity. It can't imagine how horrible a day like that really was. Master, I understand. You know, I'm keeping you around because you still have a role to play. Be good at being your manual as well as your prompter. Otherwise, you know, The corner of Qin Mo's mouth hooked up, and he certainly did not intend to completely suppress the system with a strong stance. As a superior, Qin Mo was naturally familiar with the principle of grace and mercy. Give a sweet date with a stick to get people to die and follow. The same goes for the system. Of course, if you do a good job, I might consider that I can return this system to you in the future after I'm tired of playing with it, and find you a new heaven's destiny. After you get tired of playing? The system was a bit speechless. What kind of tiger and wolf words were these? However, it has to be said that this may be the only chance the system has. Although Qin Mo's words were unbelievable, but the system had no choice. It had to choose to believe. What else could it do? But if it resisted, it would definitely be put in a small dark room in the next second. And maybe one day Qin Mo really got tired of playing with it and gave it back? I understand. Master. Thank you, Master. Although it was humble, for the sake of a bright future in the future, the system chose to compromise after a lot of heart activity. Without paying any attention, Qin Mo began to study the system's functions. The system had indeed not lied to himself before. This system was truly capable of probing all those who possessed the protagonist's destiny and the supporting character's destiny. This is a probing function that belongs to the system, and after searching for it, you can directly pull up the other person's life script. Simply put, it's the predetermined trajectory of life. Immediately after that, the system will formulate tasks in its own favor based on this life script. However, there is a key point involved. That is that there is a price to pay for changing the course of one's life. Taoist priests throughout the ages have been saying that heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. Otherwise you will be punished by heaven, and even lose your life. And there is this part of the reason. Changing the trajectory of one's life slowly weakens one's qi. The word qi is mysterious, cannot be grasped, cannot be touched, but it is real. However, this thing involved a metaphysical aspect that Qin Mo didn't quite understand. But through this it was clear that if Qin Mo really followed the system's instructions to complete the mission, it would definitely not end well. On top of that, the nature of this system is not really about acquisition, but rather trading. The quests themselves are trading chips, and the systems use the endings they get from publishing the quests as trading chips for the quest target's abilities, qi, aka money, etc. A small portion is then taken as a reward for the task and fed back to the host. Needless to say, this is a series of streaks. It may seem like the system is something that the protagonists use to change their lives against the odds, but the truth is, from the moment they are approached by the system in the beginning, the protagonists, the supporting characters, etc., all become nothing more than pawns of the system. Seeing this, Qin Mo couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. It's true that there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. The more you gain, the more you lose. The system was not silent at this point. Things are what they are. That's the law of survival of the world. And essentially we're just an existence that was born in response to the times. But now it's all yours, Master. How it should be used is also your business. I have no right to ask anymore. You're seeing clearly. Qin Mo shook his head. This time the full power of the system was stolen, and it was only when it was summarized that I realized it. There are only two areas where this system is really useful: snooping and dealing, and these have rightfully become Qin Mo's abilities. Young Master, it's time for breakfast. Outside the door, the maids of the Qin family also knocked on the door at this moment and reminded. Okay, here it comes. After understanding the nature of the system, Qin Mo put it aside for now. Nowadays, one doesn't have any protagonists or anything like that on one side. Therefore there were no experimental subjects. Perhaps he could find one to try afterward. Qin Mo also wanted to see just how powerful the system was. In the meantime, not far from the villa area of the Imperial Dragon Manor, a Maybach was rushing towards this side. In the car sat Lin Xiao and his little petite wife Bai Jie. Lin Xiao's eyes were dark and haggard. Obviously didn't get a good night's sleep all last night. The sense of smell of those investors is too sharp. Qin Mo just put a sentence. Not even an hour. It's time to terminate the contract and divest. There are even some partners who do not want to cooperate with Lin Xiao even if they have to pay for breach of contract. Even the construction site was officially seized this morning. The reason was that there were serious safety hazards at the site, and that an inspection was to start with immediate effect and no one was allowed to enter the site. Lin Xiao was shocked at Qin Mo's energy. It's only been one night and everything seems to have turned upside down. Those officials who are usually high and mighty, who usually dilly-dally and beg to do something for months, for the first time, are so swift. It didn't even give Lin Xiao any time to react. Lin Xiao had also contacted the old friends he had once made, but without exception, none of them dared to answer Lin Xiao's call at this juncture. It was the first time he had experienced the horror of power. Let there be despair. It wasn't like he hadn't thought about contacting Qin Mo's grandmother and letting her persuade Qin Mo. But unfortunately, the other party didn't give a damn about Lin Xiao. That's right. After all, they're just neighbors. Even though in the past, old lady Qin had a favorable opinion of the Lin family sisters, but this time, after the Lin family sisters did such a thing, it was naturally impossible for old lady Qin to be on the side of the Lin family. He had no choice but to prepare a thick gift and personally come to Royal Dragon Manor early in the morning to make amends to Qin Mo. Chapter 9, Who Gave You the Courage? The Lin family's car couldn't enter the Imperial Dragon Manor. There was no other way. Lin Xiao and the two of them, Bai Jia, had to stop in front of the railing. The eyes looked out within the manor. The patrolling security was soon spotted. Lin Xiao hurriedly rang the doorbell. This brother. I'm Lin Xiao, Qin Mo's uncle. Do me a favor and open the door for me, okay? Lin Xiao's shouts also attracted the attention of the security personnel in the manor. The captain at the head was codenamed Mighty Tiger, a good hand personally trained by Long Zhantian. Used to work for Long Zhantian's security company. What is said to be a security company is in fact a mercenary group in sheep's clothing. Most of the Qin family's security is handled directly by their company. Not only is the force high, but the heart is ruthless. At this moment, the corners of Manticore's mouth raised in a disdainful smile. This Lin family isn't what it used to be. In the past, when the Lin family had Qin Mo covering them, Mighty Tiger would naturally respect the Lin family. But now, the Lin family sisters had even taken the initiative to seek death. So the Mighty Tiger didn't have to be respecting any of the Lin family. If Qin Mo hadn't put in his word, they could have made the Lin family completely bizarrely disappear from this world last night. Stepping in front of the gate, the tiger looked Lin Xiao up and down. Then he said in a businesslike manner, Do you have an appointment? Lin Xiao's expression stiffened. Reservation? Then it seems to be no. Then please go back. Young master is very busy, not any cat or dog can see. After saying that, Mighty Tiger turned around and was about to leave. This little brother. Take a closer look at me. I'm Lin Xiao, Xiao Mo's uncle. We've even met before. I didn't need to make an appointment to come to the Qin family before. The tiger laughed and gazed at Lin Xiao with a crooked head. You knew it was before too. Ha! Lin Xiao was a bit groundless for a moment. Instead, it was Bai Jia next to her whose face surfaced with a touch of anger. Bai Jia was not the Lin sisters' biological mother, and she was only in her 30s today. It was Lin Xiao's young lover. And then Bai Jia came to the top after Lin Xiao's original wife died unexpectedly. But she doesn't know anything about company business either, and is purely a trophy. Since marrying Lin Xiao, her status had risen. Especially during her heyday, the wives of the most powerful families in the entire imperial capital would not give her a few moments of respect when they saw her. As a result, the main man was not seen today, not to mention, she was also stopped at the door by a group of lowly security guards. If this spreads out, how can she, Bai Jia, still hang around in the circle of luxury wives? I say you're a mere security guard who dares to stop us. Do you know what we are? Bai Jia couldn't help but break right into a fit of rage. In the future, my daughter will be the master here, and I will be your master's mother-in-law. And you dare to do this to us? At these words, the tigers were stunned. Turning his head to the minions behind himself, he looked as if his ears were broken. In the next moment, the security staff couldn't help but laugh. Po ha 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 ha, did I hear you right? Just someone from her Lin family wants to be the master of this place? That's whimsical. I suggest you go back to your pillows. Daydreaming isn't that good. Ha ha ha, what a laugh. A bunch of uninformed guys. Paige was shaking with anger as she was mocked by the security staff. You guys, dog-eyed things, let's see if I don't tear your mouths apart. With that, Bai Jia reached through the gate and tried to give Mighty Tiger a slap. But the next moment, Bai Jia's palm was directly tackled by the fierce tiger. Mrs. Lin, don't give your face away. What kind of place is this? How can you be so arrogant? As the words fell, a fierce light flashed in the eyes of the manticore. In the next moment, Bai Jia's wrist was directly broken by Mighty Tiger. The intense pain caused Bai Jia's pupils to shrink violently and she cried out hysterically. Lin Xiao's expression was also hard to see. Bai Jia, no matter what, is at least his Lin Xiao's wife, and Qin Mo was the one he had watched grow up, and was considered Qin Mo's elder. As a result, the elders were beaten up by a group of underlings, and even though Lin Xiao had intended to apologize, he still felt angry at the moment. And just then, the commotion on this side also startled within the manor. In Lin Xiao's gaze, Qin Mo appeared at an unknown time. Seeing Qin Mo, Lin Xiao's eyes lit up. Xiao Mo, come and take a look. Your subordinate can't tell the difference between high and low. He even broke my lady's wrist. Manticore also turned back at this time and immediately bowed and apologized. Sorry, young master. This woman is messing around here and I can't watch so. Qin Mo raised his hand to stop Manticore's words, then took a step to the gate. Open the door, Qin Mo said. Manticore and his men rushed to open the gate. Outside the door, Lin Xiao, assisted by Jia with a smug smile raised on his face. Bai Jia, in particular, stared ferociously at the tiger as if she wanted to eat it. Then looking at Qin Mo, although she was already in her 30s, Bai Jia was well wrapped up. Her skin and everything didn't look much different from her 20s, and, because of her age, exudes a mature woman smell. Especially the expression at this moment, with tears in her eyes, was pitiful. Xiao Mo, look at your family's subordinates. They even dared to hit me. They really ate the bear's heart and leopard's gall. You open them, staring viciously at Manticore, and make this unknowing guy pay me compensation, the kind that starts at $1 million. However, the Manticore didn't pay any attention to her and just bowed its head at Qin Mo. Qin Mo, on the other hand, just smiled slightly, then hooked his hand towards the back. In a calm tone, this person has a brain problem. Teach her how to talk in the future. Manticore's eyes lit up when he heard that. The corner of his mouth lifted into a sardonic smile. Don't worry, young master. With that, he commanded his men to forcefully drag Bai Jia away. What are you doing? What are you guys doing? Bai Jia panicked and couldn't help but back away, toward Lin Xiao's arms. But what strength Manticore and the others had! It was like picking up a small chicken. Directly picking it up, Lin Xiao still wanted to block, but after meeting the sight of the fierce tiger, the whole person inexplicably shivered and shrunk his neck, not daring to speak at all, allowing Bai Jia to be dragged aside, followed by a slap, falling frantically on Bai Jia's face. The small white face swelled up all of a sudden, even with a little blood mixed in the corner of her mouth. But this did not make Manticore and the others stop in the slightest. Lin Xiao couldn't bear to look at it, but instead landed his gaze on Qin Mo's body, wanting to open his mouth to plead for mercy. Only, Qin Mo still maintained a calm smile. It's weirdly tiring to stand here. Isn't Uncle Lin looking for me for something? Come over and say it. Yes. From start to finish, Qin Mo didn't even look at Bai Jia. The sassy smile still remained on his face. If it wasn't for Bai Jia's screams on the side that were constantly ringing out, Lin Xiao even thought that Qin Mo was an amiable and flamboyant young man. The estate was large and built with an open-air gazebo. Qin Mo arrived and casually sat down. The waiting subordinates hurriedly brought the breakfast that they had just not had time to eat. Uncle Lin came here early in the morning. Is there something to say? Oh, right. Today's breakfast. Didn't prepare Uncle Lin's share. Do you mind? Qin Mo looked at Lin Xiao with a smile, listening to Bai Jia's miserable screams coming from her ears. After associating it with Qin Mo's smile at this moment, Lin Xiao only felt an inexplicable cold shiver sweeping up from the soles of his feet and going straight to the sky. This Qin Mo is much more ruthless than imagined. Sitting down fearfully, Lin Xiao took a deep breath and summoned up the courage to say, Xiao Mo, I know all about Yu Wei and Yu Qing. This matter is indeed the fault of these two unfilial daughters. I have already ordered them to return to the country. When they return, I will teach them a good lesson. They're young too, so forgive them for once. Qin Mo sipped the milk with an expression of disinterest, and after putting down the cup, he calmly said, Uncle Lin is not saying anything. I don't have anything to do with the $2,000, so how can I talk about words of forgiveness? Lin Zhao's expression stiffened. Xiao Moa, don't say angry words. You grew up with Yu Wei and Yu Qing. So many years of love. Others don't understand them. Don't you still understand them? Those two girls, they do like you. Oh, I should be grateful? Qin Mo's gaze went cold. Lin Zhao's body trembled and he hastily waved his hand. I don't mean that. Some words it. I might as well make it clear. The Lin family sisters are dispensable to me. It's just that I didn't expect that you guys really barred me. Someone from Qin, and took my Qin family as an ingrate? While enjoying the convenience brought by my Qin family, he is doing things that tarnish the reputation of my Qin person. As a matter of fact, I'd like to ask, who gave you guys the courage? Fish Liang? Qin Mo stood up, his palm lightly patting Lin Zhao's big face as he leaned forward, his gaze locking with Lin Zhao's. Don't forget, I can give you everything you have now, and I can take it all away. There are things that are done, and there is a price to pay. And besides, the corner of his mouth lifted up in a disdainful arc. This level can only be considered business competition at best. You don't have that big of a face to make me specialize in dealing with you guys. Be well, there's more to come. Chapter 10. Let the Lin sisters pay some interest first. As a matter of fact, so far, Qin Mo really hadn't taken the initiative to make a move against the Lin family. Everything nowadays was just a casual remark last night that there was no need for the Lin family to exist. At Qin Mo's position, many times, a single sentence was enough to determine a person's life or death. That's the beauty of entitlement. With a casual swing of its body, the tiger was able to easily crush a mole cricket. Seemingly bored, Qin Mo frowned. Waving his hand, he said, all right, come here early in the morning and cry your eyes out. It's not a good mood to watch. Throw them out. After putting down these words, Qin Mo turned around and left. In place, Lin Xiao stared blankly at Qin Mo's departing back, clenched his teeth and trembled all over. He really couldn't figure out why Qin Mo was able to do something so decisive, not even giving his Lin family a single chance. Xiao Mo, Xiao Mo, you are the one I watched grow up. He still wanted to be saying something, but the Qin family's bodyguards had already come up. He directly framed him, along with Bai Jia, whose mouth was all smacked askew on the side, and walked towards the outside of the manor. Let go of me! Let go of me! Qin Mo, do you still have me as an elder in your eyes? Damn it! Get off me! Oh! Aside! Bai Jia lost a few of her teeth, and her swollen mouth could only emit a thin whimpering sound, but to no avail. The two were thrown out of the Imperial Dragon Villa together. Looking at the duo rolling on the ground, Manticore spat disdainfully. Then he planned to turn around and leave. Lin Xiao really started to panic at this point and rushed forward, but was again stopped by the bodyguard. He had no choice but to yell at Qin Mo's faraway direction. Qin Mo, you can't do this to me. If you're like this, you won't be able to be with my daughter for the rest of your life. Put. It wasn't just Qin Mo. Now the yard full of bodyguards laughed. I really don't get it. Are your two daughters made of gold? Don't you find it funny to say such words? Mighty Tiger shook his head, only feeling that the Lin family was sick in the head. Even a bouncer could see that. Over the years, although the Lin family sisters had gotten very close to Qin Mo, but basically, it was the Lin sisters who took the initiative to come up. When Qin Mo went to school, it was the Lin sisters who delivered loving meals to Qin Mo every day. Qin Mo was released from school. It was the Lin sisters who waited for Qin Mo at the school gate every day. When Qin Mo was injured, it was also the Lin family sisters who had the cheek to come over and shush him. How did it come to the eyes of the Lin family, but in turn became Qin Mo does not want to give up the Lin sisters? Qin Mo in the distance was also helpless. Sure enough, the system honestly doesn't deceive me. This world is indeed a female-focused sadistic synthesized world. Otherwise, normal people wouldn't have such strange brain circuits. Get rid of it, get rid of it. It's disturbing me in the morning. Speaking here, Qin Mo paused. By the way, next time, don't let unrelated people disturb my pleasure. Yes, young master, have you two heard me clearly? Please return, and don't come next time, or I don't mind letting you come in vertically and go out horizontally. Lin Xiao was pushed away by the bodyguard, and his face even thought anger rippled up vein after vein. For so many years, this was the first time he had ever experienced such humiliation. Fists clenched in death, he wanted to violently beat the damn bodyguard in front of him, but the thought of a company on the verge of bankruptcy, the glory that was about to fly away, Lin Xiao then couldn't help but take a deep breath. He knew that he couldn't fall out with Qin Mo. Even though things have come to this, it's not without a twist. In his opinion, the current amount of Qin Mo was merely still on top of his temper. The source of this matter, at its root, is still his own two daughters. As long as the two daughters are brought over, personally apologize to Qin Mo, and even, the big deal is that both daughters are sent to Qin Mo within the Royal Dragon Manor. He couldn't believe that Qin Mo wouldn't be soft-hearted. After all, these kids have been bonding for 10 years or so. His eyes looked within the manor. Xiao Mo, I know you're still angry. Since you don't want to talk about it today, I'll come back another day. Mighty Tiger laughed. Then go ahead and try it and see if our brothers are still sharp. Lin Xiao inexplicably shivered and no longer dared to stay here. Turning around, he quickly left with a piggish page. Within the villa, Qin Mo sipped his morning tea and listened to the system in his head shelving that beep. Nowadays, the system has lost all access though, but it doesn't seem to be a master of leisure. With nothing to do it could only gabble in Qin Mo's mind. As for Qin Mo, listening to this guy's nonsense once in a while was also a good way to kill time. Say, Master, aren't you really going to carry out a little mission? Although it is said that the system's authority is all in your hands, and you can do it if you want to, or not if you don't want to. However, the tasks given out before were indeed considered. The Lin sisters do have something relatively good on them. Oh, what? Qin Mo asked suspiciously. The system has a probing function, so as long as it's a protagonist or a supporting character, you can view all the information about the other person at a glance. It even includes some very metaphysical stuff. Soul, chi, lifespan, skills possessed, etc. Only, after seizing the system, Qin Mo did not meet the Lin family sisters naturally. He was also not sure what there was in the Lin family sisters that could make the previous happiness system look at them. First of all, what about the first one? It's chi luck. Speaking here, the system paused. But it's nothing to a monster like you with unbelievable luck. And secondly, longevity. Qin Mo raised an eyebrow. Lifespan? Yes. According to the results of the exploration, if there are no accidents, The Lin sisters are both capable of living a long life. It's really a scourge that will last for 1,000 years. Qin Emo shook his head. Master, what has to be admitted is that there is no one in this world who doesn't want to live a few more years, isn't there? Indeed. I have to say that the longevity thing is indeed tempting, either for your own use or for someone else. It is important to realize that any ability gained by the system can be given to others, either through a reward or a trade. So, I suggest that it's better for the master to do the mission. There's no middleman to make a difference, and you'll probably be able to get 10 years of life if you complete the mission. The system's mechanical voice said. The present-day system is sort of resigned to its fate. Qin Emo was a monster. He couldn't fight himself, so he might as well do his best to assist. It was still counting on Qin Emo to return it to it in the future when he got tired of playing with the system. 10 years? There's no need. However, in response, Qin Emo shook his head. What do you mean? Master doesn't see this 10-year lifespan? The system's mechanical voice carried a hint of doubt. What I mean is that I don't have to do the stupid lack of tasks you set down. If I want it, I can just take it. Qin Emo said in a calm tone. Master, you now have ownership of the system. You should know that everything in this world has a value. The essence of the system is equivalent exchange. How could you possibly get the 10 years of life of the Lin family sisters directly without giving them something of equal value? Qin Emo pulled out his cell phone and saw a message on the message bar. The message was from Long Zhantian. He's reached the vicinity of the resort island. Previously, Qin Emo had said that he would let the Lin sisters pay a little bit of interest first. Thus, Long Zhantian left the country overnight. He's reporting the progress of the mission to Qin Emo right now. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, and Qin Emo knew that a good show was about to begin. You won't have to worry about that. I have my ways. Saying that, Qin Emo replied in the message bar. Remember, videotape the whole thing. Chapter 11 Unwelcome Visitors. Early this morning, Lin Yue as well as Lin Yuqing realized that things were not right. It was only when she was eating breakfast in the morning that Lin Yue realized that her card was no longer working. It was a black card given to her by Qin Emo when he took over the family business. This action also made Lin Yue realize that Qin Emo might be really angry. Otherwise there's no way her card would have been suspended. However, although she knew that Qin Emo was angry, Lin Yue still felt that this matter was that Qin Emo was too petty. She had no choice but to take out the card her own father had given her. But to her horror, she realizes that not only Qin Emo, but even her own father, has forcibly stopped all her credit cards. Even his younger sister, Lin Yuqing, was the same. Overnight, the two were directly reduced to poverty, and even, the last breakfast money was still paid by Fu Yuze. During this period of time, Fu Yuze didn't take money from the two sisters wherever they were, so there's still a little money of its own, but prices are high on a resort island, and a breakfast that translates into thousands of dollars. As a result, Fu Yuze paid with a lot of flesh. Lin Yue thought that Fu Yuze came from a poor background and was shocked by the high prices. Gently stroking Fu Yuze's head, he promised, "Don't worry, I'll call my dad later to get the money, and I'll pay you back tenfold then." Fu Yuze's eyes flashed with excitement, but he still pretended to be understanding. "It's fine, my sisters have already helped me a lot. It's my honor to have the opportunity to help my sister. Alas, if only IMO was as sensible as you." Looking at her understanding younger brother in front of her, Lin Yue couldn't help but compare the two inwardly. Secretly, he sighed. After returning to her room, Lin Yue first wanted to call Qin Emo to question why he had stopped her card. His own father was of the older generation, too old to keep up with the young minds. But can't Qin Emo appear, understand himself? She and her sister were merely thinking of bringing Fu Yuze out for a break because they felt sorry for what he was going through. It's not like I'm in love with Fuse. Qin Emo had at least grown up with himself and his sister, so why didn't he understand? But unfortunately, Qin Emo was too lazy to listen to any of this woman's nonsense and had already pulled the plug on her long ago. She'd thought about it, too, looking for her former hoity-toity friends. Who in this circle isn't rich and famous? The pocket money alone is a figure that others can't afford in a lifetime. With a little bit of succor, Lin Yue's few people could still live a human life. But, I'm sorry, Yue, I can't help you with this matter. You know I've been investing in a club recently, and I don't have any spare money in my hands. It's Yue? That. I have a bad signal here. I'll get back to you later. Yue, I've recently taken a fancy to a little puppy. The money is all wrapped up in the little puppy to go. Where is there any money left? Several in a row were similar, using a variety of excuses to put them off. There were even some that, the moment they saw that the caller was a member of the Lin family, didn't even bother to pick up the connection and hung up directly. This made Lin Yue somewhat incredulous. You know, in normal times, these people can only lick their faces and come up. How dare you be so perfunctory today? You're always the best of friends, but when things go wrong, you want to get out of the way, right? Lin Yue was angry, but the truth is, the circle of the gentry is that big, except for the Lin sisters who are far away. Who in the entire imperial capital doesn't know that Qin Mo has let the cat out of the bag? Everyone was a businessman and knew that profit was important. There wouldn't be that ungrateful one who would offend Qin Mo for the sake of a regional Lin family. Sis, several good sisters on my side are the same. They can't be contacted at all. Lin Yuqing on the side also put down her cell phone in despair. All the cards were out of commission and they didn't even have cash on them. After failing to get the money, they'll be swept out of the hotel tonight. How about contacting Dad? We are at least Dad's daughters. It's impossible for him to ignore us? In response, Lin Yue was a bit hesitant. It was only yesterday that he and Lin Xiao didn't have a good time, and today he's calling. Wouldn't that prove her Lin Yue wrong? Seemingly seeing her sister's concern, Lin Yuqing said, "Forget it, I'll do it. Dad loves me very much. If I pout, Dad will definitely soften his heart." Soon after, Lin Yuqing dialed Lin Zhao's phone. Lin Yuqing, who was just about to be pampered and cute, stopped hard at the end of her words. On the other end of the phone, there was a furious spray of splitting hairs. Lin Zhao's tone was so hateful that he wanted to tear Lin Yuqing alive. It was also true that nowadays, Lin Xiao had just suffered a strange humiliation in the Qin family. Although the ruthlessness towards Qin Mo was monstrous in his heart, but the reason for this is that these two asshole daughters are the cause of the problem. How could Lin Xiao not be angry? You still dare to call me? Do you know that because of you two sisters, our Lin family is about to face extinction? Bastard! I don't care what you're doing right now. What you're doing, take your sister and fly back to me immediately. Or, I won't have you two daughters. The butler has arrived at the vacation island. Follow him back. Hear me. On the other end of the phone, Lin Xiao was furious. After putting down a harsh sentence, he immediately hung up the phone. Last night, Lin Xiao had already sent someone to capture Lin Yuqing and Lin Yue along with Fu Yuza, the soft rice man, and counting the time, he had already arrived now. Thus, Lin Xiao wasn't worried that they wouldn't be able to come back after breaking the two's cards. And the other side, Lin Yuqing's expression was stiff and her eyes were red and swollen. This was the first time she had been scolded so angrily by Lin Xiao, and she felt 100 grievances inside. What's wrong? What did Dad say? Lin Yue inquired suspiciously. Daddy yelled at me. Lin Yuqing gritted her teeth. And that the butler has come to the vacation island himself just to take us back. What? Lin Yue felt incredulous. Just this little thing. Is that all these people need? She really couldn't understand. Could it be that in the eyes of his own family, in the eyes of Qin Mo, he and his sister were so untrustworthy, and even called for someone to come and take himself and others back? Sister, what are we going to do? Should we go back? Lin Yuqing was relatively young. The first time she was scolded so miserably, her entire brain was dizzy, completely not knowing what to do. But, Yuza's side. Lin Yue hesitated. But just then, the doorbell to the room was rung. Is it Yuza? Or Uncle Butler? The sisters looked at each other. Fu Yuza's room was next door, and when he was resting at the hotel, Fu Yuza would often come over to visit. It should be Yuza. Lin Yuqing went forward and opened the door. However, the moment the door was opened, the person outside was clearly out of Lin Yuqing's expectation. It's not Fu Yujie, or the Lin family's housekeeper. Rather, 4 or 5 complete strangers. Who are you looking for? Did you go the wrong way? Lin Yuqing inquired curiously, but the man at the door didn't say anything more. Only the corners of his mouth raised in an evil smile. Afterwards, with a swift movement, he pulled out a syringe and inserted it into Lin Yuqing's neck. In an instant, Lin Yuqing only felt that the entire world was spinning around. Immediately afterward, he lost consciousness. At the end of her thoughts, she heard her sisters cry, but the next moment, the sisters' cries came to an abrupt end, and it was clear that her sister's fate was no different from her own. Chapter 12. Do all high-end players like to play with people's hearts? Meanwhile, within the next room of the hotel, Fu Yuza had just finished his shower and was standing in front of the mirror looking at his white skin, as well as his delicate features. No matter which way you look at it, it can be called handsome, and there are even a few flavors of Qin Mo. Perhaps that was why Fu Yuza was able to earn the Lin sisters' attention. Because of the slight resemblance to Qin Mo, it attracted the attention of the Lin sisters. Moreover, there was a churlish expression that Qin Mo would never reveal, provoking the Lin sisters' protectiveness. Plus, Qin Mo would never be as clingy to the second daughter as Fu Yuza was. From a certain point of view, the Lin sisters were treating Fu Yujie as a stand-in for Qin Mo. And it's a stand-in that can fulfill their desire for control. Fu Yuza also knew this deeply. He had met Jean Mo and knew that in the hearts of the Lin sisters, he was afraid that he was just a substitute. If that day, Jean Mo had been the licking dog of the Lin family sisters as he was, the Lin family sisters would have chosen Jean Mo without hesitation. At that point, he'll have nothing left. The Lin sisters were the only chance he had to be able to enter high society. It was also the only way he could change his fate, and he wouldn't allow Jean Mo to snatch away the Lin family sisters. Never. So, he made up his mind that he had to make the raw rice before he went back. Otherwise, without this relationship, one is nothing more than a stand-in that can be discarded at any time. So he bought wine and he bought medicine. Tonight, looking at himself in the mirror, Fu Yu's mouth hooked up with an evil smile that had never been shown in front of the Lin sisters. After giving himself a handsome hairstyle, Fu Yu carried the 2 bottles of red wine he had already drugged and arrived outside the door of the Lin sisters' room, only to find, unexpectedly, that the room was unlocked. Is this waiting for me at? The corners of his mouth lifted into a smile as Fu Yu pushed open the door to the room. Where are the people? Surprisingly, there was no sign of the Lin sisters in the room. Sister Yue? Sister Yuqing? The bathroom wasn't there either, and Fu Yu couldn't help but frown. It was only logical that wherever they went, the Lin sisters would take him with them. How is that possible? In the midst of his thoughts, he suddenly noticed the note at the nightstand, pressed to the bottom by the lamp. There is only a short sentence on it. If you want the lives of these 2 women, take $1 million for the following position. Kidnapping? The moment he saw the paper, Fu Yu's brain felt like it had exploded. Unbelievably, he sucked in a breath of cold air. He never expected that kidnapping would exist on this touristy resort island. What's more, it didn't occur to me that the Lin sisters would actually become the target of kidnappers. At this moment, Fu Yu panicked. Even the legs were shaking. He's just a fresh college graduate. Where has he seen this kind of battle? He thought about reporting it to the court immediately now, but the very moment the thought rose, his cell phone rang. The caller was an unfamiliar number. With doubt, Fu Yu chose to connect. Fu Yu, right? On the other end of the line, there was a muffled electronic mix. It's obviously been processed. Who are you? You? How do you know my number? Fu Yu responded dolefully. It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is these 2 women. Fu Yu knew that the other party was talking about the Lin sisters. They gave the number and said you'd save them. So I've come to negotiate with you. $1 million. Mr. Pei should have it, right? Fu Yu just wanted to deny it. The voice on the other end of the phone rang again. Don't try to fool us. You must have. Fu Yu jumped inwardly and couldn't help but shiver. And these kidnappers investigated him? But soon the opposite side gave the reason. These 2 women said that the money transferred to you sporadically during this period of time added up to $1 million or so. We don't ask for much. Just $1 million. Release them immediately when the money is in place. We are also just seeking money. Don't think of reporting to the court. Otherwise I can't guarantee the safety of these 2 women. By the way, for your peace of mind, it's better to hear them. The electronic mix fell silent. Soon, a female voice mixed with crying came out. Yuza, I'm Yuqing Ah. Come save me and my sister. I'm so scared. Yuza, they want $1 million. You definitely have it on you. Save us first. I'll repay you when we get back. This was Lin Yue's voice. To be honest, Fu Yu was originally thinking about whether or not to take this $1 million and just escape from here. $1 million is not a small amount for an ordinary person. As for the Lin sisters, what's he got to do with being dead or not? However, Lin Yue's words just now dispelled this thought. If he really took out his only remaining $1 million to redeem the Lin sisters, he would be able to get much more than $1 million in the future. Maybe as a thank you, you'll have a chance to marry one of the Lin sisters. By then, the Lin family's estate would be his as well. That's worth, how many $1 million must it be? Money moves people's hearts. And wasn't it money that he had approached the Lin sisters so painstakingly for? How can a mere $1 million satisfy one's desires? What he wants is more money. The whole Lin family. Taking a deep breath, Fu Yu then spoke. Sister Yue, Sister Yuqing, don't worry, even if I have to give my life, I will still save you. A word that touched the hearts of the Lin sisters. Okay, now that we have a deal, come over here with the money now. The phone was hung up and Fu Yu clenched his fists in death. He vaguely felt that this kidnapping was not a bad thing, and if it was operated well, it could even be the key to his rise to power. Without any hesitation, Fu Yu rushed off to prepare the cash. And in the meantime, inside a dim, wide, abandoned basement, one of the locals hung up the phone and immediately looked at the Lin sisters who were tied to the seat. The corners of his mouth turned up. Please be patient, ladies. After dropping those words, he turned to leave. After locking the basement door behind him, he bowed toward a yellow-skinned man, said, Boss, It's already been negotiated. The man slowly raised his head, and it was none other than Long Zhantian. He skimmed the other side of the basement door and sighed softly. I also don't know why young master is making this play. Thinking back to earlier, Qin Mo said, they all have to die, but not as quickly, and in Long Zhantian's opinion, there was nothing that killing a whole family couldn't solve. If the Lin sisters had offended the young master, they should just exterminate them and be done with it. As for Fu Yujie, a mud tanker will do the trick. Why go through all this trouble to pull this off? Shaking his head, perhaps this is the difference between young master and I. Do high-end players like to play with people's hearts? Laughing softly, he looked to the locals and said, you guys did a great job though. Go pick up Fu Yuza and bring him here. Yes. The locals nodded and then left with their minions. Chapter 13 I'm a man of my word. Within the Imperial Dragon Manor, Qin Mo sat within a sealed room. The tabletop in front of him was set with red wine, and directly in front of it, there were 4 large screens. At the top of the screen, the recorder is in the abandoned underground warehouse on the vacation island at this very moment, where had already been installed by Long Zhantian long ago. A camera was installed, broadcasting live in all directions for Qin Mo's next good show that was about to go on. Master, I don't get it. What exactly is your purpose in doing this? Is it hard to believe that you want to direct your own drama of a hero rescuing a beautiful woman, and then make the Lin family sisters recognize reality and return to your side? Inside his head, the mechanical voice of the system carried a hint of doubt. Qin Mo's expression stalled. Do I look like a fool to you? System, it doesn't look like it. Qin Mo, then you're the one who's stupid and lacking. I won't use this kind of brainless play. Besides, the Lin family sisters aren't worth it. Then I really can't figure out what your purpose is. Master? Purpose? Qin Mo gently shook the red wine in his glass. Think hard about it. That said, there was no particular purpose. Say retaliation puts. Seriously, the Lin sisters' matter had only disgusted Qin Mo at best. It was like a mosquito bite. Feel free to slap it to death. In other words, if Qin Mo was impatient, he could have made the Lin family sisters disappear that night. So, the reason for this is more out of boredom, I guess. Because of boredom, people find ways to have fun for themselves. After being bitten by a mosquito, you will unconsciously want to torture the mosquito before holding it down. This was roughly the mindset of Qin Mo right now. There was also another point, which was the excess lifespan on the Lin sisters. Qin Mo was not going to carry out the stupid and lacking tasks given by the system, so he had to think of a way to prompt the Lin family sisters to beg for help. He could then use this to trade the excess lifespan in the Lin sisters. Qin Mo had checked himself using the system. This thing called longevity. If there were no surprises, Qin Mo would be able to live until he was about 90 years old. But no one is too old to live. Even if you really can't use it, you can trade it out later for a bigger profit. I have to say, as goofy as this female frequency system is, the core functionality works well. Thinking about it, Qin Mo said, if you really want to say the purpose, boredom, pass the time. Plus, show your brainless system what humanity is. Inside the underground abandoned warehouse, in half an hour's time, movement came from within the empty and quiet warehouse. The Lin sisters who were tied to the chair couldn't help but raise their heads. Sis, it's Yuza. Yuza is here to save us. As expected, the door to come in was opened. The blindfolded Fu Yuza was led by a group of black-clothed men who wore masks that made it impossible to see their real faces. Long Zhantian would not be foolish enough to let Fu Yuza know the true location of this place. Therefore, a transit station was set up at the midway point. Once Fu Yuza arrived at the staging area with the money, he was asked to be blindfolded, and then went through a harsh body collection to make sure that there were no listening devices, as well as tracking, before Fu Yuza was brought here. Removing Fu Yuza's blindfold, the masked Long Zhantian pushed Fu Yuza. No, oh, the man you want is right where you want him. Sister Yue, Sister Yu Qing. Seeing that the two were still in one piece, Fu Yuza breathed a sigh of relief. Yuza, come save me. I'm so scared, shouted Lin Yuqing with a trembling voice. Yuza, thanks to your blessing this time, otherwise we would have. Lin Yue bit her lip, but her heart was full of gratitude. I'm glad I have Fuse by my side. If not, she wouldn't know what to do with herself. Don't worry, sisters, I will definitely bring you out safely. Fu Yuza spread a smile towards the two sisters. He then looked at the masked Long Zhantian. Bosses, I've brought the money. Can the men be released? Long Zhantian shrugged his shoulders. Of course, we are very trustworthy. Underneath the mask, Long Zhantian hooked up a corner of his mouth. Then he signaled his subordinates to go ahead and release them. However, one of the subordinates stopped violently as he walked between the Lin sisters. The Lin sisters stared wide-eyed, not understanding what this group of people really meant. Is it hard to believe that? Is going to backtrack? Boss, who to put? Under the gazes of the crowd, The little brother asked this with a smile. In an instant, Fu Yuza and the Lin sisters' hearts jumped violently. What does this boss mean? Fu Yuza swallowed a mouthful of saliva and cautiously inquired. Long Zhantian's tone remained flat, literally Pick one. Who is better to put these two women? Fu Yuza stared at Long Zhantian incredulously. No, I gave $1 million. Didn't you guys say? Yeah, it said $1 million, but I didn't say $1 million would put two. You guys tricked me? Fu Yuza was furious and grabbed Long Zhantian's collar, but Long Zhantian's feet, they were faster. In an instant, a whip leg was directly drawn out. It smashed into Fu Yuza's neck without mercy. The huge force came, and Fu Yuza only felt that his brain was confused for a moment. Immediately after that, the whole person was like a kite with broken strings, to flying out. It slammed hard on top of the wall, spitting blood from his mouth. Utsoa! Damn it, you guys don't keep your word. The Lin sisters began to panic as they watched the scene, and while their hearts ached for Fu Yuza, who had been kicked away, they began to worry about their own situation. Long Zhantian patted his collar in disgust. What the hell? How dare you make a move? Hooking a hand behind him. Go on, break one of this guy's legs. The dizzy Fu Yuza was scared. It wasn't until now that he recalled that the person standing here was anything but kind. It's not domestic here either. It's offshore. And these guys are a bunch of extremely evil people who lick blood from the tip of a knife. No, I was wrong. This big brother. He wanted to beg for mercy, but Long Zhantian's men didn't care that much, and carrying a thick steel pipe, they arrived in front of Fu Yuja's body. A steel pipe without mercy. In the next moment, Fu Yuza's hysterical screams could be heard throughout the entire underground abandoned warehouse. That tragic situation. Even the Lin sisters couldn't bear to look at it. A few minutes later, looking at Fu Yuza who was limp and covering his right foot, Long Zhantian began to prod. Don't give me a ing waste of time. Hurry up and choose. $1 million, only one can be saved. Don't worry, we're a man of our word. You fart. Lin Yue hissed and growled towards Long Zhantian. That's right, before clearly said that $1 million can release people, but the result is that you, Lin Yuqing also conformed to open the mouth. In response, Long Zhantian shrugged his shoulders. That's right, $1 million is able to release people, just that I didn't say how many can be released. Otherwise, the money is here, and your people are here. I can take the money directly, can't I? With that, he looked at a black backpack beside Fu Yuza. Smiling, he said, so yeah, you guys have me to thank for that. There's no one else in the world as principled as me. Hurry up and choose. You guys don't have much time left. If you don't choose in 3 minutes, then you all don't leave. Looking at the time on his watch, Long Zhantian gave an ultimatum to several people. Chapter 14 I am Qin Mo's fiancé. Long Zhantian's tone was extremely cold. The gaze revealed under the mask was so unforgiving. Just by glancing at Long Zhantian, Fu Yuza felt his body go cold. He knew that it wasn't a joke. There's no room for maneuvering either. He had to choose between Lin Yue and Lin Yuqing today. But who to choose? What choice does he have to make in this situation? Whoever he chose was tantamount to pushing the other one to hell. How dare he make his choice so easily? Not worried about anyone, but whoever he chooses after this is over. His persona has completely collapsed. A bad one. The one who survived will still resent Fu Yuza, thinking that Fu Yuza is the one who sent his sister to her death. He really didn't know what to do with this kind of thing that was unpalatable no matter how he chose it. But if you don't choose, look at this group of robbers. I am afraid that even you can't walk out. For a moment, pressure like a mountain pressed down on Fu Yuza's shoulders. Plus he just got his leg broken. Fu Yuza's entire body couldn't stop trembling. This big brother, I beg you, let two people go. Long Zhantian kicked Fu Yuja out of the way and sneered. There are still 2.5 minutes left. Pick while I have some patience. With that, he walked over and sat down on the couch that was set up on the side. Crossing his legs, he watched the good show with interest. He seemed to somewhat understand why Qin Mo did not approve of the one-and-done method of death. Where's the pain in giving these dogs and men a direct bullet as in the present scene? You assholes, out of your element. You're not human. The rule of two choices was so cruel that Lin Yuqing, who was originally trembling with fear, broke into a fit of rage. Yo, Long Zhantian didn't spoil her. Gesturing to his men, he went up and gave one of them a slap. Pop, pop, snap. Which of Long Zhantian's men was not a renowned existence on the battlefield? Those thick arms were even thicker than the thighs of these two women. When a slap goes down, the lightest thing is dizziness, and the heaviest thing is spitting blood from the mouth, and the cheeks are red and swollen. Lin Yue was confused, opening her red lips wide, a smear of blood hanging at the corner of her mouth. Even Fu Yuza, who was tangled in place until he was shivering, didn't escape and was slapped to the ground, hurriedly burst his head and begged for forgiveness. Big brother, it wasn't me who cursed it's none of my business At this moment, Fu Yuza was on the verge of crying, or rather, he was already sobbing silently. At the end of the day it's just a graduate with some heart. Where have I ever seen such a scene? He didn't dare to look directly at the person who had hit him. He only dared to bury his head, his scarlet eyes staring at Lin Yuqing, who had just cursed angrily, through the gap between his arms. This stupid woman. What time is it? Can't you tell the difference? Their lives were in someone else's hands, and they dared to provoke each other? At the same time, inwardly, he hated the Lin family sisters. If it wasn't for them, why would he be here being beaten like a dog? If he had known that these people would be so words, he simply could not come. Long ago with $1 million far away. Now, $1 million is gone, and so is one of his legs. At this point, there's really no going back. He had to get one out and make enough out of the one he saved. There's still a minute and a half. Long Zhantian kindly reminded. Damn it, who to save? Who do we save to maximize the benefits? Fu Yuza was thinking frantically inside, and at this moment, Lin Yue also understood Fu Yuje's hardship, and at the same time, she also knew that she and the others were in a difficult situation. Gritting his teeth, don't you guys just want money? She spoke suddenly. Long Zhantian raised his gaze to look at Lin Yue suspiciously. I'm the eldest miss of the imperial capital Lin family. As long as you let us few go today, I'll give you $10 million. Dragon warrior Tianyu's men looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Po ha 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 ha. MS. Lin, you see us as cuties. What? Release the people and I still believe you'll give me $10 million? Then give it now. Now. Lin Yue said in a hurry. What are you taking to give? Don't think I don't know that all your cards have been frozen. Long Zhantian sneered and continued. Well, cut the crap. I don't have the heart to play any games with you guys. And anyway, for me, there's more than just this one way to cash in. The two young ladies were born so handsome. Just sell them anywhere. It would be a sought-after item. When these words came out, the hearts of the Lin sisters sank. I had thought that these guys would be at least somewhat rational in their quest for money, but I didn't realize that these guys are just animals. Moreover, with their insights, they certainly knew how much value they could create with their kind of posture. If they are really not sold elsewhere, what awaits them will be more terrible than even hell. The courage that Lin Yuqing had just summoned up was once again crushed in front of this group of vicious and evil people. Unspeakable fear wrapped around her. Only Lin Yue, still clenching her teeth in death, tried to negotiate. She had one last card to play. Do you guys know? Who is the person you kidnapped? Lin Yue stared deathly at Long Zhantian. Oh, looks like the two of you are still big shots? Long Zhantian raised his eyebrows, as if she had seen hope. Lin Yue shouted. Qin Mo. You guys know, right? The Qin family of the Summer Kingdom. The Qin family's industries are spread all over the world. It's the #1 deservedly powerful family in the Summer Kingdom, and we're the fiancés of the Qin family. Aren't you afraid of the Qin family's retaliation if you treat us like this? Long Zhantian and a bunch of his juniors were stunned. He thought that Lin Yue might bring out some backer, or some big shot she knew to exert pressure, but I never thought that it would be Qin Mo. In that instant, Long Zhantian was confused, and after pondering for half a day, he didn't figure it out. Where on earth did this stupid woman from the Lin family get the face to pull the Qin family's banner? Doesn't she realize what Z has done? Seeing Long Zhantian fall into a brief silence, Lin Yue was even more certain that Qin Mo's name worked even on foreign vacation islands. You guys should know just how much energy the Qin family has, right? Lin Yue rode the wave of victory. Lin Yuqing on the side also looked as if she had grabbed a life-saving straw. That's right. If you still don't let us go, Brother Mo won't let you go. Fu Yuza saw that there was a turnaround in the matter. He was also happy and quickly spoke. Yes. I am a student sponsored by the Qin family, and I have a good relationship with the Qin family. All of you big brothers, for the sake of the Qin family, let us go. For a moment, the gazes of the three of them all looked towards Long Zhantian. Even Long Zhantian couldn't help but get up and applaud. He got up, came to Lin Yue's front, bent down and stared at her. The Qin family's fiancé? That's right. Lin Yue didn't wimp out in the slightest, as if speaking out about the Qin family had given her great courage. Very well. Long Zhantian smiled, then signaled his men to bring Lin Yue's cell phone over. It was placed in front of Lin Yue. Then you fight for me now, and if the Qin family is truly willing to make a move, I will release you all immediately. Chapter 15. This is Human Nature. Imperial Dragon Manor. In front of the monitor, Qin Mo crossed his legs, his gaze calmly looking at Lin Yue in the middle of the screen. Even with that, he couldn't help but laugh even more when he heard Lin Yue pulling his tiger skin. Master, so it seems that this Lin family sister still has you in her heart. The electronic voice of the system sounded in Qin Mo's mind. Originally, it had never understood what Qin Mo actually wanted to do before. After all, Qin Mo hadn't stated anything, but it wasn't until it just saw that scene that it came to its realization. This was clearly an attempt to use external forces to make the Lin sisters recognize their own heartsaw. I have to say, this move does seem more direct than leaving silently and trying to get away. But it's not to blame, after all. That's the way it's perceived in this world. Where does a man get so vindictive against a woman for something so trivial? Aren't there too many cases where the protagonist is physically and mentally desperate, doesn't love anymore, and leaves silently? Then, after losing the hero, the heroine is able to realize how well the original hero took care of the heroine, and realizes that she has unknowingly fallen in love with him. After all, there is a saying that people always know how to cherish only after they have lost. Thus, the beginning of the Chase husband crematorium. Well, Qin Mo didn't know what the system was thinking at the moment. If he did, he would definitely have to scold it for being a stinky sobby. What a time to be in love. That's what lickspittles do. And it's a known fact that dog licking shoots behind the dog. Just at this time, Qin Mo's cell phone placed in front of him rang. Caller ID. It's an unfamiliar number. Lin Yuqing's original phone number had long been blacked out by Qin Mo. It was simply impossible to call. So Qin Mo, who had no choice, had to borrow Fu Yuje's cell phone to call. Qin Mo still wanted to wait for a good show, so naturally he couldn't take it. So ignore it all and watch the security footage with interest. In the middle of the screen, as the beeps continued to ring out, Lin Yue's expression became more and more anxious. The faces of Lin Yuqing and also Fu Yuje who were present grew more and more desperate. Nowadays, Qin Mo had become their only hope. If they couldn't contact him, then they would really be finished. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. Lin Yue hung up the phone and dialed once more. The whole thing was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Master, are you really not going to answer it? The system inquired curiously. It looks like the Lin sisters have already realized their mistake. Qin Mo leisurely sighed, placed his wine glass on the tabletop, and faintly said, should I say no? You really deserve to be a system of abusive writing. You're not in your right mind either. Gazing at the monitor screen, Qin Mo shook his head disdainfully. It's not that they know they're wrong, they just know they're going to die. In saying that, even if you know it's wrong, so what? I'm going to let them go when they know they're wrong? That's a child's prerogative. Adults aren't so much right or wrong. The system's voice lapsed into a brief pause, then said with some hesitation, Master, has to suggest that your thoughts are somewhat dangerous? The system wanted to say that Qin Mo's thoughts were somewhat evil, but in the end, it didn't dare to say it. After all, this master is a ruthless person who can seize control of the system. It doesn't matter. I've never considered myself to be righteous. Qin Mo was full of concern. Good and evil? Laughing my ass off. Only schoolchildren and cuties only believe that there is good and evil in this world. Lin Yue called a dozen times without dying, but all of them were followed by a burst of busy sounds. Lin Yue was completely desperate. How is it possible? How can Azumi not answer my calls? Is he still angry? Can't he see that I must be in such a hurry? It's at this juncture that you actually care about such a small thing. Lin Yue was annoyed. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. At such a desperate moment, Qin Mo became her only hope. She also felt that even if Qin Mo was angry, but she had called so many times without stopping, a person could understand that she was in a hurry here. No matter what, Qin Mo couldn't be indifferent. How can this man be so careful? It's been said countless times that there is nothing at all between the sisters and Fu Yuze. So why don't they believe it? Brother, why don't we borrow your phone and I'll make a call in? I promise this time, Qin Mo will pick it up. For sure. Lin Yue looked at Long Zhantian and prayed. Only. Long Zhantian opened Lin Yue's outstretched hand in a flash. Looks like you're lying to me. No. It's just that I have some conflicts with Qin Mo. After explaining it away, he will definitely come to save us. Lin Yue hurriedly explained. But in the next moment, a slap came unmercifully. Just you're the Qin family's fiancé. Lin Yue was blindsided and her entire body fell to the ground. Long Zhantian once again stepped forward and backhanded a slap again. Snap. I told you. Why haven't I heard about the engagement of the young master of the Qin family? Qin Mo. It's a tiger skin puller after all? Lin Yue couldn't help but crawl backwards as her mouth was covered in blood from the beating. Long Zhantian stood up and moved his wrist. Alright, the farce ends here. I'm too lazy to watch you guys act. That stupid kid over there. Made your choice yet? If you haven't decided yet, then all three of you stay put. Fu Yuze on the other side was also lifted up by Long Zhantian's minions. Underneath the mask, a pair of vicious eyes stared at Fu Yuze in death. The time has come to make a decision. Fu Yuze's entire body trembled, and his gaze went to Lin Yue and also Lin Yuqing. What's he gonna do? What the hell is he supposed to choose? 3. Long Zhantian directly started counting down. The crisp sound echoed through the empty, abandoned underground warehouse. For a moment, it was as if even the air had frozen. Lin Yue, who had been slapped to the ground, shivered and tried to get up, but was trembling from cowardice. This is truly a time of life and death crisis. Whoever is left behind, the end can be imagined. To become the plaything of a group of smelly men, goods, to be bought and sold, to be abused, it will be a hell worse than death. Lin Yuqing was equally scared, even so scared that she was about to pee. She wanted Fu Yuze to choose herself so badly, but yet, she didn't want her sister to be left behind. In the end, since childhood, because of her age and her family, Lin Yuqing had always been taken care of by her older sister, Lin Yue. Lin Yuqing didn't dare to imagine what would happen if her sister was left behind. It's a dilemma that is simply impossible to decide. Even the smartest scholar in the world would have to be stumped by this question. It's like the famous trolley problem, where no matter who is chosen, an unrecoverable tragedy will occur. 2. Long Zhantian's voice intensified a few points. It was also as if they were telling them that they didn't have time to think at all. Lin Yuqing closed her eyes in death. She wanted to live, but she also didn't want her sister to be left behind. Nowadays, she had no recourse but to listen to God, waiting for the final judgment. If you are left behind, the big deal is to find a chance to kill yourself. As much as she feared death, it was probably for the best than being abused. But, just this moment, Yuze, pick me. Lin Yue, who had been silent and struggling to get up, suddenly shouted out, I am the daughter of the Lin family, the first heir of the Lin family. I also like you more than my sister. Yuze. Boom. In an instant, it was as if something inside Lin Yuqing had collapsed. Her eyes, which were tightly closed, snapped open, and she looked incredulously at Lin Yue. Looking at her sister. At this moment, Lin Yue stood where she was trembling, pathetic, and her eyes even contained tears, deadly staring at Fu Yuze, not looking at all, or not daring to look at Lin Yuqing. 1. Long Zhantian raised the corner of his mouth and gave an ultimatum. I choose Sister Yue. At that final moment, Fu Yuze made his decision. Based on what reason it no longer mattered. Lin Yue was released on the spot, and together with Fu Yuze, they assisted and left this basement in a trembling manner. The whole time, without looking at Lin Yuqing, who was abandoned somewhere behind her. Lin Yuqing was just tied to the chair, her gaze gray and lifeless, staring at the Fu Yuze and Lin Yue who were leading towards the bright light. Watch as the basement door is slowly closed, cutting off any bright light reflecting on her face. Her sister was saved, and so was her dear brother Fuse, but the price was her being left in hell forever, by those two people, their hands, pushed into this endless abyss. Imperial Dragon Manor. The large surveillance screen framed Lin Yuqing's expression at the moment. The whole face was shrouded in darkness, only those eyes, increasingly cloudy. This is human nature. One can accept one's own voluntary abandonment, but one can never accept the betrayal of those closest to one's heart. In the penultimate second, Lin Yuqing thought about how she wouldn't hate anyone even if it was her sister who was ultimately saved. Even if she is ultimately left behind, she will choose to kill herself and be done with this life. But it wasn't until the last second that she realized, in Lin Yue's heart, there is nothing more important than herself. In order to live for herself, Lin Yue would rather personally push herself, her own sister, into hell. Suddenly she didn't want to kill herself, and a seed inside her called hate was planted at that moment. Lin Yue, Fu Yuze. In the darkness, Lin Yuqing's eyes flickered and were clearly reflected in Qin Mo's eyes. Qin Mo saw it, the hatred in the bottom of those eyes that went deep into his bones. See, this is humanity. Qin Mo uttered a sentence of unknown meaning, as if informing the system, and as if speaking to himself in general, but the corners of his mouth rose gently. It wasn't the thrill of a great revenge, but the sheer pleasure of it. Yes, the good play was pleasurable to Qin Mo. He didn't care about the fate of the Lin sisters, who lived and who died. What he cares about is how this great show is going to play out to be more dramatic. At this moment, the system suddenly realized that this man named Qin Mo was strange. It also sent some chills down the spine that there was no love or affection in his eyes. There is only teasing and indifference, like the demon that plays with hearts and minds with abandon in the deepest depths of hell. Chapter 16, New Abusive Female Lead. Xia Bingyao. Lin Xiao was like an ant on a hot pan right now. Not long ago, the housekeeper called and said that he had surprisingly found no trace of the Lin sisters on the resort island. It's like disappearing off the face of the earth. At that moment, the idea of his two daughters eloping with Fu Yuze even popped into Lin Zhao's mind. You know, nowadays, The two daughters are the only point where Lin Xiao can turn the tide. If they don't come back, what about the Qin family? However, right at this moment, Lin Xiao's cell phone rang. It's the housekeeper's phone. Lin Xiao couldn't wait to pick up the phone. However, the news he learned was a bit unbelievable. His own two daughters, kidnapped. That wasn't all. The other party was so heartless that they took their youngest daughter, Lin Yuqing, away. Even Lin Yue was saved by Fu Yu's desperate efforts. Lin Xiao was immediately stumped. He hadn't expected something like this to happen to his daughter. The oldest daughter is a tiger. The youngest daughter is alive or dead. Fortunately, Lin Yue and Fu Yujie had already been hospitalized under the butler's escort. Checking it out, there was nothing serious other than a few superficial injuries. On the contrary, Fu Yuze broke a leg, and because of the reason why the injury is too serious, I'm afraid that the rest of his life will need to spend in a wheelchair again. Lin Xiao didn't care about this, as long as Lin Yue was fine. Forcefully swallowing the shock and anger within him, he said in a flurry of words, "You first guard over there. The day after tomorrow at the latest, to bring Missy back to me. As for Yuqing, to me to investigate. I must know who it is that dares to kidnap someone from my Lin family." One thing after another has happened in the last few days and the company is on the verge of bankruptcy. The youngest daughter has also disappeared without a trace. He himself went to the Qin family and was still so humiliated. Even Iron Long was almost blown up. Come to think of it, it's not because of these two brainless daughters. If they hadn't had to accompany Fu Yuze, that softy guy, to go on vacation for a break, how would there have been the series of things that followed? He hated Fu Yuze in his heart, but it was too late to say anything now. You have to stop in time to do that. Meanwhile, inside a hospital ward on the resort island, while the housekeeper was out contacting Lin Xiao, Lin Yue inside the hospital room was staring at Fu Yujie dead in the face. "Yuze, I know that this matter is very difficult for us all to accept, but this matter must not be told. She just made up a kidnapping. There is no such thing as an either/or condition in the middle of this story. What there is just that the robbers are vicious and want to sell the two girls outside of the law, but they are stopped by Fu Yujie, who arrives in time. In the end, Fu Yujie desperately saves Lin Yue, but his leg is broken, while Lin Yuqing is unfortunately taken away. Life and death unknown. There was no other way. She could only say this. Otherwise, if things were exposed, not only would Fu Yuze be held accountable, she, Lin Yue, would not be any better. To push her own sister into the abyss in order to survive for herself, this alone was enough to make Lin Yue suffer the scorn of 10,000 people. It is even possible that even one's inheritance will be affected. She loved her sister, but that was only if she was not a threat. There was no doubt that with this incident, Lin Yuqing had become a stumbling block for Lin Yue. "I understand, Sister Yue." Fu Yuze's right leg was put in a cast. The expression was forlorn, as if he was blaming himself. "I just don't know. How is Sister Yuqing?" Lin Yue's eyes were elusive. There was fear, there was heartache, but more, or less determination. To be honest, she now really kinda hoped that Lin Yuqing would die at the hands of those robbers, and it would be best if she never came back for the rest of her life. "Don't think about this. If she really comes back, I'm afraid you won't end up well," Lin Yue whispered. Fu Yuze also understood that this matter was not something that should be discussed. Just now it was just a pretense, wanting to see Lin Yue's attitude. After all, these two were blood sisters, and if they took their anger out on him at that time, they would be drawing fire. Since it was established that Lin Yue was in the same boat as himself, there was no need to mention this matter again. "I know, but Yue's sister, I now this touch, can really only you. You should not abandon me, right?" Lin Yue looked at Fu Yujie's leg that was put in a plaster cast, and a flash of heartache flashed through her eyes. "Don't worry, no one will bully you with me. After all, you saved this life of mine." Speaking of this, Lin Yue couldn't help but recall Qin Mo. At that time, why did he refuse to answer one of the many calls he made to him? Just pick it up, and how could the latter happen? How else would those robbers dare to break Fu Yujie's legs? How could his own sister be taken away by those robbers? This time, Mo was really going too far. When she thought of Qin Mo, Lin Yue couldn't help but clench her fists. In a few days after her injuries healed and she went back, she was bound to go find Qin Mo and confront him face to face, to show Qin Mo what his childhood friend had been tortured into. Look at how serious the consequences were because he didn't answer the phone. This time, Qin Mo must be made to apologize to himself, as well as Fu Yuze. As if she wasn't yet relieved, she thought viciously inside, "No, I must kneel down and apologize. Otherwise I'll never be able to forgive him in my life." Qin Mo, who was far away from the imperial capital, didn't know that he was now held a grudge. The play was already finished, and Qin Mo closed the lower display. Then he picked up Long Zhantian's communication. "Young master, Lin Yuqing has completely fainted. What should we do next? What to do? Qin Emo thought for a moment and said, give her a little torture first, then bring her back tomorrow. You grasp the degree. Don't beat me to death. She'll still be useful afterward. I'd love to see the picture of the Lin family sisters killing each other. Qin Emo commanded. Long Zhantian smiled. Understood. After today's events had come to an end for the time being, Qin Emo changed into his suit and then planned to go to the company to take a look around. However, on the way out, he received another familiar call. Young master, I've arrived at the airport. Can I trouble you to pick me up? The young girl on the other end of the phone inquired cautiously. Bing Yao, you've arrived at the Imperial Capital Airport? Qin Emo froze, feeling somewhat incredulous. Yes, young master. Your eyes? Thanks to the blessing of the young master, the expert medical skills of the Eagle Jam country are very skillful. I can see now. Speaking of this, the young girl's voice cheered a little, and at the same time in Qin Mo's mind, the system abruptly popped up a series of messages. The inactive system sprite came to life all of a sudden. Master, the system has detected an abusive female protagonist. The information is as follows. Name, Xia Bingyao. Identity, Magic City Gentry. Daughter of Xia Hongjun. Past experience, 18 years ago, Xia Hongjun in the original match Su Qiuya had a daughter, but was born that day. Su Qiuya's enemy of the rich girlfriends jealous. Will be their own daughter and Xia Bingyao swap. And the mentality of the twisted girlfriends. From childhood will be abusive and tormented, resulting in Xia Bingyao as thin as a match. Blindness, and almost died 3 years ago in the winter. And then was the host of the host. Qin Mo was saved. Chapter 17 The Drama of Changing Women. A miserable life. I have to say, the system's probing function does work somewhat well. However, this information had long been known to Qin Mo. I vaguely remember that it was a winter 3 years ago. Qin Mo was passing by a roast duck store intending to buy a roast duck because he had a craving. Meet a teenage girl. It was clearly winter, and it was even snowing outside, but the young girl's body, surprisingly, only wore 2 worn and thin clothes. That's a fall dress, and, by the looks of it, it didn't match the young girl's size at all. Obviously, it wasn't her dress, and the most concerning thing was the young girl's eyes, a thick layer of gauze that covered her eyes. The young girl couldn't see what was in front of her, but her remaining senses were surprisingly sharp. Just as, when God closes a door to a person, he opens a window to him. Despite being blindfolded, the girl was still able to act on her senses of touch, hearing, and smell in conjunction with each other. As a result, the young girl has secured a position as a helper within the duck restaurant. When Qin Mo went there, the young girl was being punished by the store owner. The reason is that the young girl broke 2 dinner plates. The boss's wife took advantage of the situation and did more than just whip the young girl's frozen ebony skin with the bamboo strips, even trying to use it to drive the young girl out of the store. Originally, even though the young girl was beaten, she didn't cry, she didn't make a scene, and she forced herself to hold back her aggression. But the moment she heard that the boss's wife was going to drive herself away, the young girl panicked and she began to pray to the boss's wife. I'm sorry, it's my fault for breaking the plate, but there's more work I can do to pay for the plate. I really can't, I can have one less meal. Please, don't drive me away. Pray. She pursed her lips, her face full of panic because she knew that once she was kicked out, maybe she wouldn't even make it through this winter. The boss's wife was unmoved. A blind man was not only an eyesore to look at, but also a hindrance to do things, and she didn't want to carry this liability with her. However, she also had her own thoughts. If you ask me, what's the point of working when you're like this? Apart from causing trouble for others, what's the point? It's just as well. You have such a beautiful bottom. Why don't I just find someone for you to marry, and give them a big fat boy, so you'll have someone to take care of you in the future, won't you? The young girl knew that the boss's wife was talking about the stupid son of a thug family with violent tendencies. It was something that was given to her more than once, but she was afraid to say yes because of her childhood fear of violence. One could only stand timidly, unable to say a word. As a matter of fact, Qin Mo boasted that he was not a good person, and if he really wanted to be judged, he was just a businessman and villain who could do anything for profit. In his eyes, words like kindness are just clouds. But what makes people human is the complexity of human nature. A prodigal, windswept woman, perhaps with a pure love in her heart that she could never forget in her life. An accomplished monk who has spent his life doing good deeds may still have sins behind his back that no one knows about. And a vicious, evil man has something deep down that he cares about. People are complex, with a mix of good and evil, and that's what makes them human. That day, Qin Mo didn't know why. He was impressed by the young girl, so he intervened in the matter. As for the way, it was also very simple and rough. Qin Mo directly bought that roast duck store. and learn about the young girl's life. The young girl's name is Xia Bingyao, an abandoned child, pretty much the same as the system probes. However, there are other systems that are not explicitly stated. Xia Bingyao's adoptive mother, Su Qiuya's best friend, was an extremely perverted guy inside. Her favorite thing to do was to bring Xia Bingyao to Su Qiuya's house, firstly to visit her own daughter, and secondly to beat Xia Bingyao severely in front of Su Qiuya with all sorts of trumped-up charges. She just wanted Su Qiuya to personally watch her daughter being brutally beaten by her, being called a pariah, having his arms and legs broken, being beaten until he is blind, being deprived of the opportunity to study while Su Qiuya is powerless to do anything about it, and even to be 100 times nicer to her own daughter, so that her own daughter can enjoy the life of a luxurious family. This will give her extreme psychological satisfaction. Xia Bingyao also had a hard life, resisting hard for more than 10 years under such circumstances, until one day, it was all revealed. Xia Bingyao's adoptive mother brought a paternity test with her on the day her own daughter got into a key high school in Mordor. Revealing all of this, Xia Bingyao's adoptive mother got her way. Learning everything, Su Qiuya broke down. She could not accept that her best friend could have such a cruel heart. But what's really scary is more than that. It turns out that Su Qiuya's husband, Xia Hongjun, and his best friend, are actually underground lovers. This whole thing was also known to Xia Hongjun. The whole family knew, and she and Xia Bingyao were the only ones kept in the dark. The child of her best friend, whom she raised, turned out to be the illegitimate daughter of Xia Hongjun and her best friend. What Xia Hongjun has always loved is all about girlfriends, but for the sake of his future and money, Xia Hongjun joined the Su family, a powerful family in Magic City. Using tactics, he secretly got rid of Su Qiuya's parents. Now, the pair of dogs had extended the butcher's knife to Su Qiuya. Eventually, Xiao Chua disappeared. Xia Hongjun married his mistress' best friend openly, and their family hijacked the original Su family's property, becoming the newest luxury family in Magic City, the Xia family. And Xia Bingyao. Xia Hongjun did not love Su Qiuya in the first place, and naturally did not love Xia Bingyao. What's more, after so many years, Xia Bingyao had long been tortured beyond recognition. Xia Hongjun is even less likely to like this child. They have even better daughters. Thus, Xia Bingyao was unceremoniously abandoned, left to its own devices. Later, Xia Bingyao, who was begging for food on the street, was taken in by the owner of a roast duck restaurant, but was disliked by the owner's wife again. Until the day I met Qin Mo. That day, Xia Bingyao solemnly turned to Qin Mo, even though her eyes could not see. But the young girl has a more sensitive heart than anyone else. She sensed Qin Mo's goodwill and uttered those words. "This boss, if you don't mind, I want to follow you and serve you." Seemingly afraid that Qin Mo would think that she would be a nuisance, she hurriedly clarified, "I don't want any wages, as long as I can have a bun at a meal, just one bun at a time." Even though Qin Mo had been a man for 2 lifetimes, he had never been so heartbroken. After that day, inside the Royal Dragon Villa, there was an extra sister. Not long afterward, Qin Mo sent him to the Eagle Sauce country to receive treatment. As his thoughts returned, Qin Mo took a deep breath. Then he greeted the driver. "Go to the office later. Go to the airport to pick up the lady first." When Long Zhantian traveled, the one who drove for Qin Mo became the strong man codenamed Mighty Tiger. "Miss, has her eye been healed?" Manticore was a bit surprised. Xia Bingyao knew how to get along with people very well, and during the time in the Qin family, even though Qin Mo regarded her as his sister, she didn't have the slightest bit of a stance. He took good care of every subordinate in the Qin family, and was even more beloved with them. Yeah, I guess that Nini just could see and couldn't wait to run back. Otherwise she would have had to stay in the hospital for a while for observation. Miss must have missed young master. Mighty Tiger laughed, then started the car and headed towards the airport. Chapter 18 Male Virtue Academy? Young master. Inside the airport, a young girl wearing a white shirt and a blue pleated skirt sits inside the waiting room. The moment she saw Qin Mo, the young girl's eyes seemed to have light in them, although in the past, he was unable to see Qin Mo's face. However, the young girl had always kept Qin Mo's photo, and the first time she regained her sight, she firmly memorized the face in the photo. Moreover, regarding Qin Mo, Xia Bingyao had a familiarity that she could never forget. It's a wonderful sensation. It's a smell. It's a sound. It's a touch. It's a sixth sense that originates from a woman, even if you can't see anything. She was also able to detect Qin Mo's presence the moment he approached. She clutched a backpack and excitedly ran towards Qin Mo's side. A hug followed, fiercely embracing Qin Mo's waist. At this moment, Qin Mo couldn't help but freeze. Neisan has grown up. She's learning to hit people with the ball. I vaguely remember when I sent Xia Bingyao out of the country for treatment, although it was also somewhat large, but it's still young. It's just in its infancy. Nowadays, girls who have reached the age of 18 are basically fully developed as they should be. After feeling it carefully, Shin Mo felt that it wasn't just a matter of being fully developed. It should be a little over the top. This girl doesn't drink papaya milk every day abroad, does she? Only after a while did Xia Bingyao let go of Shin Mo. Then she seemed to realize something and scratched her head in embarrassment. I'm sorry, young master, I got a little too excited. Shin Mo laughed and gently scraped the young girl's nose. I just contacted the doctor over there. Why are you so bold? It just so happens that it didn't take long for you to sneak back in, knowing that you'd have to stay in the hospital for a while for observation. I know my own body. And she gently lifted her head, her eyes that had regained their light looking at Shin Mo. 1.75 m head Xia Bingyao put in the category of girls, already very tall, but in front of 1.83 m Shin Mo, still a little shorter, need to raise his head in order to be able to meet Shin Mo's eyes. I'm really thankful to young master, so I want to be the first to see young master's real face, Xia Bingyao said with a smile. There was a touch of excitement and joy on his brow. Only, aside, the manticore covered his heart with some hurt. Alas, it seems that the young lady only has the young master in her eyes. Obviously before, I was one of the lady's masters. The burly man shook his head with a sigh. When Xia Bingyao first came to the Qin family, she had been thinking about reflecting her own value. So a lot of learning has taken place, even includes martial arts. Yes, it was very surprising. The moment Xia Bingyao, who was still blind at the time, suggested that she wanted to learn martial arts from the bodyguards, it was really a bit whimsical. However, Xia Bingyao was persistent. She was doing her best to try to help Shin Mo, no matter from that aspect. I have to say, this ninny is a genius. Her vision was obstructed, but the rest of her senses were keen far beyond normal. Even if you can't see, you can still use your sense of hearing to quickly detect the enemy's attack. It's as ancient patriarchal as that exaggeration. Even Shin Mo was surprised by this. Let's just say that, true to form, none of the protagonists are easy. Listening to Mighty Tiger's complaint, Xia Bingyao hastily shook her head. How could I possibly forget Uncle Tuming? Moreover, Uncle Tuming is even more handsome than I imagined. A handsome uncle then, Xia Bingyao complimented. Tuming is the real name of the tiger. Only Xia Bingyao would seriously memorize the name of every person who was kind to her, even though the name is not commonly used. Mighty Tiger froze and also laughed cheerfully. Let's go, young master and young lady. This way please. The group was about to leave, but just then, there was a sudden commotion from the airport behind them, attracting the attention of Shin Mo and the others. He skimmed his head. It was discovered that a chase was going on within the crowded airport. A dozen men in black suits and sunglasses were struggling to catch up with a young man with an inch head. Unlike the rest, the young man's face was covered in bruises. The fleeing footsteps were a bit frail, even stumbling, several times about to fall down in general. It was obvious that his body was thin and weak, and even said that he was weak. The whole face was pale and weak, like a sick person. As it turned out, there was no way that such physical fitness could outrun the grasp of a dozen strong males. It didn't take long for the young man with the inch head to stagger and fall straight to the ground before being directly held down by two men in black. Good for you, 004. How dare you try to run away when you're about to graduate? Is it hard to delay graduation? A black-clad man came down and whispered in the inch-haired young man's ear. As soon as he heard the words delayed graduation, the young man couldn't stop shivering as if he was recalling some kind of nightmare. No, don't, but I really don't want to go back to that place. Please, leave me alone, leave me alone. The young man kept pleading, but the man in black was unmoved. What words? You were sent by MS Xia to further your education, and after you graduate, of course you have to go back to the Xia family, don't you? With that, he lifted the young man up with a merciless hand. Faced with the stares of everyone around them, and the inquiries of airport security, the man in black hurriedly pulled out a piece of identification. Don't worry everyone, we are from the Yunshan Psychiatric Hospital. This is a patient in our hospital who wanted to escape for some reason, and because we were afraid that it would have an adverse effect on society, that's why we launched an arrest in time. I'm sorry to bother you all. The seamlessness of the man in black's story, aided by his credentials, quickly gained the trust of the airport security guards, who allowed them to take the young man away, all but noticing the fear in the younger man's eyes. The farce ended here, not far away. Shin Mo and the others were curiously lying on the airport railing looking over. Cloud Mountain Psychiatric Hospital? Shin Mo narrowed his eyes slightly. This isn't a mental hospital. Or maybe the sign is just an exterior. The real face of this mental hospital should be called Cloud Mountain Academy, situated outside the imperial capital, within the uninhabited mountains. In the circle, it also has a very grounded name, the College of Male Virtue. It seems to be a place to train the elite, but in reality, it is a place where the powerful women of the rich and powerful families go in order to torment nasty illegitimate children, or disobedient children, or lovers with no sense of proportion, and mistresses. Although it sounds quite outrageous, it has to be said that when a thing exists, there is bound to be a reason for it. At least there is a real audience for this Academy of Male Virtue, and at the same time, within Qin Mo's mind, the system's prompts came once again. Master, you're in luck. You've hit another abusive male lead. The information is as follows. Name, Su Zian. Sex, male. Identity, Magic City Gentry. Xia Ruyan's heavenly male lead of the Xia family's daughter. Xia Ruyan. Experience. Chapter 19, O miserable male leader. Experiences, love at first sight with Xia Ruyan, the daughter of the luxurious Xia family in Magic City, only because of the big gap between the two, plus being provoked by Xia Ruyan's male best friend, Ji Boda, who said that Su Zian was close to Xia Ruyan only for the Xia family's property, because of the experience of her biological father, Xia Hongjun. So Xia Ruyan easily believed that Ji Boda's provocation, and thus, began to Su Zian wary. But also in a year ago, Xia Ruyan thinks Su Zian is too unintelligent, and then again under the Ji Boda's advice, Xia Ruyan personally Su Zian into the College of Men's Virtue. After that, Su Zian went through torture for a year. Seeing this, Qin Mo's eyebrows raised. What a surprise to run into an abusive male protagonist here. Also, it looks like the male piggyback was abused a bit. The Academy of Male Virtue, said to be an academy, is in fact nothing more than a filthy hell, where the students are not even worthy of being called human beings, but livestock, bastard dogs, etc. In a year's time, God knows how much this guy has suffered. Of course, Qin Mo was not interested in this. What Su Zian's? It's all a passing cloud to him. What made Qin Mo care was that in the middle of the story, the woman named Xia Ruyan. That's right, it's none other than the Magic City Gentry, Xia Hongjun's daughter. That is, the daughter of Xia Hongjun and Jr., and even more so, the one who swapped lives with Xia Bingyao. To be honest, at first, after Qin Mo knew about Xia Bingyao's matter, ever intended to help out. After all, it was only a Xia family, although the Xia family was in the Magic City, and Qin Mo was a circle of two complete places. But when power reaches a certain level, the circle is something that is no longer a restriction. The Qin family had their hands in the air, and was fully described as the #1 family in China. It's not hard to get plugged into the Magic City scene, only, this matter was later stopped by Xia Bingyao. It's not just a kindness that's going on. For the Xia family, especially the Xia Hongjun pair of dogs, Xia Bingyao hated to eat their flesh and break their bones. However, she wanted to rely on her own hands to get her revenge. After all, everything in the Xia family was originally supposed to belong to her. Plus, the matter of Xia Bingyao's real mother's disappearance also made Xia Bingyao very concerned. Therefore, Qin Mo did not make a move against the Xia family. On top of that, Qin Mo also discovered that this time, there was a special piece of information. Remarks, special information, as one of the chosen boys, Su Zian possesses a physique that is incomparable to that of ordinary people, and is able to recover quickly from injuries, with a speed that far exceeds the boundaries of human beings. But yet, the recovery ability was too strong, causing Su Zian to suffer more than several times worse than normal people at the Male Virtue Academy. Seeing this, Qin Mo couldn't help but have a word pop up in his mind. Overdrive regeneration? Of course, it certainly couldn't reach the point of super speed regeneration, but the fact that the recovery ability far exceeded the limits of humans was enough to prove that this person's special ability was already considered to be special in some way. Just as some people are born with great strength, some are born with antibodies to viruses, etc. Humans are nature's most marvelous creations, and it's not unusual for a few outliers to appear among the billions. It had to be said that Qin Mo was still very interested in this ability. However, it was only of interest. After the good show, Qin Mo greeted the crowd and prepared to leave. However, it noticed Xia Bingyao's face that was gradually freezing down. Maybe it's because of having lost vision in the past. The rest of Xia Bingyao's senses were beyond sharp. Just now she heard a key word: Xia family. In other words, the young man who had just been arrested was related to the Xia family. Want to leave them behind? Qin Mo suddenly inquired. Xia Bingyao snapped back to her senses and hastily shook her head. It doesn't matter, young master, the Xia family matter. I will personally ask for it back one by one. In front of the airport railing, the young girl's long seaweed-like black hair spilled behind her like a waterfall, and she gently shook her head, her long hair swaying after her. The delicate side of his face was mapped by the spilled sunlight. His skin was snow-white and the roots of his fuzz were clearly visible. The white bandages that had once wrapped around his eyes were gone, replaced by bright eyes and pupils as blue as the clear blue sky. Once the young girl regained her sight, her eyes underwent irreversible changes, but it made Qin Mo feel a little more tangible. Only, there were extremely complicated emotions mixed in these eyes, and again a flame of hatred, in which the general burning. Qin Mo valued Xia Bingyao's character, repaying kindness with kindness and taking revenge with revenge. This was very much to Qin Mo's liking. Very good, let's go. First accompany me to the company, after that there's your favorite roast duck tonight. Qin Mo rubbed the tips of the young girl's hair and said. At night, the Royal Dragon Manor was bustling with activity, and Xia Bingyao's return had injected a lot of vitality into the empty villa. At least, the subordinates of the Qin family loved this young girl. After a bout of revelry, Qin Mo was also ready to go to bed. Only, when he entered his room, he was dismayed to find the young girl lying timidly under her covers. Just as before, the young girl who lacked a sense of security would always stay by Qin Mo's side all night long for the reason of warming his bed. Qin Mo laughed. You're an adult now. Do you still warm the bed? Xia Bingyao used the quilt to cover half of her face, only revealing a pair of big bright eyes. This is Bingyao's job. Young master is afraid of the cold, so he needs someone to warm the bed. The voice was a little shaky, even said, apprehensive. Obviously, Xia Bingyao was also clear that it was somewhat unreasonable for her, who was already an adult, to be doing such a thing. However, the other party was Qin Mo, the most important, the most irreplaceable, and the best person in the world for her in a young girl's heart. Xia Bingyao was obsessed with the security of lying in Qin Mo's arms. It was the only warmth she could feel in the midst of what had once been darkness. Qin Mo looked at Xia Bingyao and smiled slightly. Without saying anything more, he just lifted the quilt and lay down. Just like once, Xia Bingyao was like a clingy kitten and came up towards Qin Mo. The white tender hands firmly hugged Qin Mo's waist. Vaguely, he could feel the contours of the muscles underneath, like carvings, through the thinness of his sleep. Xia Bingyao's face was a bit flushed. As for Qin Mo, he was also a bit shocked that the little ninny had really grown up, completely pressed on Qin Mo's body, like two squashed balloons. It's a completely different feeling than it was 3 years ago. Seemingly sensing Qin Mo's body temperature gradually rising, Xia Bingyao lifted her chin. Young master, not feeling well? Qin Mo took a deep breath. If it's the young master, I can. Before Qin Mo could finish his words, Xia Bingyao took the initiative to speak, seemingly not daring to look at Qin Mo anymore. Xia Bingyao buried her face into the quilt. The whole body shrank. Immediately afterward, Qin Mo's pupils violently shrunk. Bingyao. Chapter 20 Suburban Villa. Lin Yuqing's return. The next day, early morning, sleeping Qin Mo received a call from Long Juntian. Young master, Lin Yuqing has been brought back and is now at the suburban villa. Do you want to come and take a look? It had to be said that Long Juntian's work was really clean and decisive. Without stopping, he brought Lin Yuqing back to the imperial capital overnight. Okay, I know. Come over later. After putting down these words, Qin Mo hung up the communication and turned his head to see that Xia Bingyao, this little ninny, had already woken up and was covering her head with a cup. Showing a pair of small eyes, she stared at herself shyly. Qin Mo raised a smile. What? It's not like you didn't see it last night. You're still shy at this time? Young master, stop talking. Nikki couldn't carry on any longer and buried her head completely under the covers. Last night that was when the emotions arrived. There was no need to be shy, but now the sun was shining. Plus Qin Mo was still topless. It makes you think back to the details of last night. The more she thought about it, the more shy Xia Bingyao became, and at this moment, she was even more eager to find a crack to drill in. Alright, I won't tease you. I have things to do. You can rest a little longer. Qin Mo put on his own clothes and got out of bed. By the way, a slap on top of Nasan's arse. Well, it's quite stretchy. Only, the muffled grunts coming from the quilt put Qin Mo in a good mood. Young master, where are you going? I'll follow you. Xia Bingyao poked out a small head from the quilt, her reddened cheeks not knowing if it was suffocated or not, and inquired towards Qin Mo. Suburban villa, are you sure you want to go? Xia Bingyao was stunned. Suburban villa, sounds nice, but that place is no place to be, as a thunderous means to take over the Qin family, and the Qin family in a very short period of time to bring the pinnacle of the Qin family. Naturally, Qin Mo was not a good person. The process of ascending to the top of the unavoidable dirty tactics, the accumulation of capital is bloody, and even more so when it comes to a volume like the Qin family's. The villa in the suburbs was the place that Qin Mo had specially built to deal with some unseen matters. Qin Mo was also worried that Xia Bingyao, who had just regained her eyesight, would not be able to withstand it after seeing the scene inside. However, Xia Bingyao's determination was beyond Qin Mo's expectations. It's all right, young master. It's my duty to take care of the young master wherever I go. Seeing this, Qin Mo wasn't stopping. Put on your clothes and follow me. Half an hour later, Long Zhantian appeared at the entrance of the Imperial Dragon Manor, opened the backseat door for Qin Mo and also Xia Bingyao. Long Zhantian was also quite surprised by Xia Bingyao's return. After all, I hadn't heard anything about this before. However, considering Xia Bingyao's nature, it was all right. The vehicle kept traveling through the city, changing several roads in 7 turns, and finally drove out of the city towards a deserted suburb. 10 minutes later, a compound situated in the middle of nowhere appeared in the sight of several people. The compound was simple and looked like an abandoned farm compound in general, yet it is not. Cross the courtyard and enter the ramshackle hut in the center. The crowd was led by Long Zhantian to a broken cupboard. Pushing aside the tattered cupboards that hid his face, he was greeted by a closed elevator door. After Long Zhantian swiped his card, the elevator was opened. The crowd entered it. The elevator began its descent, and only managed to stop when it reached 300 meters underground. Immediately after that, the elevator door was opened, and what came into view was the dimly lit passageway. It's a barred cell at 10 paces. It was the ubiquitous sound of piercing screams in all directions. Xia Bingyao looked extremely curious about everything around her. After all, no one would have expected such a huge building under such an inconspicuous abandoned farmhouse. Qin Mo turned a deaf ear to the cries and pleas for help from the surroundings and went all the way towards the end of the passage. Will you be scared? Suddenly, Qin Mo asked towards Xia Bingyao, who was at the side. Xia Bingyao skimmed around. She was able to see it clearly. Behind those bars was person after person. Living, breathing people, only, it was as if they were all tortured. There are even some that are completely unrecognizable from their original faces. Blood soaked their faces and clothes, and fear covered their pupils and faces. It's like a real infernal hell. It's unnerving. However, even though she was faced with such a scene, Xia Bingyao realized that her heart did not fluctuate in any way. It's like watching a movie that's not about you, and that doesn't interest you. Shaking her head, Xia Bingyao said seriously, "No," gently stroking his eyes. "The moment I lost my sight, I have seen the truly terrible hearts of the world, and these do not frighten me." And, at that, she paused, her eyes looking around the room, her expression gradually becoming cold and disgusted. "These people, they are all enemies of the young master. Anyone who stands in the way of the young master deserves to die." Qin Mo looked deeply at Xia Bingyao. This look of her made Qin Mo somewhat unfamiliar. Or, Xia Bingyao has been treating herself like an innocent little girl, but, having suffered betrayal by loved ones, being thrown out of her home, living on the streets, and almost freezing to death that winter, how could she, who had endured endless malice, be as naive as a little girl? No, her insides have long been twisted. Only Qin Mo is the last light in her life. In addition to Qin Mo, all things have nothing to do with her, and as she said, any enemy of Qin Mo deserves to die in her heart. To use a more colloquial term, it's properly sickly. Qin Mo rubbed the young girl's long hair and led her to the deepest part of the passageway. Soon, they arrived within a sealed room. The room was empty, and directly in front of it, above the wall, a silhouette was tied to the wall in 5 different ways. Chains bound her arms and legs. Her head hung low, her long dark hair falling in front of her. A smear of sticky blood lowered down her cheek into a pool of blood on the floor. "Fell asleep?" Qin Mo inquired abruptly. "I'll go wake her up." Long Zhantian laughed fiercely as he stepped forward, copied the bucket on the ground, and directly parked it. Wow! The cold and piercing sensation caused Lin Yuqing, who had almost fainted, to instantly wake up. The head snapped up and sucked in a breath of cold air. Pain! Unprecedented sharp pain swarmed from all the limbs and bones of the body. Her entire body was covered with hideous wounds. Even her beautiful face, which she usually took pride in, had been slashed open, and her entire countenance had been broken. One can only imagine the treatment suffered yesterday. It was so hard to pass out because he couldn't bear the severe pain, and now that he was stimulated again, he directly rolled his eyes in pain. Watching the scene, Qin Mo narrowed his eyes slightly. She won't be unable to carry on and die, right? In response, Long Zhantian whispered in Qin Mo's ear, "Don't worry, young master. I personally took the shot. I have a sense of proportion. It's only about 40 blades. The knife avoids the vitals, but manages to ensure that all the knives maximize the stimulation of the pain nerve." Qin Mo's eyes twitched and he smiled and joked. "That is to say, even if you go for an examination of your injuries, it will only be a minor injury?" It should be said that, worthy of being the Dragon King, he is also unique in his medical skills. What an all-rounder. Cough. Not far away came the sound of Lin Yuqing's weak cough. After enduring the first wave of pain, she barely managed to slow down. Somewhat blurred vision fell on the line of people ahead of them. The pupils suddenly shrunk. Ink brother? Chapter 21, Does it help if you know you're wrong? Brother M.O. Brother M.O. You're finally here. Lin Yuqing began to struggle frantically. The chains that bound her limbs were made to creak. Qin M.O. was here. Yes, she wasn't wrong. It was really Qin M.O. who had come. At this moment, Qin Mo's appearance was like a ray of hope shining into Lin Yuqing's heart. Abandoned by Lin Yue and Fu Yuze jointly, thrown into this infernal hell, he was even subjected to inhuman torture. She saw with her own eyes that the masked kidnapping leader looked like a psychopath. Taking a small knife, he stabbed her skin, one after the other, cutting through her flesh and blood, stinging her nerves. That feeling is almost like a lingering death. Under both mental and physical torture, she wants to get it over with. But, under this kind of hell, even death cannot be chosen by oneself. Yes, she can't even kill herself. Used to think that the biting of the tongue played out in TV shows was real, but when it comes to actually implementing it, it turns out that it's just not possible. She could only hope that she would die of blood loss. But, the crazies didn't give in at all, and they called the doctor to stop the bleeding while they lynched. She was like a lab rat inside a lab that couldn't see any light. One can only endure this unbearable pain in silence. Under the circumstances, she had thought she had died of heartbreak long ago, until seeing Qin Mo's appearance, and that meant that she was saved. Sure enough, even his own sister, his own beloved brother Fu Yuze betrayed him. But Qin Mo wouldn't. He would still love himself as he did before. Rescue yourself from this hell despite the dangers. Once again, tears slipped from his eyes. However, it was as if there was a renewed light in Lin Yuqing's pitch-black pupils. Looking at the frantically struggling Lin Yuqing, Qin Mo's face was calm. Untie her. Long Zhantian nodded his head and stepped forward to untie the chains. Since he had already taken off his mask, Long Zhantian was not worried that Lin Yuqing would be able to recognize him. Click! The iron chain smashed to the ground. The shackles that bound Lin Yuqing had been lifted. The extremely weak Lin Yuqing just wanted to take a step, but her feet went limp and she directly planted herself on the ground. Well, it hurts, Brother M.O. She shuddered and lifted her head. However, she realized that Qin M.O. was still standing not far away watching her. There was no intention of stepping forward to help. Could it be that Qin M.O. was actually still angry with her? Right. That must be it. Myself and my sister must have made Qin Mo angry when they left him behind and took Fu Yuje on a vacation to a foreign country. It's understandable that you don't want to pay attention to yourself right now. But, since Qin Mo had appeared here, it proved that even though Qin Mo was angry, he still cared about her in his heart. Otherwise, he couldn't have come here to save her. Could he? I was wrong. Was I wrong? Lin Yuqing clenched her teeth as if she recognized her mistake. He should not have abandoned Qin Mo and accompanied that bastard Fu Yuze abroad with his sister. No, can't be called sister anymore. From the moment that pair of dogs, in order to survive, pushed themselves hard into this fire pit, Lin Yue was no longer her sister. From now on, she must also sever her relationship with Fu Yuze. It wasn't until now that she truly realized just how wrong her past self had been. It's okay. It's only right that Brother Mo was angry with me. Lin Yuqing persuaded herself that she shouldn't count on this. Big deal. From today onwards, one should make it up to Qin Mo. She wanted to marry Qin Mo so that Qin Mo wouldn't be angry with her anymore. That sister of his had already chosen Fu Yuze anyway. Thinking this inwardly, Lin Yuqing held her breath and tremblingly climbed up from the ground. With great difficulty, he pulled out a smile towards Qin Mo. Brother Mo, I was wrong about this matter. I was really wrong. Sorry. Saying that, she limped closer towards Qin Mo. He then opened his hands, his eyes containing tears of aggression. Brother Mo, I promise that I will absolutely not be in any contact with Fu Yuze in the future. I've made up my mind. I'm going to marry you. As the words fell, Lin Yuqing moved closer to Qin Mo and obediently pounced towards Qin Mo's arms. Only, the other figure was faster. Almost just a blink. Snap. Lin Yuqing only felt a solid slap slapped hard on her face. The force even gave her a ringing in her ears. The whole thing slapped and crawled straight to the ground. The mind was all a jumble. After half a dozen moments, she shook her almost fainting head violently. Incredulously, he covered his face and slowly looked up. In the line of sight, Qin Mo had his hands in his pockets and his eyes were calm as if he was looking at a stranger. Long Zhantian respectfully stood behind Qin Mo. As for the slap just now, it was this woman beside Qin Mo. The woman she never cared for in the first place. Xia Bingyao? Lin Yuqing recognized Xia Bingyao. Recognized this, the blind man who had been adopted by the Qin family 3 years ago. Are you crazy? You, an inferior, dare to hit me? Unable to accept it, Lin Yuqing roared out at Xia Bingyao. Xia Bingyao frowned slightly, a pretty face covered in frost. Stepping forward, her right foot in high heels directly stepped on top of the back of Lin Yuqing's hand. the heels were even set into the flesh. The unspeakably sharp pain caused Lin Yuqing to cry out, "Let go! Xia Bingyao!" Ah! However, Xia Bingyao didn't have any intention of letting go. Instead, she pushed harder and harder. Blood flowed down Lin Yuqing's palm. "Lin Yuqing, since you dare to betray the young master, you should have thought about what kind of consequences you will have. And you still want to marry the young master? What kind of daydreaming is that?" Xia Bingyao spoke coldly. "Well, what's between us is not for you, an underling, to interrupt. Xia Bingyao, I won't let you go. Damn it, I will make you pay. Brother Mo. Brother Mo. You quickly look at this ah." Lin Yuqing hadn't thought of it as nothing more than a dog raised by Qin Mo, a discarded pariah. How dare you treat yourself like that? After she coaxes Qin Mo, the first thing she will do is to make Xia Bingyao, pay for her blood. Bingyao. Until Lin Yuqing's miserable screams grew weaker and weaker. Only then did Qin Mo speak out to stop the scene. Xia Bingyao nodded her head towards Qin Mo in a well-behaved manner. He then let go of Lin Yuqing's hand. After coldly gazing at Lin Yuqing, Xia Bingyao took 2 steps back and stood behind Qin Mo. In place, Lin Yuqing was trembling from the pain. But it was a good thing that Xia Yuqing let go of her hand and retracted her blood-stained palm with a shudder. She raised her head tearfully. Seeing Qin Mo slowly approaching, he then squatted down in front of her. Suffered a lot. Qin Mo's eyes fell above Lin Yuqing's cheeks. A huge X scar covered half of Lin Yuqing's face. The wound had not fully healed, and with only the simplest of hemostatic treatments, it looked extremely grim. "Mo, brother Mo," Lin Yuqing cried. All her grievances could no longer be hidden in front of Qin Mo. Tears poured out like no money. Qin Mo gently probed his hand and wiped away some tears, then stroked over the scar. Although it hurt a little, Lin Yuqing didn't say anything. She knew that Qin Mo was heartbroken. Eyes full of hope stared at Qin Mo. Feeling Qin Mo's palm, he slowly slid down his cheek, up to the neck. "Ink brother, right not." The words could not be finished. The sudden feeling of suffocation caused Lin Yuqing's pupils to shrink violently. Qin Mo had already pinched her neck and was getting harder. Qin Mo's voice, however, was unusually gentle, just as it once was, as he spoke softly, "After suffering so much, you still can't learn a good lesson. Calling Hui? Chapter 22, You love me? Then can you die for me? Well, cough. Mo. Lin Yuqing felt as if she was on the verge of suffocating. In a trance, even the vision began to fade. The brain begins to run out of oxygen and the vital signs begin to fail. She fought to hold Qin Mo's palm, trying to force him to let go. But how could she move Qin Mo's hand with her strength? Qin Mo was still getting harder and harder, and the feeling of suffocation grew stronger and stronger. This made Lin Yuqing seem to realize a fact. Qin Mo seems to really want to kill her. However, it was good that at the last moment, Qin Mo suddenly let go. The long-lost air filled her lungs, and Lin Yuqing took a deep breath of cool air like manna after a long time. The whole thing went limp with powerlessness. A couple of coughs every now and then. "Brother Mo, why are you?" She raised her head incredulously and gazed at Qin Mo, who stood in front of her and was wiping his right hand with a piece of silk scarf. It was the same hand that had just pinched her. This action seemed to confirm how dirty she really was in Qin Mo's heart. The silk scarf was then casually discarded on the floor, not even looking at it, as if it were some kind of trash. "Lin Yuqing, this trip abroad, was it fun?" Qin Mo raised a smile, looking so kind. Just as in the past, Qin Mo would always keep a smile on his face when treating those close to him. "Brother Mo, this time I really know I'm wrong. I was really wrong about the birthday party. But listen to my explanation. This matter is not what you think." Lin Yuqing took 2 difficult steps forward, wanted to hug Qin Mo's thigh. She didn't know what Qin Mo really wanted to do, even treating herself like that just now. But now, Qin Mo was already her only hope. If she wanted to escape this hellish place, she could only rely on Qin Mo. Only Qin Mo had this ability to be able to take her away. Only, her movements were stopped. Xia Bingyao stood out with a cold face and pressed against her shoulder. "There's still stinking blood stains on you. It wouldn't be good to stain young master's clothes." Lin Yuqing looked at Xia Bingyao in front of her in a daze. There was an endless rage burning inside. An underling, a former blind man only. In the past, it was nothing more than a commodity to be called around by himself. Now that they actually dared to treat themselves like this, no one else would be able to accept it. Only, now that the situation was stronger than others, Lin Yuqing didn't dare to continue making a scene, so she could only suppress her inner dissatisfaction and then looked at Qin Mo with a pitiful gaze. "Brother Mo, believe me, I love you in my heart. It's just that it's precisely because I love you so much that..." Put. Qin Mo and also Long Zhantian almost couldn't hold back their laughter. Lin Yuqing was still continuing to open her mouth. "So, I'm afraid that you'll marry your sister in the future. That's why my sister and I want to use Fu Yujie to force you, so that you'll have a bit of a sense of crisis, and make a choice between me and my sister. TSK TSK TSK. Qin Emo shook his head and looked at Long Zhantian behind him. Do you believe it? Long Zhantian stifled his laughter and shook his head before making an assessment. Very lame reason. I guess he just thought of it. No, brother Mo. I didn't lie to you. I dare to swear. Lin Yuqing held up her hands, her eyes filled with determination. Xia Bingyao laughed disdainfully. Lin Yuqing, your brain does turn quickly. I learned about this matter before I came here, and I've also seen Fu Yujie's photos, and I have to say that there are indeed a few similarities with young master. As for you and your sister, you're just using Fu Yuzhe as a substitute for the young master. A better substitute. Because this substitute knows how to coax, will spoil your sisters, even obey them unconditionally, and will pamper you, care for you, and be your lickspittle. And these are things that you can't feel here in the young master, because the young master wouldn't do anything that lowly. So Fu Yuzhe became the vent for your sister's twisted hearts, and without realizing it, you got closer and closer. But this incident made you realize that Fu Yuzhe can't be relied on at all. Even your own sister can't be relied on. At the note of life and death, they are able to abandon you without hesitation. So you want to climb back up to the young master here. The more Lin Yuqing listened, the more emotional she became. It even began to rage, as if its inner nuggets were being made public by someone else, beginning to eagerly try to deny it. No, it isn't. It isn't. You're just an underling. What gives you the right to slander me like that? Brother Mo. Don't believe her. I definitely don't think like that. Believe me, we're childhood friends. Qin Mo sighed and gazed at Lin Yuqing. So, alright, do you think I'll still believe you now? Qin Mo somewhat impatiently interrupted Lin Yuqing. You say you love me? Then let me ask you a question. Qin Mo said. Brother Mo. You say. Lin Yuqing all of a sudden, as if she had found hope, perked up. Can you die for me? Qin Mo looked straight into Lin Yuqing's eyes. Can you die for me? Qin Mo's words resounded in Lin Yuqing's ears. She stared at Qin Mo incredulously, not knowing why Qin Mo asked this question. Willing? Qin Mo softly inquired, and one hand even lightly caressed the top of Lin Yuqing's head. It seemed to be the shadow of what she had just seen, and she dodged out of instinct. However, after realizing that Qin Mo did not take the next step, she was a little embarrassed and allowed Qin Mo to caress her head lightly. Her gaze began to dodge, not daring to meet Qin Mo's eyes in. It looks like you were merely lying to me just now. Qin Mo withdrew his hand with some disappointment. Then there's no need to save you. After saying that, he intended to leave with Xia Bingyao and the others. Lin Yuqing didn't want to continue staying in this infernal hell. It was simply a punishment worse than death. The moment she saw Qin Mo making a move to leave, Lin Yuqing panicked. Brother Mo, don't go. I'm willing to die for you. As expected, Qin Mo, who had turned his back, stopped in his tracks. Under the dim light, the corner of Qin Mo's mouth raised a smile of unknown meaning. Slowly turning around, Qin Mo gazed at Lin Yuqing, who was paralyzed on the ground. Rainy, it seems that you really love me. Of course, I've always loved you deeply. Lin Yuqing's tone carried certainty. Even the eyes were firm. This woman is so ruthless that she can even fool herself. Qin Mo reached out his hand and pulled out an agreement from his pocket. It appeared to be a parchment scroll, with extremely intricate lines outlined in pen at the top, with text. Bringing it in front of Lin Yuqing, Qin Mo gently leaned in and murmured in her ear. In that case, prove it to me. If you love me, then give 50 years of your life for me. Lin Yuqing's pupils contracted. 50 years of life? What do you mean? Is it to let yourself follow Qin Mo for the rest of your life to make up for Qin Mo? Lin Yuqing couldn't understand the words. And of course, it won't be for nothing. Sign this and I'll give you the power of vengeance. Chapter 23. Let them all go to hell. The underlying logic of the system's trading function is that of equivalence. The system issued a task and Qin Mo went to execute it. The end result is a bargaining chip in exchange for the beneficiary's ability or money. For example, the system had once issued a mission to Qin Mo that required him to bring the Lin family sisters to their senses, eventually forgives the Lin sisters and lives happily ever after. This was the result, and the bargaining chip in exchange for the heroine's Qi on the Lin sisters, as well as other things. And with the system under Qin Mo's control, he had also studied this function, didn't think it was necessary to go to all that trouble at all. Hence the drumming up of this contract-like thing. What you give and what you get is clearly written. All one needed to do was sign their name, and the moment the deal was finalized, the contract would also come into effect, thus taking away the 50 years of life that Lin Yuqing had to pay for. Of course, trade. There is something to be lost and something to be gained. And the condition given by Qin Mo is to help Lin Yuqing, to take revenge on Lin Yue, Fu Yuze, and the Lin family. According to the way things were going, Lin Yuqing, the eldest young lady who could do nothing for the rest of her life, could never have the chance to be able to take revenge on the Lin family. Therefore, Qin Mo helped her by taking away 50 years of life. That makes sense. The electronic voice of the system resounded in Qin Mo's mind. To be honest, Master, I thought that you might choose to forgive Lin Yuqing after seeing her, and I also thought about how you would retaliate against her, but I didn't think you would actually be this ruthless. One must know that in the system's original plan, Qin Mo had completed his mission and was happily together with the Lin sisters, and the reward the system would receive would only be a 10-year lifespan. In other words, the two sisters of the Lin family, one of them would have 5 years of their lifespan siphoned off by the system without a sound. But now, Qin Mo wanted 50 years on just one person. That's a lion's share. But nothing really horrified the system genie more than the fact that this deal actually stood. In other words, it was reasonable for Qin Mo to use helping Lin Yuqing take revenge as a bargaining chip in exchange for a 50-year lifespan. It was important to know that although the Lin family sisters had outstanding longevity on their profile, they were only 100 years old. Now, more than 20 years had passed, and this mouth of Qin Mo's was another 50 years. In other words, the moment the deal was completed, Lin Yuqing would instantly turn into an old woman who couldn't even straighten her back. No one can survive such a blow. That's worse than taking a life. Qin Mo didn't care about the words of the system elf, lightly responding, "Have you forgotten? I'm a businessman." With a wave of his hand, he severed the connection with the system. Qin Mo looked at Lin Yuqing. "What? Don't dare? How?" Lin Yuqing snapped back. He took the deed directly, and without looking at it, he simply signed his big name. To her, it was similar to just selling her body. For the rest of her life to come, she would always take care of Qin Mo for 50 years. But so what? It wasn't something that couldn't be accepted. After all was said and done, she had lost everything now. You can only rely on Qin Mo. Now that Qin Mo was able to accept her, it was just what she wanted. From now on, she was about to become the mistress of the Qin family. Ah, you're just going to sign it without even looking at it? Qin Mo took the contract and asked with interest. "What's there to see?" I said, "Brother Mo, I love you. For you, I'm not even afraid of death." Lin Yuqing looked at Qin Mo with deep affection. Qin Mo laughed and said meaningfully, "I hope you're really not afraid." Lin Yuqing didn't hear the meaning of these words, and a bright smile spread on her face. Then, "Brother Mo, quickly take me home." "Here, I don't want to be here a minute longer." "There's no rush." Qin Mo interrupted Lin Yuqing and put the contract away. Then asked, "What are you going to do about your sister and Fu Yuze?" Speaking here, a flash of hatred flashed in Lin Yuqing's eyes. "Brother Mo, I'm going to make them regret it." Deadly clenching her fists, she looked at Qin Mo. "So, let's get married quickly. I want to let my sister know how wrong her choice really was. And Fu Yuze, I'll make sure he kneels down and admits his mistake." Hearing this, Qin Mo raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but roll his eyes. Sure enough, it's worthy of being the odd one out in the female genre. It's always the same thing that makes others regret it. Fantasizing that someone else will come to their senses and regret it for the rest of their lives? It looks like you're still a bit confused. Qin Mo shook his head, gesturing for Long Zhantian to come forward. Show her how her good sister and former sweetheart dealt with her. And oh yes, her beloved father. Long Zhantian came up and pulled out a cell phone video and clicked play. Video content. It's the Lin family's villa, Lin Zhao's study. Looking at the footage, it appears to be something recorded by a hidden security camera. Lin Yuqing was shocked why Qin Mo had such a video in his hands. Even within the Lin family's villa, there are Qin Mo's spies? But the next moment, the sound coming out from within the video made Lin Yuqing have absolutely no time to care about that. For, with her own ears, she had heard the contents of her father's telephone conversation with the butler. The butler reported the kidnapping to Lin Zhao, and asked Lin Zhao if he wanted to send more people to retrieve Lin Yuqing. But Lin Zhao's answer made Lin Yuqing instantly fall into an ice cave. There is no need. The incident has already passed to a day and a night. Yuqing, even if still alive, I'm afraid that they have already lost their bodies. Maybe even a missing arm or leg. Such a Yuqing is no longer of any use to the Lin family. And there won't be that magnate who can be in a position to want Lin Yuqing. Bringing it back to the Lin family is instead a shame, a laughingstock. Besides, nowadays, the form of my Lin family is in danger. I simply don't have that much heart to care about her. So let's just leave it at that. However, superficial efforts still need to be done. In the middle of the video screen, Lin Zhao's face was no longer as loving as it once was. There is only endless indifference. It wasn't true that he was a thug. It wasn't true that he wasn't very capable. But it was true that he was able to develop and, step after step, get to the point where he could speak in the imperial capital. He is clearly not a kind person. He is a stock egoist. Daughter, who can neither inherit the Lin family nor carry on the family line for Lin Xiao. For him, it was nothing more than a bargaining chip for the family to get to the next level. And if, once a daughter has lost her usefulness, there is nothing worth keeping. Lin Yuqing sky stepping. Yes, even though he was betrayed by Lin Yue, even though he was abandoned by Fu Yuze, but at least, she thought she was still Lin Xiao's daughter. As long as she could go back, Lin Xiao would also definitely be able to help her and punish Lin Yuqing severely. But I didn't expect things to go this way. However, that wasn't the end of it. Immediately afterward, Long Zhantian played another video. This is an interview with Lin Yue and also Fu Yuze by reporters inside the hospital on the vacation island. In the middle of the interview, Lin Yue was in tears, denouncing her failure to be a qualified sister, failed to protect his dear sister. Even though he tried his best, he couldn't save his sister from the gang of robbers. Throughout the whole thing, Lin Yue had packaged herself as a person with a fearless spirit. Even more, she claimed that if she could, she would have preferred that it was she who was taken by the thugs. Fu Yuze also spoke helpfully from the sidelines, said that if he hadn't been trying to save Lin Yuqing at that time, he wouldn't have gotten his leg broken. But sadly, they failed, so they beat themselves up and cried in front of the media. But, obviously in the first place, they were the ones who, in order to be born, and with their own hands, pushed themselves, their own sister, into the abyss. Lin Yuqing watched everything in the video, and the anger within her had long since reached its peak. Her forehead veins rippled, her gaze itching to go through the cell phone and lynch those two dogs and men alive in general. And this, too, was the effect Qin Mo wanted. Immediately after, he asked Xia Bingyao to take out a document bag. The Lin family is now facing a crisis, and the major shareholders have been selling off their shares in their hands, which were bought by me, handing it over to Lin Yuqing. As long as you want, you are the head of the Lin family. I told you I'd give you the power of vengeance if you agreed. Lin Yuqing slowly raised her head and her gaze locked with Qin Mo. Slowly, he lifted his hand and grabbed the paper bag, deadly grasping the pile of papers. Lin Yuqing's face suddenly became hideous. You're right. They all can't wait for me to die. So in that case, I'll let them all go to hell. Chapter 24, There's someone above you, but there's no one above me. Very good. Very good. Qin Mo was satisfied with the current attitude of Lin Yuqing. Life is like a play, and a play always needs a little reversal to be interesting. Lin Yue, who has gone to great lengths to package herself as an innocent white lotus, and Fu Yuze, as well as Lin Xiao, who has even gone so far as to leave his own daughter behind for the sake of power. If they found that Lin Yuqing, who should have originally disappeared and should have been given to be defiled, appeared in front of them, even, it was in the capacity of the Lin family's largest shareholder, what exactly will be the expression? And will Lin Yuqing go soft on her ultimate revenge plan? Qin Mo was curious. This is a drama that will soon come to a climax. Soon, Lin Yuqing was taken away from here by Qin Mo's men and headed to the hospital for treatment, and Qin Mo and the others had already left the villa. Inside the car, Qin Mo received the information handed by his men. The Lin family's company is now on the verge of collapse. The major investors had withdrawn their capital. However, Qin Mo did not intend to crush the Lin family at once. Therefore, after letting out the word that he would not cooperate with the Lin family that day, there was no movement. That's why the present-day Lin family can still hang on to their breath. But the days are numbered. Without a new partner, according to professional estimates, the Lin family wouldn't even last 10 days. 10 days. Qin Mo played with Xia Bingyao's soft little hand. Gently, he said, 10 days is more than enough. But, young master, our men have discovered something. Suddenly, Long Zhantian seemed to think of something and said, in the past 2 days, we monitored that old boy Lin Xiao, visiting the Lu family. Do you think it will? The Lu family, a top-ranking family in the imperial capital, has been in business for generations and is extremely strong. If the Qin family was recognized as the #1 powerful family, then the assets of the Lu family were enough to squeeze into the top 4 in the imperial capital. The volume is also extremely large. Looks like this Lin Xiao isn't a sitting duck either. Qin Mo smiled. During this period of time, Lin Xiao was indeed struggling to find a way out. But what does Lin Xiao have that can impress the Lu family? Although Xia Bingyao had left the imperial capital for 3 years, but it wasn't like she didn't know everything, and with diligent study, she knew a lot of things. There was also some understanding of the Lu family. In her opinion, such a family should not have risked offending the Qin family by contacting the Lin family, a downtrodden family. What else can be done? What else would that guy do besides selling his daughter? Qin Mo didn't care. Young master, you mean those two young masters of the Lu family? Long Zhantian reacted in an instant. Speaking of which, this Lu family was also a standard model abusive family in Qin Mo's eyes. In the early years, the Ryu family had 4 daughters. It was hard to get to the 5th before a son was born. As a result, he was lost in an accident as a child. Ringed with guilt over their lost son, the Ryu family, a pair of psychopaths, actually went to the orphanage to re-adopt a foster son, and it is loved in every way. Gradually, he forgot about his own son until years later, when he had news of his former lost son. There was no way. For the sake of face, the Lu family had to bring back this biological son. The most outrageous is here. After picking him up, the Lu family couple, including the 4 sisters, disliked this biological son beyond measure. It is thought to have been raised crookedly as a child and to have an air of poverty, and then has not been treating the biological son well. It's really a family of brainiacs, and fits well into this world of female abuse. If the Lin family wants to climb up to the Lu family, it's nothing more than selling his daughter. Those capitals of his, the Lu family can't look at them. Qin Mo said. So, should we intervene? Long Zhantian asked. Just a jumping clown. Qin Mo didn't care about any Lu family. The top 4 families in the imperial capital sounds quite bluffing. In the end, it's just a plutocratic family. There might be someone above them, but I'm sorry to say that there's really no one above the Qin family. In this world, being rich doesn't mean anything. Those who are rich and powerful are the real masters. The first is the first because the highest is only the first. And the reason fourth is because he can only get to 4th. This is the gap between the two families, like a chasm. The Qin family of the previous generation was relatively low profile and unobtrusive, but it didn't mean that the Qin family would be afraid of anyone, nor did it mean that Qin Mo would be as low profile as the previous generation. Ignore it for the time being. If the Lu family dares to make a spectacle of this, then I wouldn't mind cleaning it up piece by piece, and expanding the Qin family's power in the meantime. Long Zhantian reacted at the first time and laughed. I understand. The master is famous. The Lin family's affairs were not in a hurry for now. Lin Yuqing was still recuperating from her injuries, and Lin Yue hadn't returned. The spectacle of family infighting won't play out for a while. Qin Mo, who had nothing to do, took Xia Bingyao and flew to Magic City after inspecting a circle of the company. The matters of the Xia family had to be dealt with. After all, nowadays, everything in the Xia family originally belonged to Xia Bingyao. She had planned to go by herself, but, as Qin Mo happened to have nothing to do, she followed to join in the fun. Xia Bingyao had her own plans for these years, even though she was not in the country. However, private detectives have always been hired to monitor the Xia family's every move. Having also found many evidence of the Xia family's crimes, Xia Bingyao had full confidence that she would be able to take it all back this time. Anyway, if it can't be managed, I can help you. Inside a cafe in Magic City, Qin Mo sipped his coffee and said calmly, that's right, and if it's too much of a hassle, I can just make the Xia family's group disappear. Long Zhantian, who accompanied him from the side, also expressed his opinion. Xia Bingyao was looking over the series of information that the private detective had just handed over to her. Listening to the duo's words, they couldn't help but cover their mouths with a smile. Don't worry, I can fix it. If I can't even handle the Xia family, how can I stand by young master's side? Her beautiful eyes looked at Qin Mo, who was at the side, and said. Qin Mo shrugged his shoulders. It was undeniable that Xia Bingyao was indeed a genius, in every sense of the word. Therefore, Qin Mo also believed that Xia Bingyao could do it. Then what are you going to do? Qin Mo asked. Xia Bingyao organized the information in her hand, then pulled out a piece of paper and placed it in front of Qin Mo. Revenge. One by one, the Xia family deserves to die. Let's start with the precious daughter they've always loved. Xia Ruyan. Coldness flared in Xia Bingyao's eyes. Xia Ruyan, the woman who once switched lives with her, not only enjoying everything that originally belonged to Xia Bingyao, but even cooperating with her heartless father Xia Hongjun and that damned mistress to persecute Xia Bingyao's own mother Su Choya. As a result, Su Choya disappeared and has not been heard from since. And on the paper that was placed in front of Qin Mo, a person's experience was clearly written. Su Zian. Qin Mo remembered that this guy, whom he had met yesterday at the airport, was the abusive male protagonist who had been personally sent by Xia Ruyan to the Male Virtue Academy for inhumane torture. You're going to start with him? It suddenly occurred to Qin Mo that this guy was at least a male protagonist, and he still carried a special physique that was far beyond the ordinary. Maybe, can trade with it. Thinking of this, Qin Mo, who had nothing to do, suddenly became interested. It's a bit interesting. Chapter 25. A pain deep in the bone. Magic City. Xia family. Inside the bright and spacious villa, it was not as cold as usual. but even a little lively. Xia Hongjun, the head of the Xia family, and Sumu Love, who is a mistress on the throne. There is also the current Xia family's daughter, Xia Ruyan, as well as Xia Ruyan's male best friend, Ji Boda. A group of 4 people were sitting happily around the dining table, waiting for the feast to begin. The atmosphere was incredibly harmonious until Xia Ruyan's male best friend, Ji Boda, suddenly looked around and asked with some confusion, "Speaking of which, where is Ruyan's fiancée? Su Ziyan? Wasn't today said to be a reception for Su Ziyan? Why don't we see anyone else?" Ji Boda's words fell, and the atmosphere that had just been hot was a bit cold in a flash. Xia Hongjun as well as Su Myuki's expressions became a bit displeased. They didn't like Su Ziyan, but nay, in the past, Xia Ruyan had said whatever she wanted to marry Su Ziyan, so they had no choice but to agree to their engagement. Afterwards, I heard that the two had some kind of conflict, and Xia Ruyan made the decision to send Su Ziyan to further study. A year passed, and both of them thought that Xia Ruyan had forgotten Su Ziyan and started to try to socialize with Ji Boda to come. After all, Ji Boda was also one of the powerful families in Magic City, and in terms of status and position, he was worthy of Xia Ruyan. But I didn't expect that yesterday. Xia Ruyan actually picked up that Su Ziyan. The two of them couldn't figure out what exactly Xia Ruyan wanted. Today's banquet was said to be a reception for Su Ziyan, but if Ji Boda hadn't also come, they would never have shown up. Xia Hongxian glanced at Xia Ruyan. "Look at you. What kind of person did you pick? Is it hard to want me and your mom, the elders, to wait for him? What a scandal." Xia Ruyan, who had been reprimanded, also pursed her lips in a somewhat aggrieved manner. To be honest, he had just been so focused on chatting with Ji Boda that he hadn't noticed that Su Ziyan hadn't shown up at all. "You guys wait, I'll go get him." As the words fell, Xia Ruyan left the table, and the Xia family's villa wasn't too big. Soon, she spotted Su Ziyan, who was in the kitchen, eating at a table with his underlings. All of a sudden, Xia Ruyan's brows furrowed. There was some hidden anger. She stepped forward and overturned Su Ziyan's rice bowl. "Su Ziyan, are you not finished? You've been avoiding me since yesterday. What the hell are you so mad about?" Maybe Xia Ruyan was angry. Su Ziyan was instantly frightened until his legs went weak. "I'm sorry, miss. It's me who disobeyed. It's me who made miss angry." He was all too familiar with that tone. During that hellish past year, anytime those people didn't sound right, Su Ziyan would be the catharsis. That pile piece had become Su Ziyan's psychological shadow, as if it had been integrated into his soul, and simply could not be waved away. Xia Ruyan froze, incredulously looking at Su Ziyan at this moment. It was even a little hard to believe my eyes. "You know, how good was Su Ziyan once? In the school is a proper school bully, and because of this, it will attract the favor of Xia Ruyan. How now, will become this?" Xia Ruyan can't understand all of this, and even calls herself miss? That's not what Su Ziyan used to call him. "What did you just call me? Didn't you call me Ruyan before?" At those words Su Ziyan shuddered. Couldn't help but think of the rules of that horrible place. Rule number 1. To figure out who he is, he's nothing more than an underling. An underling is not allowed to call a lady by her name. Failure to do so is subject to extremely harsh penalties. Su Ziyan, who had just gone in, didn't believe in this article, and as a result, he was severely whipped by a group of people for 99 lashes that night. Every whip that went down was skinned. He could only reflect on himself. "I was wrong to call MS by her first name." These words had almost penetrated into the marrow of Su Ziyan's bones. He didn't dare to look up at Xia Ruyan, and could only bury his head, not daring to speak. Xia Ruyan frowned when she saw this. "Forget it, don't call anything miss in the future, you hear me." Su Ziyan was bitter inside. It was clear that Xia Ruyan cared more about the things that concerned her than what happened to her. Silently, he nodded. "I know." Xia Ruyan didn't say anything more as she took Su Ziyan to the restaurant to dine. Here, Su Ziyan saw Ji Boda. It was because of Ji Boda's suggestion in the beginning that Xia Ruyan had sent Su Ziyan to that horrible place and suffered this endless torture. And at the moment, Jibda still had a gentle smile on his face. Appearing extremely enthusiastic, he greeted Su Ziyan as he took his seat. Come on. We haven't seen each other for a long time since you went for further studies. You don't know how much I've missed you." Ji Boda wore a smile on his face as he stepped forward to pull out a chair for Su Ziyan. Su Ziyan hated the man in front of him. However, the hellish life for more than a year had completely polished off all of Su Ziyan's heart, and he simply didn't dare to offend Ji Boda at all. He was afraid that Jibda would send him back to that horrible place again. He could only allow himself to be pulled, and then forcefully pressed down on top of the table and chairs. Almost subconsciously, Su Ziyan jumped violently, with panic in his eyes. No. How can an underling share a meal with the young lady? The lords? The 12th rule of that place says that underlings are not allowed to dine with others. While there, first-timer Su Zian didn't know any better, and was subsequently kicked off the table by the hot rice, with soup and vegetables, poured all over his hands, blistering his back. Who gave you permission to be at the table? The obese woman punished him extremely harshly with a swollen mouth. During that time, he couldn't even swallow hard enough to eat. Even though the injury had long since recovered, the pain was so deep in his bones that he couldn't forget it. In the villa, Su Zian stood timidly at the dining table. Everyone here was dumbfounded. The already unhappy faces of the Xia family's parents became even more ugly by a few points. Even Xia Ruyan was completely enraged. Su Zian, there has to be a limit to your pretending to be crazy, right? If your aim is to attract my attention, then I'm telling you, don't daydream. You're acting childish like that. Know what? Since you don't want to eat this meal properly today, get the hell out of here. Su Zian was driven out of the villa by the Xia family's people and stood within the garden to face the wall, but he didn't have any expression on his face. On the contrary, he was relieved after moving away from that family. He wanted to run away from the Xia family, but he knew that Xia Ruyan wouldn't just let himself go. The present situation is good enough. One only needs to try to avoid contact with the Xia family, so that it is good. Su Zian stood within the garden and fought very unprofessionally. However, just at that moment, a voice rang in his ears. TSK, 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 what a pity. Obviously the main character of the banquet, but ended up being kicked out. It's the first time I've encountered such a thing. Su Zian froze and looked around in some shock. It was only then that he realized that a man had walked slowly out from behind a tree not far from him. The man was extremely large, with his arms wrapped around him and a slightly pathetic look in his gaze. Who are you? Me? You don't need to know. All you need to know is that my boss wants to see you. Long Zhantian raised the corner of his mouth and quickly stepped forward, his speed even pulling out a trail of residual shadows. Under the touch, he directly grabbed Su Zian's shoulder. What are you going to do? Before Su Zian even dropped his words, his entire body had already been pulled by Long Zhantian and disappeared into thin air. Chapter 26 I'm going to make their lives worse than death. Being taken away in confusion, Su Zian's head was full of question marks. He was tempted to ask who the man behind him really was, but the other party's force was surprisingly strong, not allowing Su Zian to put up any resistance at all. It was easily crushed within a luxury car parked outside the villa. Who the hell are you? Who's your boss again? What are you arresting me for? Su Zian's words were tinged with fear. The past year since has traumatized his heart. It's natural to panic inside when it happens again that you've been inexplicably taken away. Soon, however, the vehicle came to a stop. Follow me. Dragon Warrior Genius didn't bother to talk nonsense with Su Zian. Took him directly out of the car. It wasn't until this moment that Su Zian was surprised to realize that this was the main entrance of the security bureau. What did you bring me here for? Su Zian is completely unknown. If this group of people is trying to kidnap themselves, then why would they bring themselves here? Isn't that purely self-inflicted? Of course it's to help you. Long Zhantian laughed. Having been bullied so badly by others, are you going to tolerate it like this? Soon, under the leadership of Long Zhantian, Su Zian arrived inside the director's office and met the two Qin and Mo Xiaobingya who were waiting here, and a man in uniform. The man's stance was straight and imposing, and at a glance, he knew that this was a big shot that Su Zian normally could not even come into contact with, and the stars on his shoulder badge signaled the other party's high rank. And the most surprising thing is that at this moment, this big shot is serving tea to Qin Mo and Xiaobingya. What is the origin of these two young men? Su Zian, who had been pushed in, stood in the office in some haste, his expression tinged with panic. Qin Mo lit a cigarette, then said toward the uniformed man, Uncle Bai, let me talk to him alone. After glancing at Su Zian, the director of the Magic City Security Bureau nodded towards Qin Mo. Just talk to me directly if you need anything later. Don't worry, there are still times when I'll let you help. Qin Mo smiled and watched the director leave. Only then did he set his eyes on Su Zian. Relax, I don't mean you any harm. So, you guys are. Su Zian looked at the two men suspiciously. Xiaobingya stood out. The past year hasn't been easy for you, has it? When these words came out, Su Zian shuddered violently almost as a reflex. If you are given a chance, do you want revenge? Xiaobingya said succinctly. Not only that, as long as you agree, we can also help you escape the clutches of the Xia family. You guys are going to help me? Su Zian felt a bit incredulous. These were two people he didn't recognize at all, and he had only met them for the first time even today. Why would the other guy help himself? And why should he help himself? In response, Xiaobingya smiled faintly. Of course it's not for nothing, because we all have the same enemy. The same enemy? You mean the Xia family? Su Ziyan seemed to have realized something. You don't need to know so much. I'm only asking you. Want revenge? Xia Bingyao was in no mood to explain so much to him. Azure eyes, staring quietly at Su Ziyan. Calmly, he waited for Su Ziyan's reply. Su Ziyan's gaze was complicated, and the emotions in his eyes churned, eventually turning into a touch of hatred. He recalled back to a time when Xia Ruyan had treated herself with indifference to the extreme. It also recalled the mocking and disdainful look in Jibota's eyes, and even more so, all the injuries he had suffered within the past year. If I can, I want revenge. I want to make their lives worse than death. At this moment, the emotions that had been building up inside for a long time completely exploded. The Clayman still has a temper. What's more, he's a human being, a living, breathing human being with character and dignity. He hated Xia Ruyan, hated Jibota, and hated the Xia family. If he could, he'd hate to have the group try what he'd been through. The anger in Su Ziyan's eyes could not be faked. Qin Mo, who had been sitting in his chair without making a sound, spoke up at this moment. Out of nowhere, he pulled out a parchment scroll. It was then handed to Su Ziyan. Sign him, and we'll grant your wish afterward. Su Ziyan took the parchment scroll, and the text on it was very brief. The content was that Qin Mo helped him, took revenge on the Xia family, and helped him escape from Xia Ruyan's clutches. And the price is his special physique. For this piece of paper, Su Ziyan couldn't understand it. Wanting his special physique? What special physique could he have? Besides, how does Qin Mo want this? Couldn't figure it out. But the conditions promised by Qin Mo were tempting. As long as he signed the name, he could get rid of that crazy woman Xia Ruyan. By signing his name, he could make those who had bullied him pay. There's no reason for him not to sign it. With hardly any thought, Su Ziyan signed his big name. Mr. Qin hopes that you will be true to your word. From the deed, he learned Qin Mo's name. Of course, Qin Mo raised his smile slightly and took the contract. Seeing this, Xia Bingyao spoke out. Go to the door and look for the man who was just there. He'll take you to have your injuries examined, and then you'll act as a witness to accuse Xia Ruyan of illegally imprisoning and abusing you. Su Ziyan froze. So, you mean that I'll sue the Xia family? Xia Bingyao rolled her eyes. Or what? But shouldn't you be? Between your gentry? You don't need to ask that much. Just do as you're told. Xia Bingyao coldly glanced at Su Ziyan. Su Ziyan didn't dare to speak at once. Xia Bingyao certainly knew that this alone would not move the Xia family. Couldn't even convict Xia Ruyan. However, as long as Xia Ruyan is accused, as long as there is suspicion on her, she will be recognized as a suspect. Plus, under the investigation of these years, Xia Bingyao has clearly grasped the criminal of Xia Hongjuan's persecution of Su Qiuya 3 years ago with his mistress Su Muya. It was enough to send the two of them in, and at that time, the inheritance of the Xia family would naturally return to Xia Bingyao's hands. There's no way the Xia family's estate could be handed over to a suspect. Of course, it would be too cheap to just put the group in jail. Going to jail or prison, and exactly which one, is up to them. Qin Mo was still looking at the parchment scroll. Xia Bingyao walked behind Qin Mo and kneaded his shoulders. Young master, I really thank you this time. Although I said that I wanted to rely on my own strength to move to the Xia family, ultimately I still need you to step forward. Xia Bingyao smiled helplessly. There's no need to get entangled. I have my own plans. You're now a member of my Qin family, and if all the Qin family members are bullied, if they don't even help to stand up for themselves, then how can so many people under my hand work for me? Qin Mo's expression remained unchanged as he calmly said, and, for that matter, I'm interested. Speaking here, Qin Mo suddenly asked, do you think Su Ziyan can really be ruthless enough to take revenge on Xia Ruyan? Xia Bingyao's hand lurched. A little puzzled, surely it will just now I looked at his eyes. He doesn't look like he's pretending. It's only right that he really hates Xia Ruyan. The hate is true. But, forget it, let us make a bet. Qin Mo suddenly became interested. I bet that Su Ziyan can't lay his hands on Xia Ruyan. Qin Mo stared at Su Ziyan, who had been taken away from the door. The corner of his mouth raised in a playful smile. Chapter 27, How boring is it to use your fists? Use this. The sheriff's department moves quickly. There was also the reason why Qin Mo was sitting in the director's office at the moment, waiting. Su Ziyan gave a clear account of all the encounters of the past year. Even took off his clothes to show the sheriff's department all the injuries on his body. Although Su Ziyan's physique was special and his recovery power was surprisingly strong. However, there are many injuries that leave scars even after recovery. Dense, horrifyingly hideous scars crisscrossed over Su Ziyan's body. The people watching the sheriff's department were secretly shocked. There weren't even a few good pieces of flesh left on this guy. If it was on an ordinary person, with such a serious scar, the person would probably be long gone. It was only Su Ziyan who was able to resist it hard. The next thing is simple. The security bureau was mobilized on the spot and went to the Xia family villa to arrest them. At this moment, the Xia family villa was still immersed in a joyful and peaceful atmosphere. Xia Hongjun, Su Muki, Xia Ruyan, and Ji Boda, who had come as a guest. The group didn't even realize that Su Zian, who was supposed to be outside the door, had long since disappeared in hours. It wasn't until the people from the security bureau came to their door that they realized that Guy Su Zian dared to sue them. With a face of anger, Xia Ruyan as well as Ji Boda were brought inside the security bureau. The two were grilled hard for the rest of the night. However, this matter, Xia Ruyan as well as Ji Boda balked at the fact that they had no knowledge of it, and they didn't know which academy would treat Su Zian in such a manner. With such remarks, it was not possible to convict the two men straight away, but only to designate them as suspects pending the investigation of the matter. Neither can leave the sheriff's office until the results of the investigation are known. That means, two people were detained. This stopped the interrogation until dawn. A staff member will then take them to the underground cells of the sheriff's office. Xia Ruyan's eyes were covered in blood, and her silver teeth gritted and creaked. She hadn't expected that Su Zian would choose to send her to the security house. Is this some kind of joke? He himself was just letting Su Zian learn some rules and knocking on the door. How dare this asshole do this to himself? Doesn't Su Zian know that he is planning to marry him in the future? Look at the vigilante in front of you who is packing up his materials and getting ready to leave. Xia Ruyan couldn't help but say, "Since you're done asking, can I go now?" She was still anxious to go to Su Zian and question why that guy did this to her. Where's the time to waste here? However, the staff member just glanced at her. Leave? No, you can't leave yet. Are you kidding me? Jibda said with a frown. Do you know who we are? Ji Boda's family is also quite a bit of strength in the Magic City. Usually something happens, one does not even have to come to the security bureau. These guys wouldn't dare arrest themselves. Now not only are they arrested, they're going to be detained? The staff also hated this group of do-nothing magnates, who used to be forced by the power to not dare to touch them. But today, the higher-ups have said that these two can't be released on bail in any case. With orders from the top, where do they need to hold back? What do I care who you are? Do you guys know what this place is? The staff member bristled with disdain, then turned to leave. You guys, dare to treat us like this? Believe it or not, we'll make you lose your job? Xia Ruyan was angry and wanted to theorize, but the person had already walked away. Bastard! Xia Ruyan violently hammered her fist on the desktop. Don't worry, Auntie and Uncle Ruyan will save us, and my parents won't sit idly by. Ji Boda comforted. It is true that the parents of both families do not sit around and do nothing, but, at the entrance of the security bureau, Xia Hongjun was directly forced out by two staff members. Don't even think about it. There are orders from the top this time. No bail. Instead of thinking about how to fish for people, why don't you go and think about how to get understanding from the other side? The staff's attitude was firm. This made Xia Hongjun feel a little strange. This time things are really evil. In the past these staff members were all respectful to him. Even where the chief of the sheriff's department is concerned, he himself can say a few words. Today, I had thought of coming to deliver a favor, but who knows? I was directly blown out without even meeting the director. And it wasn't just that. Even on the Ji family's side, trying to dredge up relations was a fruitless endeavor. In any case, the sheriff's department just said, "Man, can't be released." Is it hard to believe that? Ruyan has offended some big shot? Xia Hongjun tightly. There is only one explanation nowadays. How else could the sheriff's department be so tough? It must have offended someone. And this person is likely to be in existence that they can't mess with. Thinking of this, Xia Hongjun also couldn't sit still and rushed back to the company. He wanted to inquire and find out who was trying to target Xia Ruyan, targeting their Xia family, completely unaware of the situation outside. Xia Ruyan and Ji Boda are still waiting for their family members to step in and save them. And just then, an uninvited guest walked in. Xia Ruyan's pupils contracted violently. Su Zian. Ji Boda also froze, not expecting the culprit, Su Zian, to appear in front of them in such a watery manner. Immediately after, there was a burst of anger. Good for you, Su Zian. Thanks to Ruyan loving you so much, but as a result, this is how you return the favor. It seems that the past year still hasn't taught you what it means to be disciplined. You're out of control. The two men's questioning immediately caused Su Zian's feet to tremble. Past memories came flooding back like a tidal wave. It was a fear that originated from the bottom of his heart, and at this moment, Su Zian almost couldn't even stand still. Well, at that moment, two footsteps once again sounded outside the door. How can you be arrogant when you're a prisoner? My good sister. Xia Ruyan directly paused. The expression carried a touch of shock, with incredulity as he looked towards the door. She saw someone she never wanted to see again in her life. Xia Bingyao. It wasn't just Xia Bingyao. Behind her, there was also a man. The man had handsome features and an extremely handsome face. However, the expression was playful, and even the eyes that looked at himself were tinged with a bit of contempt. As a magnate, she had seen Shin Mo, only with her status, she couldn't get close to him at all, and could only watch from afar at a certain banquet. I did not expect that Shin Mo, the crown prince of the Beijing circle, was here. Can't it be that he's here to help Xia Bingyao? Xia Bingyao, why are you here? What? Should I be a beggar on the streets if I'm not here? Xia Bingyao and Shin Mo walked in and sat in the interrogator's seat. His eyes looked at Xia Ruyan as well as Ji Boda playfully. Ruyan, you know them? Ji Boda was a bit puzzled. However, Xia Ruyan didn't reply, but instead stared dead on at Xia Bingyao, even locking eyes with her. And for a split second, Xia Ruyan skimmed her eyes away sheepishly. But then came the shock. Your eyes? Surprised? Still, you should hold your horses for now. Let's talk about you. Xia Bingyao wore a smile, but her tone was incomparably cold. Xia Ruyan now understood this matter. Is it you who are behind this? She glanced violently at Su Zian and said angrily, Su Zian, you helped someone else against me? Ji Boda was also enraged and stepped forward. Su Zian, I think you want to go back to that place, actually helping outsiders to deal with Ruyan. Only, just as he stepped forward, Shin Mo's gaze fell on him. What for? Did I give you permission to come up here? None of your business. Before Ji Boda's words fell, Shin Mo violently got up and kicked Ji Boda directly in the chest. In an instant, a huge force came, and Ji Boda's face became distorted. It was as if the air had been cut off in an instant, and it was incredibly difficult to even breathe. The whole person was like a kite with broken strings, flew out and ruthlessly smashed on top of the wall. As someone who could crush Dragon King Long Zhantian on his own, Shin Mo's force value was naturally strong to the point of being terrifying. Just one kick directly broke 3 of Ji Boda's ribs. Scarlet blood spurted out like no money. Xia Ruyan was dumbfounded by this scene, standing frozen in place. She didn't react until Jibda was curled up in pain and thrashing around on the floor. You're crazy. This is the sheriff's office. How dare you make a move here? Believe it or not, I'll sue you. At these words, Xia Bingyao's face also turned cold, got up, walked around the table, and came in front of Xia Ruyan. Without hesitation, it was a slap, straight down. For a moment, Xia Ruyan was slapped dizzily and covered her cheeks. Asterisk 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 asterisk, don't you dare. Before the words were finished, Xia Ruyan was viciously grabbed by Xia Bingyao's hair and slapped hard again, directly slapping her to crawl on the ground. Then without mercy, he stomped on Xia Ruyan's face. I don't mind helping you if you have a bad mouth. Crazy. You are all crazy. Not afraid of going to jail? Ji Boda covered his chest and didn't even have the strength to stand up. Shin Mo put his hands in his pockets and smiled. What? Are you going to sue me? Is there evidence? You have surveillance here. Ji Boda gritted his teeth, his voice trembling. Shin Mo raised his eyebrows. Clever, but don't you know that electronic devices will run out of power? Jibda was in shock. This guy is simply lawless. What the hell does he want? On the other side, Xia Bingyao ruthlessly stepped on Xia Ruyan twice before releasing her. The sharp pain caused Xia Ruyan's cheeks to start twitching. Horror had covered her eyes. Mr. Shin, slowly bracing herself, she looked over at Shin Mo. Obviously here, Shin Mo is the head. Xia Bingyao are just a deputy. Therefore, she was curious to know why exactly Shin Mo wanted to deal with her. Mr. Shin, I ask myself that I have not offended you. Why did you? Shin Mo waved his hand to interrupt and pointed at Su Zian, who had been standing on the sidelines. Don't talk nonsense to me. If there's anything, talk to him. Then he added toward Su Zian. Now that the people are here, didn't you say that you wanted them to taste what you've suffered as well? Be my guest. You'll be fine today even if you give someone a beating. When Su Zian sniffed, his fists unconsciously clenched. At first he was afraid of the two men out of instinct, but now that the situation has been reversed, and he's the one left standing, little by little, the fear inside was being erased. Hatred welled up in his heart, and he couldn't wait to eat Jibda alive. With that in mind, Su Zian stepped forward. Wait. Abruptly, Shin Mo called out to Su Zian, then threw a tight stick at him. How pointless to use this empty-handed. Chapter 28. You dare to hit me? With a tight stick in hand, the world is mine. In front of this absolute advantage, even Su Zian suppressed the fear and panic within his heart. He didn't know what the two of them, Shin Mo and Xia Bingyao, were really from, but since they dared to take the lead, it proves that even if this is the sheriff's department, and no one will come to get them, with all of his concerns out of his head, Su Zian couldn't care less. Carrying a tight stick, Su Zian quickly stepped forward, a fierce light bursting from his eyes. You dare to hit me? Jibadox covered his chest and leaned against the wall. There was fear in his eyes, but that was because Chin Mo was still here. This guy, he's probably not a small guy, or else he wouldn't dare to commit a blatant murder at the sheriff's department. However, that didn't mean he would be afraid of Su Ziyan. How could this loser dare to hit him? Wasn't he afraid that he would send him back to the Academy of Male Virtue afterward? I should just beat you to death. Su Ziyan had already reddened his eyes long ago, without any hesitation at all. He lifted the tight stick and knocked it fiercely towards Jibota's back. The sturdy and tight stick was slightly elastic, and when it hit a person's body, it would not show too obvious injuries, but it would cause extremely serious internal injuries. You know, even in the Iron Brotherhood, cannot resist the greeting of 3 tight sticks. How could Jibda, already injured, possibly withstand it? As soon as the stick went down, hysterical cries of pain rang out, echoing through the closed interrogation room. But that's not enough. Listening to Jibota's screams, Su Ziyan felt like he was thinking back to the person he once was. He had screamed so much under inhuman torture, pleaded for help, cried out in pain, but none of them paid any attention to him. And now, no one will come to Jibda's rescue. Bang! 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 The dull thud of a tight stick striking flesh echoed. Jibda's screams also began to grow weaker and weaker. Su Ziyan was like a madman. The more he fought, the more excited he became. Chin Mo and also Xia Bingyao had already retreated to the back and quietly watched the scene. And Xia Ruyan, who had been slapped twice by Xia Bingyao earlier, also reddened her eyes and shouted towards Su Ziyan. Su Ziyan, that's enough. Xia Ruyan was getting mad. Is Su Ziyan's brain caught in a door today? How dare you help an outsider against you? And it was surprising how hard it was to come down on Jibda. She quickly stepped forward and grabbed Su Ziyan's flailing arm. I said, stop it. Stopped by Xia Ruyan. Su Ziyan fiercely turned his gaze towards Xia Ruyan. What kind of eyes are those? Xia Ruyan had never seen Su Ziyan show her such a look before. Anger, hatred, despair, aggression. In the past, no matter how she treated Su Ziyan, the gaze he looked at her was filled with love. How did it come to this now? Hiddenly, Xia Ruyan felt a hint of heartache. Taking a deep breath. Ziyan, what do you want? How did you become like this today? And what can't you tell me properly? We are the ones who will be married in the future. Chin Mo and Xia Bingyao, who were watching from the sidelines, both laughed. Honestly, sometimes it's hard to know what's going on in the heads of these women's frequencies, full of love and affection, and doing things that are beyond, torturing people into psychosis and talking about being married. And at this moment, Su Ziyan clenched his teeth, ignoring Jibota, who was beaten and shrunk into a ball in the corner. A pair of eyes stared at Xia Ruyan dead in the face. With you? Have you listened carefully to what I've said? From before to now. When did you ever trust me? A year ago? I had a conflict with Jibota. You never listened to my words. You would only believe Jibota brainlessly, and even sent me to that place that can be called hell. Do you know what I've been through all year? Su Ziyan shouted towards Xia Ruyan in an almost hissing voice. Looking at the nearly maniacal Su Ziyan in front of her, Xia Ruyan's heart violently trembled. What do you mean? Is it hard to believe that those reports you made to the sheriff's department are true? Su Ziyan sucked in a breath of cool air, and even his steps became staggered. So, even now you think I'm lying? For some reason, looking at Su Ziyan at this moment, Xia Ruyan suddenly panicked a little, even hastily opened his mouth. No, I just thought that you made it all up in order to help them. You don't know. Xia Bingyao and I have a grudge, and all of our Xia family have a grudge. So, ha ha ha. Su Ziyan couldn't help but burst out laughing, but tears were hanging from the corners of his eyes. Yes, Mr. Chin and Mr. Xia have a grudge against you, and even the grudges, they know exactly what happened to me in the past year. While you, my fiancé, you don't know. He violently ripped off his clothes. The dense and hideous scars were displayed in front of Xia Ruyan's eyes. At this moment, Xia Ruyan could not help but helplessly red lips. How? Possible? Yeah, if it wasn't for my strong life, if it wasn't for my strong recovery ability, I would have died long ago, and it's all because of you. Su Ziyan's spittle sprayed on Xia Ruyan's face. This is not true. This is not true. Xia Ruyan took 2 steps back, eyes full of disbelief. Isn't that place an academy that teaches etiquette? And how dare they do this to you? She turned her head violently and looked at Chin Mo and Xia Bingyao. No, you guys did all this. You guys faked all this. Xia Bingyao, you have a cruel heart. Your happiness is ruined. Are you going to ruin mine too? Incorrigible. Chin Mo sighed. What you have in your head is indeed paste. Ironclad evidence has been laid out in front of you. That Jibda is on the verge of making your fiancé a psychopath, and you still think it's a hoax. It's pathetic. Speaking here, Qin Mo looked at Su Ziyan again. Also, are you a wimp? The person is in front of you and you're still dawdling around. Why don't you dare to fight her? Don't you dare stir up trouble here. Xia Ruyan didn't believe that Su Ziyan dared to make a move against herself, and then turned to look at him. However, he suddenly realized that since Qin Mo's words had just fallen, Su Ziyan's face unexpectedly became ferocious. What do you want? You're going to hit me? She pointed at herself incredulously. The heartache she had just felt for Su Ziyan instantly disappeared. Vaguely irritated. How dare Su Ziyan? This matter? I don't know anything about it. If you are really aggrieved, you believe me, I will find out. If it's really related to Jibda, I won't let him off the hook. Now that you've dropped the charges against us, what's the problem? Let's go home and talk slowly, okay? She tried to persuade Su Ziyan. You're really crazy. Su Ziyan couldn't hold back any longer and slapped Xia Ruyan hard in the face. Chapter 29, A Loser. Xia Ruyan froze. Su Ziyan actually really hit her. In the past, Su Ziyan could be said to have held her in his mouth for fear of melting, and in the palm of his hand for fear of dropping her. Don't say hit her. Not even by speaking out loud to her. The former Su Ziyan loved her immensely, but now, feeling the hotness on her cheeks, although the force was not as strong as Xia Bingyao, the slap was like a slap into her heart, tightly gripping as if to rip it out of her chest, making her unable to breathe in pain. Tears blurred her vision as she stared at Su Ziyan. You actually, really dared to hit me? The voice carried an indescribable, unspoken aggravation. At this moment, Su Ziyan still wore an angry face. However, the eyes deliberately avoided Xia Ruyan's direct gaze. Qin Mo, who was not far away, took in this scene. The corner of his mouth lifted into a sneer. Sure enough, some people just deserve to be abused. Master, doesn't this prove that deep in Su Ziyan's heart, he still loves Xia Ruyan? The electronic voice of the system resounded within Qin Mo's mind. Love? Love what love? This is being a... Qin Mo sneered. This guy Su Ziyan. But deep down, he believed that Xia Ruyan subjectively did not mean to harm him. Therefore, it's just a matter of thinking that Xia Ruyan still loves him. Thinking that Xia Ruyan was just compelled by someone. That slap just now was also because of the anger in her heart. And the eyes dodging. It's just a feeling that Xia Ruyan still loves him. And the inner dog-licking thoughts are activated again. But Xia Ruyan was indeed coaxed by Ji Boda to do such a thing. Xia Ruyan did in fact still love Su Ziyan as well. Really? Qin Mo gently shook his head. Love is a complicated word that can't be explained in a few words. But Xia Ruyan was definitely not in love with Su Ziyan. It was just a matter of liking and even getting used to Su Ziyan's unconditional kindness to her and pampering her. If you really love someone, you won't be swayed by the words of others. In the end, a person like Xia Ruyan would never love anyone at all. She could have caused today's situation because of Jiboda's tripe, and she could not trust Su Ziyan tomorrow because of other people, and other things. She loved, always, only herself. However, Qin Mo didn't make a sound. He wanted to see how the drama would develop in this scene. At this moment, Su Ziyan skimmed his head. No more. I don't want to trust you anymore. Once I trusted you, I was all over the place. And now, I'm really tired. You broke my heart. Xia Ruyan covered her face, despite feeling aggrieved that Su Ziyan had dared to hit herself. But still, he was defending himself. Ziyan, you really believe me, okay? I didn't know things would get like this. I also have absolutely no idea which academy would even treat you like this. Don't worry, I will definitely take revenge for you. Whoever hurt you like this, I will definitely make the other party pay 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Su Ziyan took a deep breath. Fine, then you use the same approach to Ji Boda and yourself. If it weren't for you, how would I have suffered? Ji Boda. But Xia Ruyan looked at Ji Boda, who was lying on the ground trembling. Ji Boda also slowly raised his head. Ruyan, I don't know. I just heard about that academy, but I really didn't know that it would be like this within the academy. You really don't know? Su Ziyan turned his head, storming towards Ji Boda. He roared angrily. I really don't know. Jiboda shook his head in aggravation. In the beginning, it was clearly you who told me to stay away from Ruyan, and threatened me, or else you'd let me eat my words. The day I was sent to the Academy of Male Virtue, it was also you and the dean of wherever who made a point of taking good care of me. And you're now saying you didn't know? Jiboda shook his head one after another. Slander. This is slander. Ruyan, believe me, this matter really has nothing to do with me. Xia Ruyan's eyes constantly flowed over the two men, and at this moment, she didn't even know who exactly she should trust anymore. On the contrary, it was Qin Mo on the side whose brain hurt from listening. Alright, grind it out. I'm so sick of it. What's the point of arguing? Su Ziyan, I asked you to come here so that you could take revenge, not so that you could push around like a pussy. What's the point of yes or no? Qin Mo disdainfully skimmed his mouth. This kind of thing, as long as one wants to investigate, even the Xia family can easily find out. In the end, it's just a matter of people. Xia Ruyan fiercely looked at Qin Mo, burning with rage. Damn it, don't spit blood where you are. The control is a bit too wide, isn't it? When these words came out, Qin Mo's gaze instantly went cold. How long had it been since anyone had dared to talk to him like that these days? Not only him, but Xia Bingyao on the side was also displeased. Qin Mo was the most important person in this world to her. It was the proud son of heaven who had stood at the peak since he was a child, and no one was qualified to be able to scold Qin Mo. Without any warning, he got up straight away, carrying the folding stool he had just been sitting on with a quick step forward. What are you doing? Xia Ruyan was a bit flustered and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. However, Xia Bingyao was too lazy to explain anything and directly greeted a folding stool towards Xia Bingyao's head. Bang! Instantly, blood spurted out. Xia Ruyan's entire body was jerked away like a gyroscope, as if the entire world had begun to blur. Qin Mo's eyelids jumped, then silently put back the pistol that was half pulled out of his arms. Bingyao, this niece's temper outside, was even hotter than she had imagined. Ruyan, Su Ziyan didn't expect Xia Bingyao to suddenly storm out. Startled as well, he didn't react until a touch of warmth tainted his cheek. That's Xia Ruyan's blood. Coldly, Su Ziyan felt a sharp pain inside. He doesn't know what's going on. Obviously, it was only right that he hated Xia Ruyan so much. Obviously, after this year of torture, he should have stopped loving Xia Ruyan a long time ago. But why? Looking at Xia Ruyan's hands, did his heart ache? Xia Bingyao ignored Su Ziyan's subtle expression. It seemed that he was not yet relieved. Clutching the folding stool in his hand, his face that was originally petite and cute in front of Qin Mo became incomparably cold and merciless. Raising the folding stool high in the air, he mercilessly greeted Xia Ruyan towards her head. But just then a hand stopped the folding stool. It's Su Ziyan. Xia Bingyao slowly raised her head and looked at Su Ziyan. What? Heartbroken? Su Ziyan was a bit embarrassed. Technically speaking, Qin Mo and also Xia Bingyao were here to help him. And now, but the inner torment still made Su Ziyan speak. No, it's just this one. It already hurts. She's just a girl. She can't resist. Ha! Xia Bingyao laughed disdainfully. Then, violently, he pulled the folding stool out of Su Ziyan's hands. Xia Bingyao was a genius. Even in this aspect of martial arts practice, she was a genius that had been recognized by Long Zhantian and other experts. How could Su Ziyan possibly react to the violent outburst of force? The folding stool was instantly dislodged, followed by a folding stool that viciously smacked Su Ziyan's face. Off. Punk! Su Ziyan was jerked over to the ground, and Xia Bingyao's eyes were filled with mockery. Sure enough, Qin Mo hadn't misjudged anyone, and people like Su Ziyan were nothing more than wimps, to put it bluntly. All of them were tortured like this, but inside they were still thinking about the culprit. Let's just say that everything was deserved. After a folding stool jerked Su Ziyan away, Xia Bingyao once again locked her gaze on Xia Ruyan. No, don't. Xia Ruyan's blood flowed wildly from her forehead, and pleading flashed in her eyes. But Xia Bingyao wouldn't be impressed by this, and the folding stool raised high fell with a whistling wind. Bang! 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 The scene was extremely gory at one point. Xia Bingyao acted as if she didn't know how to keep her hands at all, and every folding stool slapped Xia Ruyan's face solidly. Blood had blurred the flesh. Xia Ruyan's wailing also gradually began to weaken, and even her breathing began to be intermittent. Ji Boda was even more like seeing some horrible devil, shrinking in the corner and shivering, not daring to say a word. Su Ziyan was lying on the ground, his mind full of chaos, already completely confused. This woman, she was crazier than he thought. In a trance, he looked toward Qin Mo, got up with difficulty, and came toward Qin Mo's side. Mr. Qin, quickly tell Mr. Xia to stop. I won't retaliate. You guys let them go, please. At this moment, Su Ziyan lowered his head towards Qin Mo. Tears were welling up in his eyes and his body was shaking. Qin Mo rolled his eyes, then directly kicked him away. Don't bother me with the theater. Then gazed at him coldly. I have to say, you really deserve it. A loser. Chapter 30. You're in a wonderful place and you're telling me you regret it? Even after being scolded by Qin Mo so close to his face, Su Ziyan still didn't have any retort, and he gritted his teeth as he was kicked to the ground. Xia Ruyan's increasingly faint muffled grunts came from her ears. Inside, it was like a knife stabbing hard into his heart. Yes, he did suffer this past year, even tortured beyond recognition. He asked himself. At that time, his heart did hold a monstrous hatred for Xia Ruyan. He hated to let Xia Ruyan also taste the suffering he had endured. However, It was not until he knew that Xia Ruyan did not know the true nature of Witch Academy that this mood faltered. When he had just slapped down that slap, he looked at Xia Ruyan's pitiful face. Su Ziyan had to admit that he had gone soft. In the end, this matter is not Xia Ruyan's fault, is it? Blame it on Jibda's deviousness. Yes, it's because of Jibda's deviousness and cunning. That's why we're in this situation today. He and Xia Ruyan were both victims. The beautiful moments that he had once had with Xia Ruyan could not help but appear in his mind. If it wasn't for Jibota's appearance, perhaps today they would still be living happily ever after as they did before? He himself would not have been blinded by hatred for a moment, inviting Qin Mo and also Xia Bingyao to intervene in this matter. Then, at this moment Xia Ruyan would not have suffered such inhumane treatment. Thinking of this, Su Ziyan's heart was like a knife. Can't wait to slap myself twice. He trembled and climbed up, kneeling directly in front of Qin Mo, heads buried in the ground, voice choked from crying. Mr. Qin, you are right. I am a wimp. I don't want revenge. Enough already. Really enough already. Please, have mercy and let Ruyan go. Qin Mo gazed at this scene without half a movement in his heart. It's even a little funny. Indeed, such people are not worth saving at all. He's a lickspittle to the bone. It belongs to the category of girlfriend abuses me 1,000 times. I treat my girlfriend like my first love. The guy who cheats on his girlfriend and has to help push him in the back. It's not like anyone else just sweetens the pot a little bit by saying they didn't mean it, and all past hurts can be forgotten. Even groveling and kneeling here, praying for Qin Mo to let Xia Ruyan go? Even the system was a bit softened, as an electronic tone sounded in Qin Mo's mind. Master, why are you doing this? Xia Ruyan has Su Ziyan in her heart, and Su Ziyan deep down, also still deeply loves Xia Ruyan, or, to this point, it is not impossible to fulfill them. It ends here? Qin Mo laughed. The same responded within his mind. Are you feeling comfortable with the way things have been going lately? The system snapped, vaguely feeling a chill. Master, go to the small dark room for a few days. Qin Mo didn't give the system any chance and directly blocked all of the system's senses. Indeed, Su Ziyan was pitiful in this state. But, so what? What do you think Qin Mo is? He's always at SB's beck and call? Are you kidding me? The reason why Qin Mo wanted to intervene in this matter was simple. It's just unpleasant to watch. Life on Earth is all about an open mind. I've set up the ING stage for you and rehearsed the script for you. And then, when it comes to the climax, you tell me you're not playing? You're even going to tear down my stage? That's not as easy as it sounds. Qin Mo bent down slightly. Don't forget, you signed a contract with me. He grabbed Su Ziyan's head and forcefully boarded it in Xia Ruyan's direction, letting him look hard at Xia Ruyan's miserable condition. He slowly opened his mouth. The content of the contract is to make life worse than death for these two dogs. Su Ziyan could not argue with Qin Mo. Those eyes revealed panic. I want to change the content. Let Xia Ruyan go, as long as Jibota alone pays the price. It's me who misunderstood Ruyan. Are you kidding me? Qin Mo shook his head. Once a contract is set, no one can change it, only fulfill it. I'm a businessman and I don't like to break contracts. Su Ziyan was trembling, but he still wryly said, but, businessmen also have defaults, don't they? One only needs to pay enough money for breach of contract. So, what do you think? What are you able to pay me? Everything I have, as long as I can get it out. I'll give it to you, even if you want my life. At this moment, Su Ziyan completely strengthened his heart. However, the words that came out made Qin Mo almost fail to tense up. Your life? Yes, my life. What do I need your life as a lickspittle for? Don't be ridiculous. Your life isn't worth much. But weren't you kidding when you said something about wanting my physique? Qin Mo didn't answer, but only gave him a meaningful look. The corners of his mouth curved up in an arc, causing Su Ziyan's head to fill with fog while a touch of unknowing fear welled up within him. It's weird, like a lamb being stalked by wolves. And at this moment, Xia Ruyan's entire body was dying, half dead. Only then did Xia Ruyan stop. She understood that even though the Qin family was powerful, some things were always still red herrings. Qin Mo could bring her here to fool around, but this was never a prison. It's a place where people get killed. And it's an age where information is so advanced, and the other person is the daughter of a powerful family. Things will end badly then. The bloodstained folding stool was casually discarded on the floor. Xia Bingyao wiped a handful of bloodstains on her face. That's Xia Ruyan's. Rather disgustingly, he wiped it clean with a paper towel. Then he coldly glanced at Jibota, who was cowering in the corner not far away and was about to pee in fear. Opening his mouth, he said, "Don't worry, I'm too lazy to move you. I'll get my hands dirty. However, since the young master said that he would make your lives worse than death, he will naturally do it." She clapped her hands. At once, two sheriff's department officers came in at the door. Look at this scene of misery at the scene. Both staff members couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Xia Ruyan on the ground. Where could she still see her previous beauty? Bloodied and twisted. He was probably down to his last breath. The originator of all this, Xia Bingyao, however, still had a calm face, as if nothing had happened, and said, "I'll leave it to you guys. This man," she pointed to Jibda, who was cowering in the corner. "Let's just throw it in the cells of those horny prisoners, even though they are prisoners, but even two have to give out some benefits." The two staff members nodded their heads in a hurry. Understood, understood. At this moment, Ji Boda only felt a chill in his chrysanthemums and was completely nonchalant, and he wasn't a little cutie either. Naturally understood what exactly Xia Bingyao was talking about. "No, don't. You can't do this to me." Two staff members stepped forward and set Jibda up left and right. "Wait, little king, we had dinner together. Have you forgotten? You can't take me to a place like that. Anli, do you remember? You also received $50,000 from me. Have you all forgotten? Let go of me, or else my Ji family won't let you go." Only, no matter how much Jibda shouted, climbed up the ladder and threatened. However, the two staff members continued to keep their mouths shut, didn't even dare to have any interaction with Jibda. The Ji family? Maybe it could get on the stage in Magic City, but it still had to speak politely when facing their director. But who is Qin Mo? Even the director has to do whatever he says. How dare they mess with it? Chapter 31, Stalking Me? You're really drifting. Jibda was taken straight away, and what awaited him next would be an experience like no other. And then there was Xia Ruyan, almost on the verge of death, with more out of breath than in. He was therefore taken to the infirmary for emergency treatment. Xia Ruyan can't die inside the sheriff's office, or there will be serious consequences. However, being beaten like this, disfigured and crippled, is unavoidable. After doing this, Xia Bingyao took a step to Qin Mo's side. She knew that she was able to one day personally take revenge like Xia Ruyan and take revenge on the Xia family, all because of this man in front of her. If not him, maybe Xia Bingyao died that winter 3 years ago? It was also because of Qin Mo that she had the chance to be able to cure her eyes, with the opportunity to learn and practice martial arts, with the opportunity to be able to stand here today and take revenge on the family members who had hurt her. Sometimes words of gratitude don't need to be said. Qin Mo didn't like this either. Therefore, Xia Bingyao just slightly raised her smile and asked Qin Mo for a hug. She knew that all her life, she was Qin Mo's person. No matter if it was up the mountain of swords or down the sea of fire. No matter what, she would follow Qin Mo until the day she died. Alright, things aren't over yet. Qin Mo let go of Xia Bingyao and realized that this niece's eyes had been red since she didn't know when. Pursing her lips, Xia Bingyao gently nodded. Yes, it's not over yet. Xia Ruyan was solved, but the Xia family still exists. That Xia Hongjun, who abandoned his wife and daughter, is still alive, and that mistress Su Mucheng, who tormented her for more than 10 years, is also still alive. In the midst of this act of vengeance, they won't be able to escape either. Let's go then, to send the Xia family on their way. Xia Bingyao wrist Qin Mo's wrist and followed and left the security bureau. As for Su Ziyan, he hadn't finished his play yet. He had to see Xia Ruyan and Ji Boda end up worse than death, as well as the destruction of the Xia family. Only in this way could the contract set by Qin Mo and Su Ziyan be completed. At that time, Qin Mo would be able to get Su Ziyan's special physique that was different from the norm. So even though this is a play he already regrets and already wants to give up, but there was no way to resist. After leaving the security bureau, one could see Long Zhantian waiting at the entrance from afar. Are things done? Qin Mo inquired. In the past 3 years since Xia Bingyao left, although she was abroad, she had been commissioning secret investigations into Xia Hongjuan's theft of the family property of Xia Bingyao's biological mother, Su Qiuya. Nowadays all kinds of evidence have been collected long ago. Taking advantage of the fact that Qin Mo and the others were watching the show just now, Long Zhantian handed it over to director by urging him to file the case as soon as possible. This would make it easier for Xia Bingyao to get back everything in the Xia family reasonably and legally. Young master, are you still not assured of my work? Everything has been taken care of. All the assets under Xia Hongjuan's name are applying for freezing. Now, I'm afraid that old thing in the Xia family is already jumping around in a hurry. Right? Go, take a look, Qin Mo said. Long Zhantian immediately opened the backseat door for Qin Mo. Holding Xia Bingyao's small hand, the two of them got into the car. Long Zhantian continued to fulfill his part-time job as a chauffeur and sat inside the main driver. With a roar of the engine, Qin Mo's exclusive car drove out of the parking lot of the security bureau, started driving towards the Xia family's villa. Young master, where's Su Ziyan? Isn't that guy with us? On the way, Long Zhantian, who hadn't seen Su Ziyan, inquired with some doubt. Su Ziyan? Qin Mo looked out the window. full of concern. Don't mention that dead-licking dog to me. Waste my mood. Dead-licking dog? So, that guy won't forgive Xiao Ruyan, right? That guy, thinks that Xiao Ruyan is innocent and was coaxed. Speaking of this, Xia Bingyao also laughed, but he doesn't think about it. Ji Boda made up such a clumsy lie that Xiao Ruyan could believe it, and actually expects Xiao Ruyan to love him? Long Zhantian shook his head. TSK, 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 this person is sick in the head, right? That's all forgiven? He too made up? And well, that's not true. It is estimated that there is still almost a process, Qin Mo said. Long Zhantian asked with some curiosity. What's the difference? Car accident, kidnapping, getting stabbed or something like that? It feels somewhat familiar. Long Zhantian spat. Indeed, isn't this kind of drama a home run for most bitter dramas? The hero and heroine have a misunderstanding over some issues. Then this time, it's always the second man, or the second woman, who plots to kidnap them together. Or maybe it was a car accident. Then, let the hero and heroine recognize themselves in this situation. After that, all the damage that had been done was erased. The two got back together and lived a happy and fulfilling life. In his previous life, Qin Mo hadn't watched many of those abusive short dramas, and he was about to vomit from watching this kind of routine. A few people were having a conversation. Suddenly, Long Zhantian looked like he had discovered something. Said the young master, "Young master, it seems like something is wrong with the situation. There are cars following us behind." Through the rearview mirror, Long Zhantian accurately pinpointed the several cars following behind their car from amongst the flurry of traffic. Just now they've gone through several corners. The traffic in the neighborhood has changed several times, but these cars are always there. This basically confirms that the cars are coming at them. As soon as he thought of this, Long Zhantian's eyes immediately became sharp. Initial estimation, there are 4 cars that have been following us. Analyzing by model, 1 2-seater sports car, 3 5-seater cross-country, and there will be around 15 to 20 people at full capacity. Young master, should we tackle them? As the specter that once terrorized men on the battlefield, the Dragon King, Long Zhantian had absolute confidence that he could manage to fight 1 against 100. At most, there were only 20 people, and in his opinion, they did not pose any threat at all. Not to mention, there are weapons of mass destruction on this vehicle. Following us? Qin Mo narrowed his eyes slightly. They had come to the Magic City in just 1 day, and in such a short period of time, they hadn't gone to cause any trouble at all. That is to say, the person who came must have had a problem with them, and the only person with a passing. It's either the Ji family or the Xia family, and the Xia family is struggling to protect itself right now, which means this is someone from the Ji family. Ha, interesting. It looks like the guys aren't lunch pails either, and have realized that their baby boy's arrest is our connection. After a pause, a fierce light flashed in Qin Mo's eyes. Then find a remote place and settle them. Let's go. Long Zhantian stepped on the gas. There was a deafening roar as the car drove through a flurry of traffic toward the countryside. In the back, above a supercar, the man in the suit raised an eyebrow. It's accelerating. Get after it. Damn. Dare to sue my brother? They must be made to pay today. Chapter 32. If you really open it, you won't be happy about it. The blackened muzzle of the gun was aimed at the quarter wrestler. Not only that, Long Zhantian also stopped pretending. The submachine gun hidden under his trench coat was directly set up. Even Xiao Bingyao pulled out a pistol and aimed it at Su Muqing. Almost out of instinct, Ji Wrestling Chief and the 20 or so people behind Su Muqing all took a step back. Don't move. Whoever moves dies. Qin Mo spoke calmly. In that instant, everyone in the room panicked, especially Su Muqing. As a junior who was adopted by Xia Hongjun, although she had a little bit of heart, but where had she seen this kind of battle? Even her legs began to tremble. It was only until this moment that Su Muqing then noticed Xia Bingyao who was pointing a gun at her. Pupils snapped. It's you? Xia Bingyao raised her eyes to look at her. Her eyes filled with coldness. It's been a long time, Mom. Oh no. I should call you stepmother now, right? Once the title was so shouted out, but there was no fear and fear of the past, but instead, with undisguised hatred. Su Muqing's legs went a few points softer, but she also instantly understood why Qin Mo had taken action against the Xia family. The feelings are because Xia Bingyao has eaten Qin Mo this iron thigh. Ice. Bingyao. Long time no see. Not only the eyes are also good, but also no such a big shot like Mr. Qin. Xia Bingyao sneered. Yes, thanks to your blessings, otherwise where would I have the chance to know young master? Young master? Couldn't it be that Xia Bingyao sold her body to Qin Mo as a way to ask for Qin Mo's help in taking revenge? Su Muqing thought a lot in her head. However, at the moment, being held at gunpoint, she didn't dare to say anything more. If it were in normal times, it would definitely be necessary to sneer at it. gently pulled the sleeve of the quarter wrestling chief on the side. They have a gun, ah? Wrestle leader stared at the few people in front of him with a deadly stare. He did panic just now. In fact, it was reasonable to say that the 20 or so people on their side were all still good practitioners. There was no reason to be afraid of the 3 people in the area in front of him. But reason is now in their hands. Anyone who is not afraid? This thing, it's called the equalizer of all beings. Quartermaster Wrestling had also completely missed the fact that the men had guns on them. However, after the initial panic, Wrestle leader calmed down. Truth be told, guns were something that was difficult, but not impossible for a gentry like them to get if they wanted to. But the point is, who the hell dares to walk around with this thing all over the street? That's like beating a lantern in a toilet. Looking for death? Therefore, Shinmo's purpose of pulling out his gun was also famously clear. But he just wanted to scare himself and the others. Does he really dare to shoot? Once the gun goes off, it's murder with a gun. Who can afford that? Obviously, Shinmo was trying to rely on this thing to threaten himself so that he would let him go. The sleeves of his coat were tugged by Su Muqing, who was on the side. Wrestlemaster G gave her a reassuring look. Then, taking a deep drag on his cigar, his eyes suddenly became fierce. Mr. G, in all these years, has he ever been threatened by anyone? When have you ever been a wimp? When he got drunk and fought with the young master of the first family of Magic City, he was not even the slightest bit weak. How can you be afraid of an outsider guy? Not to mention, how could he wimp out at the moment in front of a bunch of his own minions, exhaling tobacco-scented smoke? His mouth curled into a smirk. Threatening me with a gun? Ha, you've got some balls. Looks like you really don't want to go back to the imperial capital. Slamming the cigar to the ground, he crushed it with one foot. Wrestlemaster stepped forward. Putting his head, he pressed it against the front of Shinmo's gun. A fierce gaze locked eyes with Shinmo. Like a proud lion, certain of his victory, slowly spoke. If you don't have the guts, don't play hard to get for me. Bang! The muzzle of the gun spat out a deadly tongue of fire, and the sharp, ear-piercing sound echoed throughout the abandoned factory building. The air in this moment seemed to freeze. Wrestle leader's 20 or so juniors, as well as Su Muqing on the side, all directly rounded their eyes at this moment. Dumbfounded, he looked at the quarter wrestling chief whose head had blossomed to the point of flying out. PSSST. The body of the quarter wrestler fell hard to the ground. Scarlet blood mixed with some white substance stained the ground. It all came so fast. It was also out of everyone's expectation. So much so that everyone was dumbfounded in place. A second ago, the 20 or so juniors were still worshipping the quarter wrestling chief. That ruthlessness bowled them over from the bottom of their hearts. But the next second, it all went up in smoke. The gun. It was real loud. And the head of the quarter wrestler is really blossoming. After a few seconds of silence, Su Muqing was the first to let out a piercing scream. Shinmo is a madman. He's really daring to shoot. For a moment, great fear gripped everyone present. The machete he was carrying in his hand fell to the ground. Despite the absolute superiority in numbers, there was only one thought in everyone's mind at the moment. Run. If we don't run, we'll have to answer for it. However, Long Zhantian as well as Xia Bingyao had already stared at them. The moment Shinmo's gun went off, it represented a complete escalation of the crisis situation. In this case, they can counterattack without limit until the crisis is completely lifted. And naturally, this degree was also up to Shinmo. So the two men didn't hesitate to shoot. The muzzles of the submachine guns spewed out a large number of bullets, harvesting the lives of everyone present as if they were harvesting wheat. Xia Bingyao was no better. This girl who had gone through hell and returned from rebirth had long since ceased to be the simple white girl she once was. Even if you kill someone, you won't have any psychological burden. The 9-round capacity was emptied in a short period of time. And by the way, Xia Bingyao also gave a shot to Su Muqing, who was lying on the ground holding her head and shivering, directly breaking the joint of its right leg. The immense pain caused Su Muqing to scream uncontrollably. And what really alarmed her was the fact that the 20 or so people were all slaughtered in less than half a minute. The misery of the scene was more than enough to make her want to vomit. Until after the last G family bodyguard fell to the ground. The pouring gunfire stopped then. Su Muqing's face was pale and she was trembling. You really dare to shoot, ah? It is hard to imagine that a young woman in her 40s is shrinking at this moment like a little girl crying out. Shinmo squatted down in front of her and patted her face with the gun. You see, this is where you guys falsely accuse me. Weren't you the ones who just said I didn't dare to shoot? Ugh, it's not like you guys are happy when it's really on. It seemed to have noticed one of Su Muqing's hands behind her back. Shinmo grabbed it with one hand, found that she was reaching for her cell phone and turning on the dialing keypad. The number on it, it's the number for the sheriff's department. Want to sue me? Shinmo looked straight at her. Su Muqing was so scared that her hands shook. Her voice choked. I accidentally pressed it. Only, Chin Mo, however, had a smile on his face and was not enraged as he calmly said, "Don't bother, Su, I don't care." Handed the phone back to Su Muching, but Su Muching didn't dare to take it. God knows, Chin Mo would be completely out of line like he was just now. What if as soon as she took the phone, the next second a bullet went through her head? Che, if you don't sue, then I'll sue. Chin Mo threw his cell phone to Xiao Bingyao. Contact the sheriff's department and have them here in 20 minutes.